This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
Wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakeland. You put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Raef, Hollywood Granger.
Now that's Jimmy Django right there.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
One game is very like another till the D6G reviews it, brother.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at the speed of a ravening second-gen plague-infested abomination with adrenal glands and a movement card. Today's edition is brought to you by our fine patrons over at Patreon, and that includes Christos Cursed, Matthew McFarlane, Scott Leffler, Travis, and Mark Spector. Thank you, boys, and if you're not a patron, go on over to patreon.com and check it out. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host today. Our panelists are Russ Recon N3219 Wakeland and third chair emeritus and all-around guru of things Gurunian, Raef Killer Wrath Granger. Let's begin. Woo. Issue number 1. In a totalitarian society where the illusion of freedom and happiness is all that keeps the vast majority of citizens in check, control of information is essential. If any situation should arise that might threaten the illusion or challenge the official version of reality and the infallibility of invincibility of the state, it must immediately be contained and neutralized before the cancer of free thought can jeopardize the status quo. In this never-ending balancing act, information is the coin of the realm. Question. What was the first private company to agree to work with the U.S. government in the form of the NSA's ancestor entity MI8 by handing over private communications for government scrutiny? Bernard Redmont Russ.
I'm going to go with Ma Bell.
Andrew Roth Raef.
IBM.
Western Union, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh.
Telegrams were the first pieces of information the MI8 used in their secure Manhattan facility known as the Black Chamber. In 1917.
Wow.
This has been going on for a long time. Issue number 2. Console Wars, Sega, Nintendo, and the Battle That Defined a Generation hardcover is a book by Blake J. Harris following the conflict that mattered a lot to a lot of people who were not me. The Clash of the Titans known as Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog is told in a narrative nonfiction story arc that has been relatively well received by critics and video game fans alike. Question. As Harris reveals in the success of the success of his first book, he is dealing with even more than the usual success, with not one, but 2 movies in the works based on the book. One movie project features a partnership with what major Hollywood comedy heavy hitter? Brian Reynolds Russ.
I'm going to go with Jack Black.
John Ramiro Raef.
Dan Aykroyd.
Seth Rogen, which makes you both wrong and relatively foolish. It makes a lot of sense. If there's one thing he does in movies almost as much as it smoke dope, it's play video games. Issue number 3. In geometry, a cube is a 3-dimensional solid object bounded by 6 square faces, facets, or sides, with 3 meeting at each vertex. The cube is the only regular hexahedron and is one of the 5 platonic solids. The cube is also a square parallelepiped, an equilateral cuboid, and a right rhombohedron.
Wow. It
is a regular square prism in 3 orientations and a trigonal trapezohedron in 4 orientations. The cube is dual to the octahedron. It was cubical or octahedron symmetry. Question. Many, but the one we're going with today is the analog of a cube in 4-dimensional Euclidean space has 2 special names, including the term hypercube. More properly, a hypercube or n-dimensional cube or simply n-cube is the analog of the cube in n-dimensional Euclidean space. But what term is used to refer to an order 4 hypercube? Descartes Russ.
I'm going to go with Tesseract.
Playfair Raef.
That's so easy. The Borg cube.
I hate Russ and his mathematical geniusness. Sadly, Russ is correct. But at least Raef is still wrong. It's a tesseract. One of the coolest words in all of science fiction. I won't even begin, of course.
That's nice.
Measure
Wow.
polytope, of course. But anyway, issue number 4. In military science, suppressive fire, commonly called recovering fire, is fire that degrades the performance of an enemy force below the level needed to fulfill their mission. Suppression is usually only effective for the duration of the fire. Question. In what realm is the effectiveness of suppressive fire judged? Russ.
What realm? Really?
Raef.
The realm of Numenera.
What?
In the mind, of course, fear, exhaustion, fatigue are the intended psychological effects of suppressive fire, which is not meant primarily to cause physical harm, which makes you both confused and wrong. That's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night. You see how I suppressed you?
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level. And by Conquistador Games, focusing on immersive and thematic games. More details at cqgames.com.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Game Salute, publishing awesome tabletop games through the Powered by Game Salute program, supporting independent publishers, stores, and the industry at gamesalute.com.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, and
Whelpisode.
It's already beginning.
Whelpisode to the D6 Generation.
You can tell Rafe's back. Welcome to episode 148.
The random waves have engulfed all of our efforts.
Of the
Welcome
D6
to Whelpisode 140Y.
Generation. I am the mispronouncing Russ Wakeland.
I am Crayage Galliant.
And I'm Raef Hollywood Granger.
Hey, Rafe, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have you back
I'm
on
in
the show.
the third chair.
Indeed. How's it fit? How's it feel?
How's it fit?
Feels
Does it
nice.
still feel
Comfy.
comfortable?
We try to keep it warm for you with various guests, so it doesn't get cold on you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, today we're going to talk. Rafe's back on the show, and Rafe and I don't get to talk much video games anymore, so it's fun to have him back on. And we are going to do a little tech talk.
Yep, we're going to put Craig to sleep.
Yeah,
Tech
we're
talk.
literally going to send Craig to bed,
I'm literally going to go to bed.
and we're going to do some tech talk. And then later, Craig and I are going to dive into Deadzone. We've been hinting at it for a while. We've been teasing it on the internets with Twitter and Facebook pictures, and now finally we are going to give the full, detailed D6G treatment review of Deadzone.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that one. I wish I could be sitting in on it, but my travel plans are preventing that. We don't want to hold up the show, so I'm going to listen to it from afar.
Now, before we get to all that excitement, first of all, we should remind everyone how to get the lost chapters. Craig, do you remember, in fact, how one could get to our extended bonus content known simply as the lost chapters?
Russ. All roads lead to the lost chapters. However, there are some roads that lead there quicker than others. There's the road through our website, for example, or our now favorite road, and that would be through Patreon.
Yes.
.com.
Right.
Now, we would like to point out, actually, that with this episode, we're making some more of the marked changes that we've been able to bring to the show because of our support from Patreon. We have now we did break I think what did I want to break 300? Was that the big last episode? I was like, come on guys, let's make a push for 300.
Yes, we're
we
307
blew past
now.
that. We're 307 now.
Right.
And my new big goal is I would love to break 100 patrons, because seriously, guys, that's
we're so close.
that means 100 people are carrying this show for everybody. Now, be a part. Come on, be a part of the show. Pennies,
And you know what?
dollars.
I felt bad
even
because
$100 bills a day.
so on Patreon
Whatever.
we have these cool stretch goals, right? Like they call them milestone goals on Patreon.
Yes.
And the first one was to get new bumpers, and now you've heard the new bumpers. We had last episode, this episode, and last few episodes. Then we had a goal at $200 an episode. We had a goal where we were going to reduce our number of ads per show, and that's starting to kick in coming episodes very soon. Actually, this episode might even have a few episodes.
I think, yeah.
It is. Then, though, we hit the $300 milestone, and we didn't have anything. The next milestone's at $400, where we actually do a live interactive typing chat room where we can listen to you guys while we record. You can listen to us live while we record. Yeah. That's coming a little ways away still. We got a little ways to go to get to that milestone, but we hit 300, and I felt bad. We didn't actually have a milestone for that, so I've injected a little bonus content into what's in the news. You'll notice starting last episode and in future episodes, I will include Russ's app of the week, where I'll give a small review of an app I like, a gaming-related app for either iOS or some computer game that I throw in there as a bonus to the news to kind of say thank you.
That's pretty cool.
You Bill O'Reilly.
I am, yes.
I have now gone and changed things to give you my opinion of something,
Yes,
and
it is good.
you will be thankful for it. Just
That's
stay where
right.
you are. No need to rise.
No,
Just stay sitting.
That's right. Because you care, I care. That's how this works.
And I would like to tag this to the rise in Patreon support.
Yes.
And clothe it in my thanks to you.
Yes. I am doing
wrapped in purple fabric.
I'm doing the royal wave. You just can't see it. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't know why it's pomp and circumstance.
Russ, shouldn't it be that you then give that free app to all the Patreons?
Well,
If I could.
It's free.
It's a free review, not a free app.
Yeah, no, I meant the app.
The app may not be free. I don't know. It depends on the app I'm struck with reviewing. So it's
see, there you go.
It's extra content because it's extra work, but we're more energized because you guys getting energized and Patreon gets us energized and to put more energy into the show. See how that works? It's like
and fewer ads. I think is a big thing that we've heard a lot of people say they want.
Yes, we're excited about that. So, what's it time now for Craig?
Oh, right about now, it's probably time for achievements in
Oh dear, you gotta Oh my goodness, that was really
fix that in post.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, we won't. We won't fix that in post.
we know when we do that, it's a joke.
Right. And Achievements in Gaming is brought to us this time by all of our great patrons over at Patreon. Thanks for helping support the show, guys. Without your help, this wouldn't be possible. So now, let's see, Craig, what have you been playing, sir?
Oh, I've had a lot of downtime for a variety of things right now, but I have gotten a little more Chaos Ball in, and I've been enjoying that. I'm still I'm desperately hopeful that we haven't lost the wave on that. Considering
No, mine has not even hit the streets yet. So
no, I know. I'm just saying, but I don't. The people that I thought would really enjoy it, like we said when we did the review, it's closer to 50-50 than I was hoping it would be. Mm-hmm. So, but
is Chaos Ball also by Mantic?
No. Cool Mini or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so I got a little of that in, and I was I've been away from Tuesdays for a few weeks now, and I was very happy to bring my low jog buddies back into the house a little while ago. That would be the gaming element of my wedding party, the male side anyway, and we played Deadzone. And it was awesome. We played a 4-way Deadzone game.
How did you structure 4-way? Was it 2 teams?
No, it was 2 teams.
Got it.
Rebs versus the Plague, and I had never seen the Plague in action before, so it was quite intriguing to me to see that in action. So,
now, did the stage 2s dominate that, or did you?
Yes, they absolutely did. Yes, the stage 2s. There was only 2 of them, and they both, they dominated the whole game. Yeah.
What's low jog stand for again?
League of Just Ordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So that's it for me. What about you, Raef?
Well, I've also been away on a bunch of Tuesdays. I've been hanging out with Andy down at his house. And so this isn't necessarily the past 2 weeks, kind of overall. And while down there, we played a game of Rune Wars. Ian came down one time.
Excellent choice.
It was so fun.
Was it with the
it was one of those
expansion
games where I
the
wanted to
expansion,
immediately play it again next week, which of course we didn't do.
Rune Wars is awesome.
And the gamers for that were Matt, Ian, Dave, Rafe, Andy. Had a fun time. Dave scooped that win in like turn 3, but it was legit and it was fun, and that's a fun game. Also got to play War Machine.
Ooh,
I
nice.
played my Vlad caster unit against Andy's Convergence of, was it Chris now?
Yes.
Cryos?
Cirrus, actually.
Cirrus.
Cirrus, yeah.
That's right.
I only know that because I listened to the audiobook now, so I'm reasonably confident that's correct.
Cirrus. Chris.
Yep.
Chris. Anyway, and I've been having a lot of fun, Russ. You've seen Vlad, but you haven't seen Vlad played as what I call caster Vlad.
Yeah.
So all he does, he's support caster Vlad. He hangs out in the backfield. He never rushes
ahead. You're not casting
with
Blood of Kings every turn anymore?
Nope.
No, okay.
Nope. So what he does is I've got this combo. I did not create this combo myself. Do you know about the boom howlers, Russ?
I know of them with blood. I have not you've not tried this trick yet, but I've seen it done before. Yes.
You have seen it done?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is so fun to watch an opponent's face crumble with angst over. You're like, wait a minute, you can yup, and then you can yup, but isn't that an order? Nope, it's a fell call, and do this combo. So basically what it is, Craig, it's a full unit of boom howlers, which are troll bloods.
Yes.
They have a good ranged weapon. They have the not the blunderbuss, but essentially that type of gun. They have axes. They're one wound, the leader's multi-wound, and then you connect them with this model who's a unit upgrade called Valachev. And what he does is he makes them Khadorian models. No big deal, you think at first. And he also has this ability. He's basically a solo. God, I'm drawing a blank. I don't use them. The Grey Lords. He's kind of like a solo Grey Lord. And he has these other abilities, but you don't really use those. But the ability that's really fun for him is he can move that entire unit 3 inches. And when he moves the unit, they ignore free strikes.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So that doesn't, again, sound like much. But let's say, I don't know, Russ has, 10 of his guys. I can run my boom howlers into them, make them a tar pit. And then in my turn, Valachez can say, oh, okay. They pop out of hand-to-hand combat. Mm-hmm. They can then, for 3 inches, ignoring free strikes, they can either stand, shoot, they can run off and attack somebody else. Right. They can shoot somebody else. They can charge somebody else. So that really frustrates people. And the Fell Call gives them 4, 5, and 6. They have tough.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yep. Yeah. So again, they can have this nasty combo where they pop out of hand-to-hand combat, you give them that Fell Call, and then you can give them the order to charge because a Fell Call is different than an order. So they're just really, really fun to play with and just really mess up people's plans.
That sounds pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot with Chuck lately, and I am A, looking forward to getting back, but B, I think I need to start like one Tuesday a month bringing my daughter out to get some games in too, Grape. So let me know if you have any younger gamers that are interested in playing some War Machine.
Okay.
Or if you're interested yourself playing against younger gamers, let me know.
You know, for a while there, Lou, he's 13 now. Yeah. I mean, he's in prime gaming age, but for a while there, he was really into Magic the Gathering about 3 years ago. Yeah. Not where he would go to a game store and want to play in a tournament or anything like that, but he was in a camp and there was a bunch of summer camp and a bunch of kids loved it, and that got him into it. Nowadays, what I noticed, Russ, is he doesn't have the attention span, so he thinks he wants to play a game, and then about 10 minutes into it, he's like, well, Dad, I think I'm going to go out and shoot some hoops.
All right, well, that's fair.
So he's in sport mode.
Yeah, all right.
But that's a good idea. I haven't done that. But anyway, you would appreciate the combo, Russ, and try to think of ways to beat it. Oh, and then I forgot. So because Valachev makes them a Khadorian unit, Signs Importance works on them.
Ooh, nice. Oh, yeah, There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so that gives them another ouchie.
As you may know, Stryker has got himself a horse. So
I saw you twittering about that.
We may have to, and it's out now, so we may have to have
another
classic.
Finally out, okay.
We might have to have a classic matchup now. Stryker on his horse versus Vladdy Poo on his horse.
You know what? I will take you up on that.
All right.
I'll pick a Tuesday, and I'll come on up, and we'll do...
I got to get them painted
We'll have old-fashioned blue versus red.
Yeah, there we go. Nice.
All right, cool. Also been playing a couple new role-playing sessions. Still continuing Savage World. We're in Episode 3, Dark Heresy 2, I'm calling it, but it's really just Dark Heresy with the Savage World. So we got Episode 3 knocked out, and I was going to tell a little story about that, but I think I might have already told that in a Hollywood Minute. So I'll save that. New role-playing game called Numenera. Have any of you guys heard about this?
I have not, actually. I feel out of the loop here. What's the deal with it?
The creator of this was Monty Cook, who I guess is a big name in role-playing. I apologize for not knowing that.
He's old school D&D guy.
Yeah, he wrote this, kickstarted this book, wrote this book, and the book is incredible. Russ, I think you'd really like it. The premise is that it blends, they're so far into the future that science fiction has blended into fantasy. You can't distinguish what is science and what is magic.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of one of the basic premise. So basically the Earth has survived. It has survived for 8 million years. There's been 8 civilizations for 1 million each. They've all grown up and fallen and have been destroyed. So you're kind of on the 9th world, and you're kind of like, discovering things in this kind of planet, and you don't really know what's happened. How and the current civilization has been around for 900 years.
Wow.
And that's the premise. So it's really, really a really interesting blend. They do use some interesting D20 mechanics. It's not a D100, and they just have some interesting mechanics. One of the interesting mechanics, for example, is that you just have 3 stats, and one of them is your like intellect or mental stat, and you can use that to boost, kind of like War Machine. Mm-hmm. You can boost your abilities, but it drains your mental stats. So if your mental stat's 14 and you boost, it goes down by 1 point, let's say.
Right.
And the theory is that you used it like a resource.
Oh, okay.
And then it, of course, regenerates.
That's cool. I get it. Okay.
It's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. So we played a game with that, and we played that with New Jeremy. You would also know him as Turtle.
Right.
And Megan
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Dave and Andy.
Nice.
And we had a fun time. And actually Megan ran it. So it was all a bunch of guys.
Nice.
And,
Very good.
And Megan did a great job. It was her first time as GM. She ran a session out of the back of the book, and she really did a great job for her first time out.
Great.
And that's it. Oh, and then one time Dave came down to Andy's and we played Magic the Gathering. Dave kind of just busted out some Magic the Gathering decks, and we didn't have to think. Dave just said, here, play this, and play this. And that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Very good.
That's been kind of my
good.
pulp gaming.
That's great. So I've been playing a lot of Deadzone.
Yeah.
I finally got a chance to play a few games against Plague. First of all, I played a couple weeks ago. I played against Tim, who brought his Plague stuff in all painted up, and we did a learning game basically there, and we had a blast, absolute blast. And in that game, it was really, really close, and it came down to one move at the end, one model where I had gotten to the center of the table, and there's you got to control. There's objectives you got to try to control on Deadzone. We'll talk more about that in the review. But
And this is the game that's kind of reminiscent of
Necromunda. Yeah, so it's a game where, and we'll give it a full review later, but it's a game where you think if Necromunda was fully realized modern times, this would be a game like it. So it's got full plastic terrain, it's 3D and goes really, really tall, and then there's all kinds of factions and orcs and humans and elves and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I'm playing my orcs, and I've gotten my big orc leader dude, Craig, on top of in the center of the table. There's a tall tower, and I'm on top of it at one of the control zones. I've got the other two control zones secured also. So I am but the problem is those two are just contest, but then the middle one's control, which means I got to get all the adjacent squares. So in this one adjacent square below me and below me and to the left, he's got one little weedy dude. And I am pouring fire in there, but I can't kill him. He's literally, I can barely see him. So all I can do is suppress him. And I can't quite kill him off. So I'm just suppress. And I should have ran someone up and just charged in there and killed him, but I didn't. I waited too long. And then he was able to, with his powerful leader, run the clock out in the game. And it ended up being a 6-2 victory for him. But if I had killed that guy, it would have been enough swing would have been 7-6, and I would have won by 1. So it was a real nail biter at the end, which was awesome. Then we decided last week, a bunch of people were going to come and they couldn't make it. So it was just Tim and I again. And we're like, why don't we start playing these Psy campaigns? So we've been jonesing to try this.
Now, this is where it's a negative when you have a gamer hussy like Russ as a friend.
Why is that?
Where he'll play games with anybody, and it doesn't matter who he's playing with. He likes the games.
Yes,
because you're all excited with Russ, and you get excited with him, and you're like, yeah, Russ. And then Russ is like, Craig, you and I will do the campaign. You're like, oh man, that's awesome. So you're at home painting up, and you're like, oh, I can't make it this week, Russ, but next week I'm gonna be all set. And then Russ is like, oh, so we started the campaign, the 2-man campaign.
No,
Tim and I are doing the campaign now. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fantastic.
We can do as many of these.
Hey, Craig, what are you gonna be playing next week? I'm gonna be playing in the campaign.
No, the campaign's already over because I lost.
Yeah.
So
well, there you
great.
Go. Not only that, but he played it to completion, Rafe. Did you hear that? He played the whole friggin' campaign to completion.
No, here's what happened. So
I hear the tears splashing on your models, Craig.
So we were just going to try it out because we're like, let's try this out. I learned so much from those two games.
Oh boy, here it comes.
So
here's the spin.
Because the campaign that's really cool about this is, and we'll talk more detail about it later. But basically, you make up. So a normal sized game of Deadzone is 70 points. But for any campaign, whether it's the side campaign or the generic campaign in the book, you got to spend 140 points to basically list all your models. But they have these things called, I can't remember what they're called. I call them unlocks, but there's a different term for them in the game. But basically, all you can buy is basic troops. Clearances. All you can buy is basic troops, but you can pick 3 clearances.
I was all ready for this.
Every different model type other than a basic troop is a spendy clearance. So you want the guy with a flamethrower, you got to unlock a clearance just to buy a flamethrower guy. You want the guy with the las cannon, okay, you got to unlock the clearance just to get a las cannon. So you have to decide what 3 things you're going to start the campaign with beyond your troops. So I definitely misspent, and we played the first one, and so in the first game I played against him, he never really got his stage 2 in a position to do much. He got close, but then I wounded him, and then his stage 2 has a chance to go crazy, and I went crazy and kept him out of the game. But in this one, his stage 2, I thought he was far enough away where I was safe, but he had just the right combination of cards to get him into my lines. And it went from, I was actually winning. So in the first side campaign, you got to find the secret thing in a crate, get it, and get it off your side of the table. And if you do that, you win. So right in the beginning, I had locked down 2 of his guys. I was beating him up really good. I found the item, and I hadn't lost a model. And all I do is run off the board. But as I fell back, I grouped my guys kind of tight, and then in stage 2 got into my lines. First killing my war boss, and then going through my guys like butter, and it was ugly. And I had the chance to suppress him. I actually had the chance, and I thought, you know what? He's too far away. He cannot get me. I'm not going to bother suppressing him. And I ended up actually just doing something goofy with my guy. I didn't even doing it. So I actually threw the game away by being overconfident, and I lost that one. Yeah. And then in the next one, actually, it didn't really have to do with stage 2. This other guy kind of run up and got lucky and found the item first, and then he had his leader with his command points get his guy at the table. So I lost both of them. What's cool about the campaign? Yes, go ahead.
And I know you're going to do a review.
Yeah.
But I won't be around for that,
Okay.
except for listening like a regular listener.
Fair enough.
So, in one sentence or 3 sentences,
right.
so we don't ruin the review.
Not 2.
All right, not
two.
2. 1 or 3.
One or 3. Is what makes this game work as a skirmish games that other games don't? Like, why are you guys, this is the fun skirmish game because. Boop.
So it's the only game that does vertical right.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the short answer.
Okay.
My second sentence, yeah, I'm going to go 3
That was
sentences.
1. Okay.
One. Second sentence, it has, in less than 6 months after launch, it will have 7 factions.
Oh, it's got the
Or
Russ
6 factions.
Russ factor. Okay.
My third sentence
and I'm
is-
on the website, and those are the Enforcers, the Plague, the Rebs, and the Marauders.
That's the first 4. And then in June.
Those are all available now.
Yeah, in June, the Elves and the Squats come out. I'm sorry, Forge Fathers and Elves. I don't know the
Asterians.
Asterians, thank you. The third sentence I'm going to say. So first sentence is vertical. Second sentence is faction diversity. Third sentence is, as Craig said, suppression.
Suppression. Okay.
Suppression is done best ever.
Okay.
We'll talk more about that later. So,
Missions.
and missions. Missions
the
are
way they
4,
deal with missions
and
and
campaign. Because
objectives.
here's what's cool. Even though I lost both these campaigns, these campaign games, and he got a lot of experience points on his stage 2, which became known as Steve for. Anyway, Steve got a lot of experience points. But what was cool was, so Steve walked out of the first mission with 8 experience points. I'm like, oh God, here I go. He's going to zip up 3 levels. And no, first rule, you can only level up once per battle. So Steve, even though he had 7 experience points, was no better off than the one guy I leveled up. So that was kind of cool. I did have a lot of guys die, but you can get free guys back if you're under 70 points. So that didn't really cost. They were all rookies. And I did spend some points to bring my boss back. That was fine. But also what's cool about it, so it didn't really get out of whack. The thing was, I discovered the initial build of my list I bought didn't give me the right flexibility that I would want later. So you definitely want to play a few games with a background list and kind of get a feel for what you're going to want in a given campaign. But I really liked it. I really liked that he couldn't run away with it. I also love the fact that as we watched after the 2 games, Steve game got powerful, but he also got more expensive. And
Is Steve the name of a guy you just called him Steve?
Yes, Steve is the name
That's
of his
hilarious.
stage 2.
Yeah, because
So-
you have to name all your guys.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So the problem was Steve had gone from 10 points to 13 points as he leveled up. And this was causing a problem for Tim because now if he wanted to bring Steve to the
Tim's
next
a real
battle,
guy?
Tim Colonna was the person I was playing.
Oh, Tim Colonna. Okay.
Yes. So Tim had to then decide if we were going to play a third game, Tim would have had to gone in underpointed against me if he wanted to still use Steve because he couldn't make the list work anymore that way. So it was really cool. Or he could just go to a generic guy, but then he'd lose all his level advantage against me. So it's because of how the leveling works, it doesn't break like the older Necromunda and Mordheim used to break, where you would just level up to the point where you couldn't stop the guy. Also, there's limits to how many times you can advance all your abilities. So it's I really, really like this campaign system. There's still a fair amount of luck in it and stuff, but it's not overpowering.
Yeah,
and I
luck's
think it's
always
really
not bad. Luck's fun.
Right. And if you get lucky and your guy levels up really powerfully, those powerful things you get cost more points on your model, so it still keeps the game balanced.
And the Nexus Psi campaign has an awesome mechanic in it where if one player is ahead of the other, the player that's down has an option of a type of challenge that's only available to the player that's down and is actually almost like a 50% advantage so that you can kind of like level the playing field again in this battle where you like in a desperation ploy, you throw your entire, because basically what you've got like double the number of points available to you in that in the area that you're having your campaign. And in every game, you can only bring half of the points.
Right.
But in these missions, you can bring everything you've got and you just dump it on his 50%. So like in a desperate attempt, you're trying to like regain the upper hand by sending everything in a surprise attack.
I love games like that.
Which is awesome, but it's also tricky because that means a lot more guys of yours can die.
Right. If things go bad, you got to run out. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's not a given, but it gives you that opportunity to level the playing field again.
I'm happy, Russ. I don't know if I heard you say it on the last podcast or you tweeted it, but I've always liked Ronnie over at Mantic Games when we had a chance. I think Craig and I had a chance to talk to him like 3 years ago. I've always loved the dwarves, and I'm happy to see our gaming group enjoying a Mantic game because I just think those guys rock.
Yep. Well, we'll talk more about that later. But yes. And finally, I am playing my Descent campaign. We are back on track. I got all excited because I saw
your new kit.
I got my new
kit carry-all.
My new huge bag I got
your
from
new purse.
Battle Yeah, it's awesome. My man purse of gaming awesomeness.
It kind of dawned on me. It's kind of like I never understood why women, have a Coach bag and then a Louis Vuitton. I'm the same way. I've got like 4 Battle Foam bags.
Battle Foam is Coach bags for men.
For men, yes.
Let's just be clear about that. It's great.
Yep.
So I got this giant bag and it's all organized and I felt like the talk of the town.
You don't miss your big plastic carry-all?
No, this is much better. And we played. We had a blast. Really close battle. It was an awesome scenario where it was. You would like this one, Rafe. It was called Through the Mist, and the Overlord starts with a token that represents a will-o-wisp. And
awesome!
And each turn the Overlord gets to move the will-o-wisp across the map, and you don't know where the exit is in the beginning. So as the Overlord moves this will-o-wisp, it's going to determine where the exit actually is. Here's the rub: because the Fluffwise is full of mist. The heroes have to form a 3-square chain, so the one hero has to be within 3 of the willows to keep seeing it. The rest of the heroes must be within 3 of another hero who can see the wisp in a chain, or if they don't, they become lost in the mist and can't move, and someone must go back and get him. But if you fall too far behind, the Overlord keeps moving the wisp, and eventually the wisp goes off the board and you get lost. And then in the next scenario, if you're lost, your party's all split up and broken up around throughout the dungeon. So it's really cool. It was a really neat scenario. I'm loving the new scenarios. This is the second Descent campaign. Really having a blast with it, and so more. I think we're up to
pick a lieutenant.
I did, yeah. For this campaign, I'm running the dragon as my lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
As my, I should say my agent. So now, if you get one of the lieutenant kits, they call them, it actually gives you the ability to bring an agent into certain battles, and it also gives you a special agent deck, which kind of works like level 7. You unlock these cards that stay face up all the time and give you powers you can use throughout the campaign that are not randomly available, just always face up, in addition to your normal Overlord cards. And it really kicks the Overlord powers up and should give you a good advantage. Sadly, I'm still losing more than I'm winning, but I'm having a blast. So
that's because it's 4 brains against 1.
That or I'm just not a very good Overlord. But in any case, it's a lot of fun. So I'm having a blast with it and looking forward to playing more of that. We are now at the interlude. Next week, we'll be playing the interlude.
Oh, I thought you meant with achievements, like we've...
Oh, yes.
We've hit the end or something.
No? Hit the end of the games played. Now it's time for modeling, Rafe.
Okay.
So, Craig, what have you been building lately?
Doing?
What have I been doing? I finished my first big push with Chaos Ball, so everything that was in process last time is done.
So wait, how many teams you painted total now for Chaos Ball?
10.
Oh my god.
Holy wow.
And so I have started basing and cleaning and priming and dry brushing.
Wow.
The next 4, which are going to be the ninjas, the Hellcats, the samurai, and the barbarians.
So that'll be 14. You have 2 left after that, right? Is that 16?
4 more after that.
Oh, 18.
There's 18 total.
Wow.
And 5 more, or 4 more, what are they called? The ringers.
Yeah, that's got to be the most factions ever at a game for launch, right? 18
That's
factions?
crazy. 18 right out of the bag.
Oh,
and they all work differently. And I mean, yeah, it's really, really crazy. And for Deadzone, just because I don't even know why. Oh, maybe because I want to try to get the low jog guys into a campaign because Russ has already left me behind.
No, it's already over.
I have put together and cleaned and primed all the models in both my Plague and Enforcer starters. And I even Joe, a listener who was a big backer of Deadzone in Vermont but doesn't have anybody to play, put it all on eBay. I didn't know he was a listener until I got my package today, so thanks, Joe. And so I won his Plague guys also, and they will be absorbed into my big giant growing Plague,
like the Plague
faction.
would do, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, you can hear it. I'm already got the Plague. So
yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's what I've been doing. What about you, Russ?
Well, let's see. I have also been working on. Well, I did a lot of work on my Descent new transport system.
Yeah.
So I got all that working, and I've started to prime some new models for next week. So I'll be getting those painted up. I'm trying to get some more. I'm all inspired to paint my lieutenant. The lieutenant models, by the way, in Descent are awesome. They are, Craig, you saw a couple of them the other day. I think they're looking really good. Yeah, they're really nice. So I'm looking forward to paint those. Then also been working on Descent. I got the second box. I think I mentioned it before. I can't remember. It's so fuzzy. But I got the second box of Deadzone terrain all painted up. The blue, this one I primed blue and then dry brushed it with Troll Blood Highlight from Primitive Press. And it gave a nice look to it, get a nice blue. So I got a blue terrain set, I got a black terrain set, and now I think I might do a red one because I have the third one from Adepticon and do that as well. So I'll have, and now it's been great because what I've discovered is I think the minimum number of terrain you want on the board to really have it feel full-ish is 4 sets. So what I've been finding is I've got 2, and then my opponents are usually bringing the equivalent of 2. So last time Craig brought, the landing pad, which is basically the equivalent of 2 sets. Yeah. Tim's brought a couple of sets. He's got painted up now. And when we do that and combine them, we get a really, really nice, good sized, nice vertical. You can play with less than that, but it definitely feels nice and full with that.
Yeah, the more vertical, the better.
Yeah, the more vertical definitely adds to the game. And it definitely, more vertical also reduces that whole hand-to-hand combat stage 2 problem I've been facing. I found that I lose badly if I forget to go up. I feel like I'm Wrath of Khan. He's only thinking in 2 dimensions, so I got to practice that more. But yeah, it's good stuff. So I've been enjoying that. Rafe, what have you been doing for modeling?
So you have to go up in Deadzone. Okay.
Yeah. Climb up.
Well, this doesn't sound like much of modeling, but it is for me because I haven't done it in a long time. You know how you just get in a big slump and you're like, I don't know where my stuff is and I don't know where my paints are and where are that anyway. So, June 6th is coming up, which is D-Day. Yeah. And around that time, my Flames of War crew and I do our annual D-Day battle.
Nice.
So we're having our D-Day battle on June 7th at Andy's house, and the players are Matt, Rafe, Stino, and Andy. That's the original crew. And we have add-ons of Dave, if he can make it, because he has British now. I don't know if that's
they'll look
something
very
to talk about there.
To you.
But they're even painted. They're painted by somebody who's kind of famous, actually.
Oh wow,
a Golden Demon winner. Yeah,
micro celebrity.
Yeah, a micro celebrity. Yep. And as people know, British did storm the beaches of Normandy, so that'd be exciting if Dave can come with his British, and Adam also comes in and helps us push models around. So to do that, we've always had a few stand-ins for terrain pieces. So I went down to Andy's and Stino was there, and we did more than just dust it off and look at it. Like we were actually like gridding out, like, okay, this is the table. How many bunkers do we need? How many mines do we need? How many barbed wire do we need? I have some of the Flames of War kit, so we were organizing that, getting that all cleaned up. And the best part is that I was there by myself. Matt was in New York City, which, by the way, was he with you in New York City, Craig, or is that just...
No, I tried to give him tickets to a couple different shows, but nothing ever quite panned out. And then when Karen's attempt to photobomb Zach Braff was in turn photobombed by Zach Braff.
Which was awesome. I love that picture.
Which was ridiculous meta bombing, which is cool. It's on my Twitter feed, so go check that picture out because it's really funny. Karen was like, he's too busy. I don't want to bother him. So I'm going to lean back and you just take a picture of him signing other people's stuff and he'll be in my picture. And while I was getting ready to take the picture, he saw what I was doing and came like right up behind her and photobombed her photobomb. Matt was literally 15 minutes away and it went right through there 15 minutes later. So we were very close to each other, but no, we never met up.
Okay. Well, so he was there on a whole separate situation.
Yeah, he was there for work.
Okay. Well, the reason why I needed him there is because Andy and Stino were like Russ. They were like hardcoring the mission, kill zones. They're lining up bunkers. They're like, hey, Rafe, give me that D-Day tank. I'm like, what are you two doing? I mean, they were like dead. I'm talking for it. It was like 2 straight hours. They were talking about each fortification, how they're going to bump up the barbed wire next to the mine trap so that my pioneers would come, and I was totally outbrained, man. They wouldn't let me talk, look at them, snap pictures, nothing.
Wow. Serious.
It's hardcore. I'm going to have a serious Axie
so did you lose?
Fight up against me.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But I have an ace in my pocket. Do you know what that is?
What is that?
Matt Alex.
Yes. Oh, well, you will, yeah.
It doesn't matter what planning they were doing.
It does not matter.
He'll look at the board and he'll go, I'll be like, Matt, I'm all concerned because they're going to have mines backed up by barbed wire, backed up by tank traps. He's like, nah, don't worry about it. We're going to run up through here. And I'm like, yeah, but what about it? He's like, nah, we'll just run through. I'll be like, what about the machine guns? He'll be like, well, we're going to smoke them. Oh, okay.
Right.
So it'll be great.
Matt will have it figured out for you in like 15 minutes. It'll be fine.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Totally. So I was trying to tweet him, text him, call him.
Well, we expect tweet lots of pictures, Rafe, so we can follow along at home.
I actually did. I tweeted about 2-3 pictures of a kind of getting set up. There's a big picture of Stino with his hand out because he wouldn't let me snap their little layout, so Matt Alex couldn't see it. Yeah. It was a fun time, and that was part of the list crunching too.
Nice.
So we were having some fun building our D-Day lists.
Very good. Well, what about other geeky goodness, Craig? Movies, TV shows, books, whatever.
Well, I've still got a couple hours left in A Wise Man's Fear.
That's taking you some time there.
Mission accomplished on that.
Yeah.
Credit soak. And I actually, in pursuance of my my Deadzone fix, I actually went and I found that you can find the Containment Protocol anthology as a digital download from Mantic. So. Nice. I downloaded the anthology and I've been reading that, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's pretty basic, what you would expect from a from a younger company as far as the fiction goes. Some of it's really, really good. Ross Watson has a story in it. I was very surprised to see very happily surprised to see Ross Watson had a story in there. So I'm enjoying learning a little bit more about the Deadzone universe, and that was about so I've been reading all the rule books and the fluff in the rule books, and now reading that anthology and enjoying myself.
Very good. How about you, Rafe?
I've been doing a lot of comic reading, and as far as Xbox playing, been playing Batman Origins on the Xbox 360, and the second episode of the Fables comic turned into a game called A Wolf Among Us.
Oh, how do you like that?
Oh, it's so fun. I don't know anything about the Fables storyline. It's made me want to go back and read the Fables, and they're pretty good. I mean they're awesome books, but I'm kind of behind the times there. So I just been enjoying the game. I like the game better. Like if I just played the game, I would feel immersed in the world. So they did a good job bringing in new people.
When you're saying Fables, you're not referring to the Fable RPG video game. You're talking about Fables as in the comic book stories about fairy tale characters who come into our world kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. The comic books are known as, I think they're just known as Fables, and then there's like a title of it, or maybe like Fables, and there's probably like, gosh, I don't know, 10 to 15 graphic novels or trades, and it's long-standing comic. And the Xbox game is called A Wolf Among Us.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And,
very good.
Yep.
Cool.
Fun. We'll talk. We can maybe talk about that more in our tech talk.
Yeah, I think so. So I have been listening to In the Plex. Have you guys heard of this book?
No. I think I have.
In the Plex is a nonfiction book that is the account of how Google came to be.
Cool.
How Google is run, how they built themselves, how they run today, all about through end of 2010 in the Google life cycle. From beginning till then. It's really fascinating. I'm reading it, recommendations from some folks at my office.
I'm going to go download that right now.
It's really, really good, Rafe. I think you'll like it. There's some parts that are pretty technical, but I'm really enjoying it.
I don't mind technical.
It's a great example, too. It's a good geek book as well. If you're into computers at all, and you have any kind of interest in IT or technology or how that kind of stuff done, or software development, you definitely want to listen to this book. It's fantastic for that kind of nerdy stuff. It is also a great deal. It's like 19 hours, and it's still only one credit over on audible.com.
I'm going there right now.
Audible. Definitely check it out. The best way to get Audible is to go through our website, because you help our show and you'll get a better deal from Audible. Because what happens is if you go to our site and you click on the Audible link in the corner, you will get offered not only a free credit, which is a book you get to keep forever from Audible, any audiobook pretty much in their library, but also you get 30 days free Audible membership, which lets you do things like buy all the books when they go on sale. And a lot of the books are there for like $5 for members.
It's crazy.
Really great deals. You can buy a lot of great books. And then if you keep your membership, you'll be able to get as many credits as you want to sign up for a month and use this for books as well as getting other great deals. And it's the kind of thing where just try it out. If you decide not to do it, you decide to quit, they don't charge you anything, and you get to keep that book forever. So it's really definitely worth checking out. Great fiction, of course. We talked about the fiction for a long time, but they have a fantastic selection of nonfiction as well.
It's a big, giant library.
So, yeah, you can't go wrong with Audible. Now, speaking of shows, you mentioned Fables. Now, this is interesting. My family's really into Once Upon a Time, or we were, I should say, which was a show that drew fire for being a copy of Fables, actually, when it first came out.
Oh, okay.
Fables fans are like,
right.
You're copying our show. Once Upon a Time, of course, is...
I thought Fables was a comic book.
It is. But there was going to be a Fables TV show, and it got shot down right after Once Upon a Time came out. It was one of those things. They're like,
I remember that now. Yeah. Okay.
Although its premise is slightly different, it's similar concept. But anyway,
gotcha.
We checked out of Once Upon a Time. They got lost in Neverland for a little too long.
Yeah, that's when I stopped.
And so we checked out. But now they've told my girls have heard the rumor that Elsa from Frozen is going to be having a cameo in an upcoming episode.
Really?
So now we've decided we must catch up. So this weekend we'll be catching up on Once Upon a Time. I've also heard from a couple folks who watch it at work that it gets better once they get off of Neverland. And I got to the end.
Is Once Upon a Time cartoon?
No. It's a live action show on ABC, which is the company that is also owned by Walt Disney. So this is a live action adult primetime show in which fairy tale characters have been a curse. So right in the very first episode, in the pilot, Snow White and Prince Charming defeat the evil queen and are about to get married and live happily ever after. And when they're about to do this, the evil queen walks in and casts a curse on them and the entire fairy tale realm and sends them all into our world. They are now all citizens in a town in Maine, but they've forgotten their fairy tale selves, and they now are all normal, quote-unquote, folks in this little Maine town. Like Little Red Riding Hood now runs works at the local cafe with her grandma, right? And the evil queen is now the mayor, and Jiminy Cricket is now a human, and he is a psychologist, right? So that kind of thing. So it's really kind of interesting.
Yeah, that sounds almost identical to Fables.
And as the show unfolds, you run into more and more of the characters, but then real non-fairy tale people kind of bump into this town and interact with it, and it's pretty interesting. And then different things have happened, and it's gone on major characters from different Disney movies, but they put spins on it and twists on it. So who was a good guy in the stories you've heard, it may be a bad guy now, and vice versa. So It's not always that who was good is now bad and who's bad. It's really interesting. You never know who's going to be who. Rumpelstiltskin is the main protagonist for most of the show, but then even that switches around a couple times. So it's really interesting.
Because like Ichabod Crane is like the leader in Fables.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. We're back to get into that again. Really though, in terms of the best new sci-fi I've seen in a long time, I watched Orphan Black for the first time.
Oh, I've heard that's really
I had
good.
that recommended to me.
How
is it?
We are now blasted. So one season's in the can. They're in the middle of the second season now. Nicole and I just caught up on the first season, fell absolutely in love with it, and are now just about caught up in the second season, and are bummed that we now have to wait for them to come out once a week, because you catch all up.
Yep.
Really, really good. The basic, very first episode, just to get you into it. So there's this woman standing on a subway platform, and she looks over and sees someone who looks just like her. I mean, mirror image of herself, dressed differently though. It looks different. And she walks in front of a train and kills herself.
Ooh.
And it was like, well, that's weird. So she goes over, but she's like a down and out.
Did you already give this?
Maybe.
Keep going.
But Rafe doesn't know.
This sounds very familiar.
Yeah. So then she goes and grabs
on
the woman's
the air
stuff.
though. I think.
Yeah, sure. It's okay. It's a refresher. And
Go
she
get a
grabs
drink.
she grabs her purse, and she's down and out in her luck. So she starts to check out where this woman lives. She's got a better house. Starts to impersonate her, and things start to unfold. And all of a sudden, there's more than one person that looks like her. Wait a minute. There's many people that look like her.
Ooh,
and
cool.
What's that about? And it turns into a sci-fi thing. It's really, really, really good. And the main actress is amazing because she's playing all these different characters who are completely different from each other, and she does a fantastic job. So the whole cast is great. The story's really good. Highly recommended. It's a BBC show. Really great. Orphan Black.
Question.
Yeah.
How do we watch it? Is it on Netflix? Do you have to buy it?
I watch, a couple different ways. You can buy it on iTunes or Xbox Video. You can also watch it on Amazon Prime. The first season is free to Prime subscribers, so that's how I first watched it. The second season you have to pay for. It's not on Netflix yet, so that's your choices. And then, of course, you can also watch it, I'm sure, on demand on cable if you have that.
Okay.
And I'm loving Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Craig, have you been keeping up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I have, yes.
So it's gotten better? Because when I watched the first three episodes,
it's gotten
okay. First of all, have you seen Captain America yet, Rafe?
Oh my God, that was the best movie ever.
Well, then you've got to go watch all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What's worse, Craig, is Rafe, what's worse is you would have gotten more out of Captain America had you been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And now Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has gone totally to plaid.
Yeah.
Because all the things happened to Captain America.
Plaid?
Totally to plaid, yes. It's gone to plaid. Everything
I don't know what that means.
Crazy that happened in Captain America is now happening in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D. fell apart in Captain America. So the whole thing, spoiler alert, the whole thing is now going nuts. So it's really, really cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to give it a try then.
I would highly recommend it. So that is my stuff. Is that achievements? Oh, no, it's not achievements. Wait, Rafe, we got a couple.
yes.
Yes. So as
One of them has already been asked, however.
Which one is it, Craig?
The one about the D-Day thing.
Oh, yes. So Robert Oswald, one of our patrons here.
He's a patron through Patreon.
Thank you.
You make them sound like they're drones.
Yeah, this guy. I was asking if you were doing anything special for Flames of War for D-Day, and you've already told us.
Yep, already
Sure.
covered that. Yep,
Awesome.
we're going to be having our big event June 7th.
Now, Mark DePlasi wants to know, he would like to ask how your self-imposed Cult of the New is going.
I thought I covered that.
I thought you did, too.
I think he's just running into the ground. I like this, Mark.
All right, well...
but he did fall apart early on, right? Have you tried to go back at all? Or have you been pretty much since it fell apart, you've been like, whatever?
It fell apart according to Russ's rules.
Yes.
So, like, if there's rules in the universe, it fell apart.
Or your rules as well.
But if it's correct. But
Or by
if
anyone's
in my
rules.
world of the spirit of what I was trying to accomplish,
Which is broken too.
it has been accomplished. Because I played, like, Rune Wars,
Yeah, okay.
and that's been fun.
What about all the new
playing
stuff you
Flames of
played?
War?
Yeah.
Playing War Machine.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
What about all that Rampage and other stuff?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually
What about Numenera?
played those games. Oh, yeah, Numenera, that's awesome.
That's a new game, right?
That's brand new, yeah. brand
So
spanking new.
that doesn't count either. See, so you're not. There in no way is the spirit of the rule being upheld here. Just
in
pointing
my
that
head
out.
it is.
Okay, fair enough. All right,
But yeah, it's been good.
So is that achievements?
Well, I have to say though, in fairness too, a lot of it is that I haven't, for other reasons, been there like in the masses for gaming. So that's been a lot easier to not like. I might really be interested in the new Mantic game, but I don't have an opportunity to have to really dive into that.
And when you say easy, you're still playing new games like Numenera.
Yes.
Right. So it's in no way easy. Even though you're not going to the gaming clubs, it's still not easier. All right.
To me, it is.
Okay, fair enough. Can't
And
argue with
that's
that
a world I would love to live in.
It's a good place to be.
I can
Well,
imagine.
Rafe,
actually.
Rafe, if that is anything, it is an achievement. And
Yes, that's right. Give me 3.
True.
All right. And that is achievements.
The D6 generation. Not as smart as Yoda, but not as dumb as Jar Jar Binks.
Right, the announcer is. Hello.
Ooh, that is our friends, of course. That sound means it's time for not a Duran Duran song. No, it means it's time now for our friends at Lone Wolf Development, folks.
The wolf has come out of its
And,
lair.
you know, these guys are producing great stuff. My personal favorite piece of software to come out of Lone Wolf Development ever. And I say this with the
I don't
greatest.
know if you can say favorite, but certainly
It is.
most used.
I'm not going to lie. It's my favorite, and it is actually Realmworks. I am in love. Now, all their software is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but Realmworks blows my mind. But now they've gone back and fixed my first love, which is
and
Army
everyone
Builder.
has one.
And my first love was, of course, Army Builder, because as a miniature gamer from old school, that's how I found Lone Wolf Development. I wanted the ability to quickly and easily crank out my army lists, figure out what little items were carried by each model, customize it, tweak it. If I had an extra 3 points I could find somewhere, is my list legal? Am I running a tournament? Do I need to make sure every list that's coming in is legal? Do I need to check every single thing, find all the rulebooks? No, wish there was a piece of software I could just type my list into and it would tell it all. And if I saw that list printed out on that piece of software, I'd know it was legal. I wish something like that existed. It does.
Bing!
Army Builder. And now,
You have made a wish upon a star,
I love the fact that they just kicked out
and now it has come true.
Yes, thank you, Jiminy Cricket. And what I love about this is that
Cricket.
well, I don't know,
Jiminy Cricket doesn't sound like that at all. Move on, move along. Somebody paid for this time.
all right. So I love the fact that now they've got the Army Builder roster viewer app that is available for on iOS in the iTunes App Store for free. And it has Dropbox support. So basically you go, I love this. So you don't have to figure out how to plug your phone in, download this or that. No. You go out, you have Dropbox already because who doesn't? It's free, right? For several gig of data you don't even need to use. You throw out there, you're an Army Builder on your PC, you crank out the list, you got your nice big monitor, you're checking it out, you got all your models in front of you, you put your list together, you click save into the Dropbox folder, then you go to your favorite gaming store, you're ready to play, you whip out your iPhone like you're freaking Captain Kirk, you hit the list roster button, it brings it right from Dropbox, and boom, you're looking at your army roster right on your phone. How awesome is that? Oh, it's awesome. So check it all out. Lone Wolf Development, always bringing the great software that you need to get all your gaming done, whether it's miniature war games with Army Builder, whether it's role-playing games with Realmworks or Hero Lab, or whether it's collectible card games like with Card Vault. They've got what you need with Lone Wolf Development. And now, what's in the news? Brought to you by a whole new wave of 3D printed custom meeples available now at bit.ly/bittybots. Check it out. That's bit.ly/BITTYBOTS. bit.ly/bittybots. Oh, and one more shout out I should throw in here because Wakeland goofed up the shout outs and achievements. What? I did not. You totally did. Anyway, shout out to Laura and Kevin Martin at the Wandering Dragon Game Shoppy. Thanks for providing us with an amazing place to play. Shoppy, that's how they spelled it. Anyway, and now the news. Up first, Twilight Struggle coming to pretty much every video game platform known to humanity. That's right. Twilight Struggle is undergoing a major Kickstarter from the folks at GMT Games. And since they passed their $50,000 stretch goal, they said they will bring Twilight Struggle to the following platforms: PC, Mac, Linux, PS4, Vita, Xbox One, Android, iOS, and Windows tablets. Whew. If you want to struggle for some Twilight, looks like they'll do it soon on anything. Also, in their recent Gen Con sessions announcements, Gale Force 9 has tipped their hats to the next expansion for the Firefly board game titled Blue Sun, the Rim Space Expansion, showing some concept art on their webpage. This expansion will, quote, the Gale Force 9 page, if you go to Gen Con, you'll be able to, quote, be among the first to experience a new expansion, the Firefly the game. Visit new worlds, meet new contacts, and face the full threat of the deadly Reavers as you venture into the new section of the verse. So it looks pretty cool, and it's going to have an expansion part to the board and add more places to go check things out. It looks pretty interesting. If you participate at Gen Con, you'll also have a chance to win Wash's Lucky Dinosaurs as well as Artful Dodger ships. Oh, and other news, Wakeland's excited about this. Yeah, pretty excited. That's right, because it's more Descent 2 expansions. If all those great lieutenants weren't enough, and all the recent expansions in the city, now Fantasy Flight Games has announced Descent 2, the Manor of Ravens. Basically, according to this here, you get to go into the expansion and you can explore a haunted mansion and battle the guardians that await within. The Overlord's going to get a host of new material in the expansion, including new classes, new Overlord cards, new monsters, as well as new relics, and you even get to summon a servant for the Overlord, kind of like the heroes can summon familiars. Can't wait for that. Oh, and finally, it's time for Wakeland to do his App of the Week. You ready, Wakeland? I'm ready. Here I go. I'm up at the mic now. Here we go, guys. Yes, so I've been doing recently in episodes. I've been doing an App of the Episode. In today's episode, I'd like to review the little iOS and Android app, Tales of Honor. Guess who turned me on to this game, folks? That's right, Craig Gallant. Believe it or not, he showed me a video game first. This game was he is playing on his Android phone. It also works just fine on the iOS. Tales of Honor. Remember our friends at Evergreen Studios? We had them on the show, a few months back, and David Weber was on the show, and they were talking about the new Honor Harrington franchise coming out, comics, graphic novels, video games, and, of course, the movie they're working on. Well, the first video game is out for mobile, and it is, of course, Tales of Honor. It's a pretty neat game. It is free. That's the good news. The bad news, it also does have in-app purchases, but I have had a great time with it and made it quite far without ever spending a dime. So as long as you're patient and don't mind waiting for things to happen in the game while you do the things, it's a great little time filler. The premise of the game is you are, in fact, a commander of a Manticorian Navy vessel. And you take this baby out into space and fight other vessels. Now, what's cool about this is when you fight ships, it's not about maneuver and moving your ship around in space. Basically, the ships go broadside to broadside. But what is tactical about it and interesting is you have various levels of defense for missiles, and then you have various levels of offense of different kinds of missiles. And so the tactics are the timing of when you are going to fire which types of missiles to try to penetrate your enemy's defenses. And when your enemies fire at you, how are you going to best leverage your defenses and your defense types to counteract that? You can even do cool things like roll your ship and interpose your wedge between the enemy. A really great way to get into the Honor Herring universe, Harrington Universe. And between battles, you then can go to each different stations in your ship, the bridge, engineering, weapon systems, and upgrade various elements and assign your crew, upgrade your crew, so you do feel like you're commanding a starship and improving your starship as you go forward. What's also cool about this is because Evergreen said that the style and art is going to go through all of their products. This is your first chance to really preview what the ships in the movie are going to look like for some of the various factions in the Honor Harrington universe. This is really pretty exciting stuff. It does actually feel like you're commanding a Manticoran vessel. I would highly recommend it. You can't beat the price, which is free. That's Tales of Honor. Back to you, news guy. Thank you, Wakeland. And that's What's in the News.
Hey, welcome back, and now it's that time again. It's that time when we talk about our friends Terrace and Company over at Geek Nation Tours.
That's right.
And of course, the big news, Russ, the big news that everybody's talking about all over the world. It's not the World Cup.
No.
It's not what's going on elsewhere in the world.
No.
It's the fact that the Geek Nation Tours tour to Gen Con has sold out, with Thomas and Stefan from Birmingham selling out. Taking the last two spots to Gen Con.
Congratulations, gentlemen. And we will see you in Indianapolis. That's going to be fantastic. Cannot wait to see all of our great friends of the Geek Nation Tours at that special dinner. And here's what's cool about Geek Nation Tours. It's not just for Gen Con. Whenever you go on a Geek Nation Tour, especially at conventions, they hook you up with a nice dinner at the beginning of the convention, get you a personal time with some great folks who make the games, design the games, sell the games, people who are industry pundits, if you will, podcasters of various ilks and stripes, all kinds of great ways to meet people. Ilks and stripes, that's a thing. It's like an ice cream flavor.
I know, okay.
It's a Ben and Jerry's thing. You just watch for the next one. So great stuff. Check them out. And Craig, if you want to see what the next tour is, let's say you really want to know what I've heard these guys yammer on now about Geek Nation Tours forever.
For ad nauseum.
I want in on the action. What you want to do is go to geeknationtours.com. If there's an easier to remember URL, I don't know what it is. Go to geeknationtours.com and just click on the upcoming tours link. And there
from the left.
There you will see all the cool tours coming up. Whether it's the stuff that's in the near future, like, well, they're almost all booked, but July, there's a couple things going on with Star Trek conventions. Now, sadly, Gen Con's all booked up this year already, as we just mentioned. But don't worry, there's Geeking Out with Miniatures in the UK, Tour of Scotland. What?
Heck yeah.
That looks fantastic. Maybe you want to go on Adepticon next year, Adepticon 2015. Meet us. Craig and I will be running around Adepticon next year. Can't wait to see you guys there from GNT.
Yeah. Busy.
Always fun. Big board gaming next year at Adepticon. Don't forget.
Yep. And, of course, don't forget all the different signature Battlefield series trips.
Yeah.
Feudal Japan, the Battlefield of Waterloo, World War II, the Britain Stands Alone. He's just, like, if you're a gamer, there is a tour you're going to want to go on.
Exactly right. And don't forget that also Essen, which of course is in Germany, is in October. So you can go ahead and get on the Geek Nation Tour for that, and not only check out Essen, but Germany in October, which is always a good time to go.
You
just saying.
Can't go wrong with that.
Indeed. So check them all out at geeknationtours.com.
Ta-da!
The D6 generation. Not as good as Lord of the Rings, but better than The Hobbit.
But The Hobbits has the lovely hobbitses. Smeagol. There is only one hobbits in the hobbits. There are 1, 2, many hobbits in the Lord of the Rings.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And now we are super excited to talk about Tech Talk. So, it sounds like a clock to me, but Russ, Raef, what's up with Tech Talk?
I think he's going to leave, Raef. I think he's going to walk
I'm
away.
hearing the microphone thudding
right
on the ground.
now. He's like, I'm out. Clink, peace. That's it. All right. So, Raef.
He's unplugged.
This is, so, we haven't had a chance to do this in a while.
Nope.
We used to do it like every third episode back when you were on regularly. And now it seems like we try to sneak it in wherever we can, whenever you're back on the show. So you had said, hey, let's do a Tech Talk. I haven't done one in a while. And you had
I wanted
topics.
to do it, yeah.
Yeah, you had some topics in your head. So what were you thinking about for what to talk about tonight?
Okay, so I feel like we've talked about the Xbox One already, and I asked you what it was going to do and what it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to talk to you about that, but I do have a lot of Xbox One questions. Mm-hmm. So I think what I'd like to do is give you the smattering of what's on my mind.
All right.
And then we'll pick and choosy which ones we like in the time allotted that we have.
Okay.
These are the things I'm wondering about. I think I last asked you about this. You know who the creator of Star Citizen is.
Yeah.
But you're not really following it?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to buy it when it comes out.
Okay. All right, so the reason why I want to talk to you about Star Citizen is I need some Russ Wakeland guidance in this thing, because there's already all sorts of stuff that's out. I get the email alerts on it, and I don't know what to do. Like, I can be in my hangar. I don't know where to go to get my hangar. I don't know where to go to download my hangar. I don't know what to do once I'm in my hangar. Then I think you can download the module for dogfighting, which I'm super surprised that you just don't already know about this and you're not already texting me going, oh my God, I got my Star Citizen ship and I'm freaking dogfighting and you've got to get this. Mm-hmm. So I'm just very surprised that you don't seem to be on the cutting edge of this game phenomenon, because you loved that X-Wing game so much that he made.
Well, he didn't make
800 years ago.
Yeah, he didn't make X-Wing. He made
I thought he did.
No. He made games that predated X-Wing. He made now I'm having a total brain.
Starfighter or something?
No. Wing Commander. Wing Commander and the accompanying games, starring Mark Hamill later. He made a lot of my favorite sci-fi space combat games, Chris Roberts. And I loved his stuff. And so he also made Privateer and other fantastic classics. So Star Citizen.
So how come you're not all goobing over this?
Well, I'm excited about Star Citizen, but it's not done. And what I've decided is I don't like games that are not done. I don't mind jumping in on a beta here and there, but what he's really doing is he's just launching little parts of the game, and the main game isn't out yet. And I don't want to get spoiled on it, and I want to see the full done product. What I liked about Wing Commander and what I liked about Privateer is that you put the disc in your computer back in the day, and you just be in that universe, and there was a whole universe there, and you could go anywhere and do anything, and it was just awesome. And now I get a hangar module, and no, that doesn't really do. I can be on my hangar. Oh, and I can go try dogfighting out, which is cool. But I don't wait. I don't want. I want it to be. It's almost like if you go and watch all the trailers for a movie before you see it, you've already seen some of the cool scenes, and when you see the movie, it's like, oh, here's the part I saw already. You know, I want to just totally be immersed in the game, so I want to wait till it's done. And I am hopeful that he's going to be able to get it all done at once. I think what he's trying to do here is, because it's crowdfunded, he's trying to go through and show he's making progress so that everybody knows who spent their money, that stuff is being done, which I respect and understand. That's cool. I want the whole game to work.
Well, there was this other thing that he did. I watched one of his, because I'm trying to figure out how to get my ship and download it and do all of it. And so I'm trying to read. He does a lot of, God, there's probably 5 to 8 different things that when you click the link of the blog, it sends you to a video.
Right.
And he talked about this really cool thing about a video game creation. Mm-hmm. And that he's worked for companies in the past, and he's taking a different approach. And this is almost like Audible book type of stuff on getting things done, or Google and how they did it. It's almost like that. And I thought of you because what he talked about was, he said he's worked for companies in the past where you work really hard on the engine of whatever you're trying to get done. Mm-hmm. And the coders are like, yep, it's there, man. We've got it. Its functions, the physics work right, but it's not complete. But to complete it, it might only take 2 hours. Just little, easy, brainless finishing touches. Mm-hmm. But they don't complete it. They move on to the next huge, very complicated piece, and they do that. And again, not completed. And then again, not completed. And he's like, and then you'll have 10 of those. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden there's this mad dash to meet your deadlines where all of the people are up till midnight doing all of these pretty easy but important, time-intensive tasks to get the game finished. And what he says he's doing with his workers is he's like, no, we work on it all the way to the end. We do not abandon it until it is complete. And I'm like, and he's like, it's making it so much easier as we draw near the end, because we don't look back and go, oh God, we got to finish it. He goes, it's finished. Right. And we just have to plug it in.
There's no,
and I'm like, he's like, it's just a different way of working.
Right. There's no, as we would say, technical debt. He's all caught up. Right.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's good.
And I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That he was just talking about that. What do you think? Have you heard about that? Not in this game per se, but is this a sort of modern way to deal, or an innovative way? Or you're like, no, not really.
Well, there's
those other companies were dumb to do it that way.
To code. Well, depends how you look at it, right? There's different ways to code, and Agile's a big thing right now. And depending on how you define Agile,
that's what he called it. He called it Agile.
Yeah. So there's 2 ways. There's different interpretations of Agile, but basically the idea of Agile is you slice everything you're working on into small deliverable chunks, and you make sure that chunk delivers some value to whoever you're building it for. And when you don't you don't call it completed until it's done. But some companies interpret that to mean it can at least work a little bit, and I'll come back on another pass and finish the last little bit later. And it sounds like what he's done with his agile interpretation is say that the deliverable chunk is done when it's completely done, and there's no additional technical debt involved with this chunk. And then I would move on to the next chunk. What other companies might say is, do all the hard parts first. Don't worry about the polish, because then you've taken all the technical challenges out, and then you know how much little stuff you have left. But that works great if there's no owner imposed deadline at the end. What it sounds like, what's cool about his situation is because he's self funded and all the money's in the bank, he doesn't have that. We've got a launch, we're making no money, because other companies are like funded by investors.
That's what he was saying.
Sitting, so he's got a different. So that's really a powerful way.
He was saying, because I don't have to explain anything to marketing, I don't have to explain anything to sales, I don't have to get anything done because marketing wants to show a trailer. None of that. He just has to make. So
what he's doing is he's finishing in his agile play here. He's finishing his chunk of work, which is like the hanger module, and then he's able to show it to what we would call in the software development to his stakeholders, which in this case are the end users who funded him. And he's saying, look, you funded me. Here is the perfect, completely polished, ready to ship hanger module. Now, without my point was, that's cool, but
no, I know what you were saying.
I can't play with it, but it's still got value, because if someone wants to know how he's doing, they can see. So he is kind of reporting to his stakeholders. He's reporting to the users who fund him. I think it's really interesting. It's a cool way. I think it's the right agile approach, and that is you do till you're done. You try to have very little technical debt. So it sounds like he's doing a good thing. It's from a development point of view, and it sounds like he's doing a really cool thing from a right by his people too. So I can't wait. I just don't want to spoil it for myself. So I'm just waiting for the final product.
Well, it's funny. I wanted to have this on a bullet point, and I didn't write it. I've decided the same thing with Steam, with the ability to jump into a game before it's completely done.
Yep.
And I've regretted it.
Yep.
I've done it with Prison Architect. That game is awesome. You buy in early. It's not a JIP. Okay. It's definitely a functioning enough game for your value, and you get a discounted value. But because the game is not done, I'm finding it not as fun. I just want to play the finished game. I want all the missions to be there. I don't want to have to do plugins, and I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to wait till the game is done.
Yeah, I had the same problem.
I don't like it.
Rose and I found a game at PAX East, and it was you could pre-purchase it, right? And you got to try it early, and it was early beta, and we were all excited. She got home, and we tried to use it. It was very hard because the UI wasn't polished and things weren't quite finished, and you could see where they were going with it, but it kind of burnt her out. And now the problem is going to be like she went from I can't wait till it comes out, I'm going to buy it, to she bought it early at a reduced rate, but now she doesn't like it because it doesn't do everything she expected.
Yep.
And now when it comes out, she won't care because it's gone. So I don't know that this model of selling it halfway is entirely smart. It gets them money early, but unless it's really polished, if it's a demo with like one good level and the level's complete, that's one thing. But these are things that are like not all the functionality is complete, and you're kind of
and that's what it is with Prison Architect. There'll be a little thing when you download it. It's like, hey, we haven't. Like when I was playing it, they didn't know how to get rid of dead bodies.
Right.
So your prisoners would kill guards and whatever, and the guard would just be stuck there the whole game. And you can still build around it and put a chair on it and all that, but it just was weird. I'm like, no, I want the dead bodies to go away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right. What did you? Where are we with the War Machine tactic game? Is it about to release? I know you get to play a version of it at PAX.
Yeah. So if you backed the Kickstarter, which I did
back it.
You probably got your stuff in the mail, right?
I did, but I got the wrong thing somehow.
Oh, I got the right stuff. I got my all the Warcasters I wanted. I got the coins. I got everything I wanted.
I got the coin and the Signar Warcaster by mistake.
Oh, oops! You probably checked the wrong one, or maybe they just got confused.
I think I might have checked the wrong one.
Email them. They'll make you whole.
I did, and I even admitted. I said I think it might have been me, and they were like, "Oh, no problem. We'll take care of it."
Cool. So I got that, which is awesome. I'm really pleased with the sculpt. Really pleased with the coins and everything like that. I did get to play it at PAX East, and I have to say, it was an early build, right? But it looked great, and it was fun. They were talking about how it was great to see the developers there interacting with the War Machine fans and watching their reaction. So we'd go up there and we'd play.
That's interesting.
And they were talking about some of the spells and how the spells work slightly differently in the computer game than they do in the board game, and it was freaking people out. Like they're like, that's wrong. That's just wrong. And they were taking good notes. They're like, oh, we're going to fix that then. And they were seeing where people were reacting. It was bothering them, like how certain things like disruption were working. Disruption wasn't working quite the way it does in War Machine. And like, that's wrong. You can't still get focus, kind of thing. And so they were kind of fixing that stuff. And it was like, it had the same similar themed effect, but people want it to be exactly the same because it's turn-based and feels so much like War Machine. They really want it to be the digital version of War Machine. It looks fantastic. It was fun to see the jacks moving. It was really cool. The terrain and artwork is spot on.
So I'm a little bit confused because I think I might be remembering what Matt Wilson talked to us about like 3 years ago or something. Are you a Warcaster controlling a bunch of jacks? Or is it more a real-time strategy game?
It's not. Don't forget, it's neither of those things. It's not what he described back 3 years ago. It's not what they announced 3 years ago. It is a turn-based tactical game. Not
like XCOM.
Yes, it is not real-time. It is not a first-person shooter. It is a top-down isometric view like XCOM where you control each of your models. Each model has a turn. You click him. You tell where you're going to go. You pick his type of action. You do it. You move on to your next model. You activate your side. It's War Machine, essentially, in a video game format. That's what I saw when I played with it. It was awesome. And you can zoom really in close, though, and look like down at the level of the war jacket.
But it's mission-based. You're not like fighting your enemy, right?
No, it's mission. Well, you're fighting people, but it's mission-based. Yeah, right. And there's a multiplayer mode, so you can play 2 players, stuff like that. Yeah, and there's a story, there's a campaign, all that stuff. Yeah, looks good. Looks really
When's
good.
It supposed to come out?
I can't remember. I want to say it's next. I don't think is this fall. I think it's next spring. But it might be as soon as fall. But you'll be able to see it at Gen Con. I'm sure they'll have the demos going at Gen Con. It'll be far more polished than it was at PAX. But yeah, really impressed with it. I am nothing but excited and very, very confident it's going to be what everybody's hoping for when they get it.
Okay.
So,
the second thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Xbox One.
Yeah.
And I was going to explain my opinion of it so far and then see if you shared it or disagreed with it.
all right.
So I remember having the Xbox and you raving to me about the Xbox 360 and that I had to go out and get it, and we played Oblivion. Mm-hmm. And you were like, oh my gosh, just awesome, and the grass would move and it was really cool and the dungeons. And I went out and I got the 360 and I found it to be a revolutionized gaming experience. Mm-hmm. And there was just no doubt in my mind, 800 times better than the Xbox, had to do it. Mm-hmm. So I have a 360 and I have not bought the one. I have seen Andy's one. I've seen Dave play his one. Mm-hmm. I've seen, what's the game where you jump out of the big giant mech?
Titanfall.
Yeah, Titanfall. I've seen Titanfall, and yes, Titanfall looks absolutely
you can play
beautiful,
Titanfall,
amazing.
Right?
And the graphics do look beautiful and amazing.
Yep.
But I've suddenly found myself to be in that category of gamer that I remember my friends being like, I'm not going to get the 360, Rafe. I've got a perfectly good Xbox. It works. I've got all these games I still haven't played. And I'm like, you guys are on crack because the 360 is just awesome. But now I've become that gamer. I have my 360. Andy's like, watch this. And he talks to the Xbox One and it pauses and it plays and he opens Netflix. And I'm like, I could care less. I'm just as happy with my buddy. I don't need the controller. I don't care. And, you know, I'm big into the Walking Dead game, which is on the 360. I bought the whole season. Mm-hmm. So that means when every episode comes out, I'll just get them. And the same with Fables.
Right.
So I'm like, even if I went out and got a one now, I'd have to keep my 360 on my shelf.
Yeah, you would.
And I don't know why, but that just bugs me.
Well, so here's my thinking on this. So
yeah, I got some more on this, but go ahead.
Well, here's the problem. I like my Xbox One as well. It's got a lot of great new hardware features. Some of the games are great, but actually all the games on it are great. It plays games great. I love watching video on it. Nicole and I and my family watched a lot of video, and
so do I.
We cut cable, so we watch all of our video through a set-top box, and that set-top box was an Xbox 360, and now in the living room, it is the Xbox One. I still have 360s in the bedroom and the family room for video, but also the kids play on those. And I have to say, the video experience is much better on the one. It's much faster. It's shifting between Netflix to Hulu and all that stuff.
Yeah, that is pretty slow.
Which is great. It's instant on the Xbox One. And the Xbox One remembers things. Like, you can pause a game and turn the Xbox One off, and when you turn it back on again, the game or video is back where you left it. Like, it doesn't have to reboot all that stuff, which is pretty crazy. Because it only goes to partial sleep like a PC, it doesn't go all the way off, which is fine. And that's all awesome. But if I'm honest, I think the biggest problem they have today is there is no exclusives, essentially, no great exclusives on either the PS4 or the Xbox One.
Right.
Because even
like Oblivion was.
Well, even Titanfall. You could go buy Titanfall for the Xbox 360 tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's on the 360. It released 30 days after it came out on the Xbox One. So why would someone go pay $600 if they really wanted, or it's $500, really, really wanted Titanfall, and they didn't care about the slight graphic improvements, because it does look better on the Xbox One, but it functionally plays the same. Same is true.
If I had a 360 Titanfall, could I play with you on live on the One?
No, you can't. You have to. It's only. Yeah, you can't do that. But same is true with a lot of the other big games. Assassin's Creed Black Flag was on all the systems: PS4 and Xbox One and Xbox and PS3 and Xbox 360. And a lot of the other big games coming out: Watch Dogs on all the platforms, last gen and next gen. Destiny, the new Bungie game, on all the platforms, last gen and next gen. So there isn't a lot of games that are exclusive to either the PS4 or the Xbox One. And I don't mean just Sony versus Microsoft. I mean on legacy platform versus next platform. There's not a lot of compelling reasons to go over. And what makes this generation feel like to me is it feels more like buying a new gaming PC, where your current gaming PC can run the games, but they just run maybe a little slower. You have to have the graphic resolution set down a little bit. And if you bought a new PC, the games would run a little faster and be a little cleaner and have that much higher resolution. But you don't really need it yet, right? That's what's happening with this. Right now, you definitely get more leaves on the trees and, cooler looks, and things may run a little smoother, higher frames per second, and you don't notice any lag at all in Titanfall and things like that. But you can still play and have fun with Titanfall on a 360. And that's what it really is the difference, unless you really want those other little features that are fun, like video. But even those, they're great, but my 360 is still serviceable. I do go, like when I go to the bedroom and start watching shows in the evening after I've been watching on the Xbox One, I notice what's missing. I'm like, oh, it's so much slower to switch, but it's not so much that I'm like, I'm going to drop $500 to put an Xbox One in my bedroom. It's not that good.
That's how I felt.
So it's, and you can,
and I get it that the games, they're going to want to make games that can only be on the One, but it just bugs me that because Fables and The Walking Dead are live games, that I can't, if I did want to spend the now $400 on the One, I can't then just upload the live games to the One.
Well, that's
for some reason that bothers me.
Well, they didn't do backward compatibility at all in the Xbox One, and they didn't do it Sony either. And they did do that back on the Xbox 360. And I have to say, there are several games that I still own that are original Xbox games that we still play on the Xbox 360. For example, the most played game ever in my house is actually Barbie Horse Adventures, which my daughters got on the original Xbox when they were very young. Like 3 years old, I play with my oldest daughter. And every once in a while, she'll just bring this game out. She's 11 now, and she'll play Barbie Horse Adventures beginning and end. Just boom, right on Xbox 360. Still works. The other one is Wrath Unleashed, which is one of the most underrated games ever released for the original Xbox. Wrath Unleashed. If you're old enough to remember Archon, and when I say Archon, you go, oh my God, that game was awesome. You need to go out and find a $7 used copy of Wrath Unleashed from the original Xbox. It's by LucasArts, actually. Get that game. It is a 4-player version of Archon, all updated. Archon's basically a chess-like game, but when your pieces go to take each other, it zooms in and you actually fight like a fighting game. Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Game. Wrath Unleashed is like an updated version with all kinds of cool pieces. Anyway, Wrath Unleashed, another great game. I can pop it out and put it on my 360, even though it's an Xbox One era game. When Xbox original. Xbox One now decided not to do backward compatibility for whatever reason. I was really bummed that the arcade titles didn't translation over either. You're right, because I have a bunch of those, Rafe, and my daughters still play those. So I have an Xbox 360 in the family room. That's not going away anytime soon. I'm not going to replace it with an Xbox One, even if money were no object, because I need an Xbox 360 to play those classic games for my kids. They still love them. Minecraft's not out for the Xbox One yet. It's still on the 360. They got to play that, and it's not backward compatible. So
that's like Castle Crashers or any of that.
Castle Crashers, all that stuff doesn't translate forward. So
now why'd they do that? Technology-wise, would it really be that hard? I don't get it.
It's an architecture thing. So they enhance the chipsets, and sometimes when you do that, it makes the language you got to code in differently, and there's different APIs and a lot of technical reasons. I mean, I get it. I understand why you got to do it, but they could have. The Xbox One is so fast that I don't feel like they couldn't have put a translation OS or something in there and an engine on top and had it worked anyway. I'm not really sure. They did it for the 360 to the original Xbox. I personally paid $50 more to have that feature. Maybe not everybody would, but I would have. To be honest, I like the Kinect. I love the voice control of the Xbox, but I would have settled. I would rather have backward compatibility and then had to pay extra for the Kinect than have the Kinect built in and not have backward compatibility. That's just me. Now again, I bought it anyway, and they've got me, and I'm happy. And the other thing about it is I've talked to my friends who own the Xbox One, and they all love it. There's nobody has any regrets. It's just that there's not a killer app to get you over to it yet. That's the thing.
Yep. Is there one on the horizon?
I was looking at the game list I was excited about, so I was thinking about this, and here's some games I'm excited about. Sunset Overdrive is the one game that's Xbox One exclusive that actually looks really cool.
That's a driving game?
No, it's called Overdrive. It's by the guys who originally did Jet Set Radio Future, which was an Xbox One. Xbox. It sucks because the original Xbox has a number after it, so it's the original Xbox, but I keep calling one. So the Xbox original, I think, had it, or was it a 360? I can't remember. Anyway, that game was like a rollerblading, fast-paced, sort of like weird, artsy, sort of spray painting thing. Now this game is Sunset Overdrive is sort of same high-speed game where you're bouncing off walls and zipping down lines, but you're shooting zombies while you do it, which just looks awesome.
Okay.
It looks really cool. The art direction's crazy. It looks really interesting. So that looks cool. Project Spark, my daughters are in love with. That is coming out for the Xbox One. It's in beta now. You can actually try it, but that's also coming to the 360, so you don't need a one for that, but that looks great.
So you don't need the one. What's Project Spark?
Project Spark is like, it's like build your own video games. It's kind of like Microsoft's answer to Minecraft, almost but instead of being all 16-bit squares, it's actual modern graphics where you can drag the trees around or make it a desert and put a well over there and put a rock. And then you can put a brain, which is basically AI, into the rock and say, make the rock dance. And then make this bird over here be a bad guy and try to attack you. And then this is a gun. You can shoot the bird. And so you can basically make whatever you want. Which really, really cool, actually. Then you can upload them to the cloud and people can try them. You can make adventures. And my oldest daughter was making like little descent type adventures, and I was playing through them, and like little signs that said, don't turn left and you die. And it was really fun. She's getting very creative. She's actually dabbling with programming. I love seeing her do it. So Project Spark is really a good looking game. But again, it's on the 360, it's on the PC and the Xbox One. So again, it's going to be great on the Xbox One, but it'd be just as good on the PC or the 360. So I don't see the driving need to get over there.
Yep.
Another game I can't wait for, Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm a huge fan of Dragon Age. Second one wasn't as good as the first, but still a fantastic series. Can't wait for the third one, but it's on all platforms, including the Xbox 360 and the PS3. So there's no need to upgrade there.
Right.
So,
other than maybe the more beautiful graphics.
There's going to be better graphics. And what is starting to happen, though, Rafe, is that developers, some games, like if you look at Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which I loved, came out this fall, pirate game, Pirate Ninja, how can you go wrong? That was developed for the 360 first, with the 360 in mind, so it's optimized for the 360, and then it also was an Xbox One title, and the only noticeable difference is like the number of leaves in the trees. So it was basically didn't look that much different on the Xbox One.
Right.
What's starting to happen now with games like Titanfall and Dark Age Inquisition is that they're being written for the next generation consoles first with those in mind, and then they're being toned down to run on the last gen consoles. So what that means is basically the experience, it's not like Black Flag where it's basically the same on both systems. Now you're going to have Dragon Age Inquisition is going to look better on the Xbox One, and it might look pretty good on the 360, but because haven't toned it down enough, it'll maybe chug a little bit and get latency, get laggy because there's just too many leaves in the trees for you or whatever they're doing. So I think you're going to find as developers find the ways to make the games better and more powerful on these than the PS4 and the Xbox One, it might start to make sense. But you can tell this console generation, I don't think consoles are dead, but I think the legacy consoles are still being sold too. You can go buy a brand new Xbox 360. You can go buy a brand new PS3. Neither company has stopped selling those. So you can go buy those for cheap, $100 or $150, or you can buy these $400 and $500 consoles. So Microsoft, you can tell, is starting to feel the heat. They've already just literally last week announced that they had said originally the Xbox One could only be bought with a Kinect. Now you can buy it without the Kinect.
I just saw that new price.
They also just changed.
And it might be what gets me to buy because I think I was talking to you or talking in the Hollywood Minute that I was reading in Game Informer that what might have to get me to the Xbox One, but I still don't even think so, is the third game of the Batman in the original Arkham series.
But isn't it on the 360 also? I think it might be.
No. See, now,
there you go.
It's confusing because the third game is out in the same Batman fighting style, and it's called Arkham Origins.
Yep.
There's an interesting article on it. They made Arkham Origins because the third, it's like a subtitle, because the third one, which is going to be called Arkham Knight, pun intended, is only going to be on the 360 and the one, and they knew there was going to be a huge lag time.
Yeah.
So between 2 and 3, they had, I think, Montreal studios build Arkham Origins. So I'm playing Arkham Origins, and Russ, it's not a holdover game. Like, until I read that in the article, I had no idea it was a holdover game. I just thought I was playing another Batman game. The story's solid. The fighting is solid. It's not repetitive. There's new people. There's new characters, new missions. It's great. And as I'm playing it, I'm thinking, this will stink because when I want to play the third or fourth game in the series, I have to switch to the 1. But I'm kind of like, I'm not so sure it's going to be as compelling because it's just going to be Batman. It's going to have the cool fighting combo moves. It's going to feel like you're really punching stuff. In other words, it's not going to be like playing Oblivion was, which was a whole brand new experience.
Well, that could be.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just checked. You're right. It's the Xbox One, the PS4, and the PC. So,
yep.
But you can play it on your PC. So,
yep, I could.
Yeah.
Although I haven't played a fighting game like that with a mouse and a keyboard.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. And I think so. And Microsoft's also announced that Xbox Gold is no longer needed to use like Hulu and Netflix. So you don't need to be a subscriber to get that. So that makes it a little more compelling.
What does that mean exactly?
So right now, this June is going to change. But prior to this June, you had to be an Xbox Live Gold member to use Hulu and Netflix and some of the other streaming services. So what that means is to be an Xbox Live Gold member, it was like $60 a year.
Is there Xbox Live Silver or
yes,
Xbox?
Silver's free. Everybody's silver. Just for buying an Xbox, you're silver. Gold was you paid annually $60, and that gave you the ability to play multiplayer online. With Silver, you can't play online multiplayer. And with Gold, you can play online, and also, by the way, you can stream all these video services, HBO Go. But the thing that's weird about those is that you pay extra for Hulu, Netflix, and HBO Go. So it's kind of like you're getting double charged.
Yeah.
And so Microsoft finally said, you know what, here's the deal.
Although you're not if you're a multi-game multiplayer.
Right, you're not anyway because that money doesn't go to Microsoft. Like,
okay, right.
You know what I mean? Like
you're getting double charged.
It feels like you're getting double charged.
Profits aren't going
right.
to Xbox.
So now this is a smart move, I think, because it positions the Xbox as a set-top box like a Roku. If you want to just buy an
right,
because now you can go buy an Xbox 360, but this changes for both Xboxes. So now if you want to buy an Xbox 360 for $100, and by the way, a Roku box is like $80. So for $100, you get essentially what the Roku box does, all the streaming services for no extra monthly fee or anything. Oh, and by the way, you can also play games in it. So it makes the Xbox 360 a very, very compelling set-top box for streaming video. But at the same time, the Xbox One has that ability, gets that better thing. They even said that if you just bought a Gold account with the intent to stream these services, and we just announced we're turning off, we'll refund your Gold cost if you want, which is pretty cool. So that's a good deal. I'm trying to decide about this. Is it because the market's soft right now and they're trying to counter this whole thing or no one's buying it? Or is this the new kinder, gentler Microsoft? Because Microsoft just got a brand new CEO. They've already announced a bunch of changes that have happened that feel very not so Microsofty. Getting Office on the iPad really quick, doing some other things that are just things that Microsoft didn't traditionally do. Getting softer on sort of the need for the Kinect.
What do you think? What are you hearing out there? Like, what are the people on Twit talking about? And
they're saying it might be the new CEO. They like it, but some of this stuff's happening so quickly, it's hard to sell it to him. But it's the kind of thing maybe Ballmer wouldn't have done, though. So it's a interesting decision. But it might be a reaction to the market because I know Sony just announced their executives were taking a pay cut.
Why is that happening?
Sony's having some financial troubles in general. I don't know if it's PS4 related or not, but and then Nintendo's having trouble. Nintendo's been having trouble for a while. Their sales for the Wii U has been really
Nintendo
bad. So they're
now,
trying
is it
to
all
figure
Nintendo or just Nintendo US?
It's probably Nintendo US mostly, but Nintendo in general has been having financial troubles too. I don't know if their sales have been down. I don't know if they're financially in trouble, but their sales have been down. So they're trying to figure it out. So there's definitely, I think the consoles are still selling. But what we're seeing is that they want them to sell faster. I think the price cut's going to do well for them. I do think the lack of backward compatibility though is going to hurt them. What's funny is they added backward compatibility later to the 360. I don't know if you remember when the 360 first came out, it was not backward compatible, and then they wrote a download.
I didn't know that.
And you could download it, and it made it backward compatible. That was a reaction when Sony came out backward compatible and Microsoft wasn't. This time, nobody's backward compatible. I think it was a mistake. If they could get backward compatible, because if you're a young kid in an apartment and you're not going to want two consoles, I want to be able to get one new console.
I'm a 45-year-old man. I don't want two consoles.
Right. So it's definitely they got to get the backward compatibility thing's really a pain for Xbox Marketplace because you own all those great arcade games. And it's a pain in the butt for your collection of games. Which
I think you heard it here first, Russ.
Yeah.
I think you just predicted the backward compatibility of the Xbox One.
If that happens, I think that would be a huge win for them. I don't know how hard that is. But I think that would be a major, major win for them to do that, to pull that off.
It would definitely help and push me over the edge.
Yeah, I
Especially
think
without the Kinect.
that plus making it $400 and getting backward compatibility in there, I think would move the console more. That's just my opinion, because there is good video there, and more and more people are streaming video, and those features, the Xbox One really does, I would say, better than anything else right now. Better than the Roku, better than other boxes, better than Apple TV, and I own an Apple TV, and I hate it. Better than all that. The Xbox One is the best experience, but it's not worth $500 for just a TV streamer. $400, maybe. And if I could replace my 360 and get a faster, quieter machine that doesn't have all that humming and the CD doesn't sound really loud.
Yeah, mine's really loud.
And cleans all that up and can still play the same games that I've got, that I've had in my collection for years, that'd be awesome. So that's missing.
What is when I'm surfing Xbox video and it said I want to watch The Hobbit and it says Smart Glass. I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, so Smart Glass came out for both the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One. The Smart Glass, it's an app for your phone, available on Android and iOS and Windows Phone. And it is better on the Xbox One. I've had it for both. It's free. You can download it right now on your iPhone or your favorite phone. And what it does is, firstly, it acts as a remote control. So you install this thing, and now it basically turns into a remote. And what's cool about the Xbox One is because the Kinect is an IR blaster, it can control your volume as well on your TV or on your stereo. So what I'm able to do then is I can bring this app up and I can go plus and increase the volume, or hit the down and decrease the volume and actually control the volume, as well as it's a fully functional controller essentially, so I can change channels, I can, do whatever I want to do, pause the show, play the show, whatever I want.
What if I have a 360 and I do not have my Kinect connected and I download a Smart Glass video?
So the 360's Kinect is not an IR blaster, so the 360 Kinect can't do that anyway. But so the 360 Kinect can't control volume, but the 360 Smart Glass still can act as a controller. So anything you can do with your Xbox 360 controller, you can do with your phone with this, which is kind of nice. If you don't feel like getting up, you can put your phone on. Now,
I don't get it, because my controller's wireless and it's 5 inches from my hand, because I need it to activate the video.
Well, see, I don't, because I can say Xbox on, and then I can just grab my phone. The other thing about the phone that's really cool is it shows you it's like a little mini Xbox One screen, and it has on it all the shows you watch and all the pins on the front of your screen you watch. So I can actually just bring my phone up and tap, scroll to the right and say, oh, there's Orphan Black. Hit the button, and boom, it starts playing the show without having to navigate through anything. And it takes you right there from wherever you are on the Xbox. And what's cool about it, on the One, it's instant. Now, the Xbox 360 will also do this. It just takes a little longer because it's slower. So that's really cool. The other thing, though, it does is some of the games, and this happens a little bit on the Xbox 360, but it's very, very immersive in the Xbox One. I would say my favorite Xbox One exclusive game was Dead Rising 3. I think I've talked about this game before.
I think actually Dave Farr talked to me about this.
You would like this game a lot. And
it's like the original, right?
Yes. What was really cool about it was, though, the game has a map mode, just like every other game, and you can go see the map of the city, and then you can go back and play. But if you have Smart Glass, the map appears on your phone.
Ooh.
And it's interactive. So, for example, I can tap a spot on the map and on
cool.
my phone, and the waypoint in the game clicks in. Now, my character's waypoint is all set up there. And then what happens is, in the game, people call you. But if you've got Smart Glass, they call you on your phone.
Oh, that's immersive.
Which is very immersive, right? And your phone will start ringing, but what? And you pick it up and listen to it.
Will that work if I were to buy the new Xbox One without the Kinect?
Yes, because that works through your Wi-Fi. So what happens is your phone, when you launch the app on your phone, Smart Glass finds your Xbox through Wi-Fi. So as long as you're on the same network in your house, it will find it and connects to it that way. So there's actually no... the only reason you need the Kinect is for what's happening if I'm trying to control the volume. The volume command goes through Wi-Fi into the Xbox One. The Xbox One then tells the Kinect, hey, send out this certain IR signal. The IR signal hits my stereo, and my stereo turns the volume up. That's how that works. Okay. So, but if you just take that out, you still can control your game and everything, and have the maps and all that cool stuff.
So if I had the Xbox One and no Kinect, would I be able? I understand. I totally know what you're saying about the IR signal, but would I be able to maybe in the future talk to my phone to say Xbox on? Maybe not the volume, because that's connected to the TV, but... No,
that doesn't... Well, the phone doesn't turn the Xbox on and off. You have to say Xbox One to your Kinect, and that wouldn't work for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll need Kinect to that for someday. But what you can do, right, is you buy it in stages. Buy the box, and get it if you like it, if you love it, if you love it, and one day you wish you had a Connect, you add a Connect later when you can afford it. You don't have to plunk all the money down at once. That's the thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's something else I need to ask you about.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm at the office and I want to watch Mary Poppins with the kids because I want to watch the Disney movie that came out.
Exactly right.
Following Mr. Lucky. What was it called?
Saving
Tom Hanks.
Saving Mr. Banks. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I try to Google it to see, I want to see, like Netflix, I want to see if it's available.
Right.
I either Google things wrong or there seems to be no web-based function to see what movies or TV shows are offered through Xbox Video.
Oh, actually.
Am I correct in that or am I just in the wrong place?
No, you're wrong. So there's a couple ways you can do this. The easiest way is if you're in front of your console. So what you want to do is...
I'm at work.
Okay. If you're at work, go to xbox.com, click on Video Marketplace, and then in the search bar, type in the name of your movie, and it'll find it.
Okay, and is there an app? Why is there not an app for this?
Well, if you wanted, it would work, yes, because Smart Glass is that app. It would work on Smart Glass, too. Because you can use Smart Glass without being next to your Xbox, and it does exactly what you're asking. You can search for all those things.
So I download Smart Glass app on my iPhone.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay, now let's do a little pause here.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody and their sister seems to be going away from the iPhone. Every time I turn around, somebody's using the Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, but it's the app is available on Android, iOS, and...
No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Do you have a Russ theory as to why everybody seemed that, in Rafe's opinion, everybody is switching away from...
Oh, are we changing topics? That's cool.
Yeah, a little cow path here.
So, okay. So yes, my theory is, well, I'm strongly considering moving to a Windows phone. Nicole has the Lumia 1020, which I am totally jealous of. Despite the fact that there are challenges in Windows Phone land, particularly with missing some of the cool apps, like, for example, Smart Glass is there because it's a Microsoft app and it's a Windows Phone, so that's there. But there are apps that we use, like we use an app to track our diet called Run. We use Runkeeper, and we use another app called MyFitnessPal, and MyFitnessPal is on the Windows Phone, but it's really buggy. So things like that, right?
Yeah.
Despite that, they've just released the Windows 8.1 update on the Windows Phone, and this has built into it, amongst other things, Cortana. Now, for those Halo fans out there, you will know that Cortana is, of course, the AI counterpart to Master Chief. Well, when Microsoft started building its voice command system to rival Siri on the iPhone, someone decided the code name should be Cortana as a little inside joke. And then when someone woke up and said, it would be brilliant if that was actually the real name. And by the way, we should get the voice actors who did it. And they did. And so,
man.
So Cortana is actually the Siri for the Windows Phone. It's really, really cool. It is, in fact, her voice. You can ask her things like, who's your daddy? And she'll say Bill Gates. But what's really great about it is it actually works just as good as Siri, if not better in some cases. And it really gives the Windows Phone what it was missing. Which is things like, directions to the nearest, gas station. And it can do that. And you can say that with your voice before you had to type it in and find it and go through Bing and all that stuff. So it's really nice. Now, the big reason I want Windows Phone is because the 1020's camera is the best camera on the market still on a phone. It's 41 megapixel. It's fantastic. The zoom is insane. And as a miniature photographer who takes pictures of things inside of cases at Gen Con and stuff, that camera is the ultimate way to take pictures of little miniatures, and I love taking pictures of little miniatures, as anybody who follows me on Twitter knows. So that camera really appeals to me. So I'm really interested in that. I think Apple's problem right now is that I like my iPhone, but I want a better camera. I also think people are starting to become enamored with the larger form factor of the phablet.
Yeah.
So
yes.
the idea, I think some of them are crazy big. At the same time, though,
I do too.
I was just looking at.
Dave has one that's like
I know
the size of a brick face.
But I was just looking. I gotta say, I was looking at the new Lumia 1520, which is the next gen of the 1020. Camera's not quite as good. It actually goes down to 20 megapixel, but the thing is the size of the size of a dinner plate. It's kind of crazy, but here's the thing: the reason that seems stupid is holding it next to your head to talk does look goofy. But when was the last time you talked on your phone? I don't actually talk on my phone. And most laws now are being passed. You can't even talk on your phone in your car. You got to get a headset. So no one actually puts their phones to their heads anymore. Actually, most people text on them. And a bigger screen is easier to type on. And second of all, it's a bigger screen is easier to use. And third of all, what's starting to happen is they're starting to find studies that people are not, their phone is their computer. And if you have a good phone and it's a little bit bigger, it could be your tablet also. And so iPad sales are a little bit down. because people are starting to use the phablets as the tablet. It's sort of replacing that segment a little bit. So there's this interesting thing where if I spend a little bit more and get a slightly larger phone, I don't need a tablet.
Well, to continue down this slightly, I was looking to get another iPad because my kids are always using the one that's supposed to be for me and for work. So I go on a convention and I don't want to bring a laptop, and they're like, "Daddy," and I'm like, fine, I'll leave it at home. Mm-hmm. Well, instead of that, one of the nerds, and again, I'm not being pejorative, that's the company name, Nerd11, so they call it nerds. He's like, "Hey, I've got this Google, really cool Nexus 10 Google-based, Android-based tablet. And, check it out, Rafe, take it for a test drive, and I'll sell it to you for a really cheap price." And so I did, and it was awesome. It was great in all capacities, except that I have become tablet-trained, iPad-trained. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to change things in settings. iTunes wasn't on there. I had to go through Google Play. I wanted to download crap from Comixology, which is hooked into iTunes. That was the old Comixology. The new one isn't, since they've been bought by Amazon. It's a whole other thing. But because this was the Android, I had to go through Google Play. I didn't have anything hooked up in Google Play, and I just was irritated. Even though I'm a Google Apps guy on my PC.
Well, so
I found that to be interesting. I'm like, crap. I've become what's that term, Russ, where you've learned, like, the computer industry knows this and you know their forms factors, so you're just tying, I think it's called.
Well, you're trained. The thing, so I don't like.
So I'm afraid to switch, is what I'm saying.
I don't like the Android UI. If I'm honest, I don't. It doesn't appeal to me. I like my UI's got to be really, really fast, and I also want it to look a little slick. And I thought Apple's UI looked slickest, but actually I believe Windows Phone is the slickest looking UI right now. Easy to use, looks great. The live tiles are
I remember
freaking
Windows
brilliant.
Phone being back like those Motorola phones.
Yeah, that's not them anymore.
Oh my God. Those were so complex.
The live
to use.
tiles are slick, but the big thing was I want my paging and my rolling to be crystal smooth. This is what Apple does really, really well. The iPhone is flawlessly smooth. They put UI experience code first. Everything else is second. Google used to do this. They do it on their web. They did not do it with Android for some reason. So in Android, UI speed is not first, and you'll get a little chunkiness sometimes.
I noticed that with reading my comics, and the colors were different.
And that bothers me. So I can't get into Android for that reason. So it's either iOS and Windows, and the problem I'm having with iOS now is iOS is starting to feel dated, and the cameras aren't keeping up.
You are a big camera guy.
I got an iPhone 5 because it had the best camera. Now I would argue, well, it's not even an argument anymore. It's undeniable that the Windows phones have the best cameras. The only reason you don't get a Windows phone is, well, it's none of the app ecosystem everybody else has got. But I don't use actually that many apps on my phone. If there's a certain few, and having Nicole have the phone, I'm watching the ones I need are there, but they're not quite tweaked yet. But with 8.1 coming out, so many people are so excited about Windows 8.1. A lot of the app guys are getting back on board and tweaking things out. So I'm excited for that. I'm curious to see what Apple's going to do this fall. I'm also curious to see what Apple's play is around wearable technology. I do think there's going to be some kind of Apple thing, whether it's a watch or a anklet or I don't know what, but I feel like they're going to do something. And they need to do something. But I don't know. I don't know how they're going to respond to what's going on right now. But they're Apple; they'll figure something out. They usually blow us all away in some way that we don't expect. So we'll see.
Okay.
And
by the way, I'm on Xbox.com trying to look up a movie, and I don't see this marketplace that which you talk about.
All right, I'll take it. Ask me another question. I'll look this up.
All right. Well, the other question I had is, have you noticed? And I don't know how we're doing on time. Maybe we need to end near here. But have you noticed that, so a movie hits the movie theaters, and it seems to come out pretty quick on video rental, which I think is pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. And I'll go, oh, awesome. Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, let's say. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And then I'll check it out. I'll see it. There it is to rent. But I don't rent it because I'm like, I don't have time to watch a 3-hour movie now. I'm going to wait. 2 weeks later, I go to rent it. Nope. Rental option is gone, and it's only for purchase.
Yeah, some of the places do that.
Have you noticed that?
Some places, so I'll bounce around until I find a place that doesn't do that. Here's what I like about Xbox too, and this is an underrated feature, is if you go to your Xbox 360 or to your Xbox One, and you go to the Bing page, and you Bing a movie or television show, it will search all the services and tell you which services carry it. So
I've done that too, but I'm starting to be like there's so many apps that I don't know all the usernames.
Well,
I went to go watch it on, I forget, I think it was Amazon or something.
Yeah.
And then it needed me to connect into my PC, give me an authorization code. I'm like, okay.
Well, once you're connected,
and then I logged in, and it didn't know my username and password. I'm like, forget this.
Well, you do that all once. But what's interesting, though, about that is that's one of the big challenges. Like Roku and other boxes don't have that cross-platform search. And why that's valuable is if you're a Netflix subscriber already, you want to see if it's in Netflix because they don't have to pay anything extra for it. If it's in Xbox Video or Vudu or any of the other channels, you might have to pay something for it. If it's on Hulu, you don't have to pay for it. So you want to kind of find out if it's one of the free services or lower charge or the monthly services before you go and pay extra for it. By the way, to look up a video on Xbox, go to video.xbox.com is the shortest way to do it.
Oh, okay.
You can also do it through the main page by going into Entertainment, then clicking Xbox Video. But video.xbox.com will take you right to the marketplace, and then you just type in the search there, and you're ready to go.
All right, thank you. And I can kind of do this with the Smart Glass app somehow.
Yes, you load the Smart Glass app. You'll be able to search it immediately, and then if you're connected, that Smart Glass is connected live to your Xbox, you can just tap on. Like, if you go to video.xbox One, see all the little movie posters at the bottom?
Yes.
That same sort of image will appear on your phone, and if you tap it, it'll start playing on your Xbox, which is pretty cool. So you can kind of navigate, and then when you want to, if you take the search bar here, if you tapped it on your phone, you get the phone keyboard to type it in, so you don't have to try to go through this silly little controller keyboard trick. So it's actually pretty easy to type. The other thing that's cool about that is when you have the Smart Glass up on your phone can be a keyboard at any time you need it during your experience with in your console. So you always have a keyboard that's easier to use than trying to use the console typing problem. So that's pretty nice.
And did you see the movie Her?
No.
You want to end with how much time we have?
We are running long, so we should probably run long. But I did not see Her. I've heard good things about it, though. So should I see it?
You should see it.
All right.
I'd like to tell you why, and I don't believe it's a spoiler.
Is it a spoiler? I don't want you to tell me. No, because if you don't believe it's a spoiler, it probably is.
No, I swear.
The fact that you had to even qualify that you don't believe it's a spoiler means it's almost certainly a spoiler.
Well, that comes from one of my friends of mine who never wants to know anything.
This is like the crying game now. You're going to tell the end of the crying game right now here and everybody.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. This is a way around it.
All right.
What do you imagine the movie is about?
Tom Selleck. Doesn't it look like Tom Selleck on the front there?
No, not at all to me.
I got nothing.
It looks like a weird version of Joaquin Phoenix.
I had no idea.
Oh, you don't know. I thought you would know the premise.
No, I don't even know the premise.
Okay. The premise is that it's slightly in the future, and the Joaquin Phoenix character falls in love with his operating system.
Okay.
Who I thought was voiced by who's the actress that plays Princess Leia's mom?
Princess Leia's mom, Natalie Portman?
Yes.
All right.
But it wasn't. It's voiced by the chick who's in the Captain America movies and plays the Scarlet Widow.
Oh, Black Widow.
Black Widow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what's her name?
I don't know, but it's Black Widow.
Black Widow, yeah.
She'll always be Black Widow now. She has no other identity to me. Just saying.
So anyway, he falls in love with his operating system. Okay. Well, I guess what I would think would be that, the movie would be about, well, geez, how could a man fall in love with a computer? I mean, that's just ridiculous. And that would be the whole movie. But what I liked about it was they answered and solved that question within like 20 minutes of the movie. And so the rest of the movie to me was really novel and unique.
All right. Cool.
That's all I wanted to say.
All right. I'll check that out.
You should definitely 100% watch it. And I'd really be curious if you could get Nicole to watch it. And I wonder if you, being a geek, would have a different, like, I'm wondering if Nicole would watch that and be like, that was just ridiculous. And you'd be like, it's
a
awesome.
Sci-fi element. I think she'd like it. So, well, Rafe, that was pretty impressive. We went all the way from Star Citizen to Her in one segment. So
that was a good one, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. Okay. Hopefully. Well, you let us know, listeners. Was that good or not?
No, they love it. They love it when you do this crap.
All right. So I'm glad somebody does. All right, Rafe. Well, thanks again for joining us. Hey, if people want to find out more about what you are up to on the internets, where can they find you?
Actually, the best places are Hollywood at the D6generation.com. As long as I can see the email in between all the Patreon blurbs that come out.
Right.
There are a ton of those. Or Twitter, actually. Twitter is the second place, and I am the D6G Hollywood on Twitter.
Nice.
Those are the two best places.
Awesome. All right.
And the Hollywood Minute, the D6 Generation, every episode Hollywood Minute.
Great. Well, Rafe, thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again on the show real soon.
Sounds great. Talk to you later.
Take care.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland. Check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. And this week's shout out is to all of our wonderful Patreon supporters. You can support the show too. Head over to www.patreon.com/the D6 Generation. So my kids and Russ and I have been watching a TV show called The Heroes of Cosplay. And it is, surprise, about cosplay. Now, the funny thing is that the people who are really into this kind of stuff debate whether or not the show is any good. Like, oh, it doesn't portray things in the right light, and it's not fair, and not everyone competes, and it's unrealistic what these people are trying to achieve. But I'm looking at it a totally different way, because my kids are loving this show. The girls are absolutely, completely sucked into this. And not because they want to see who wins, that they have to, oh my gosh, this person has to win. But they're amazed by the level of dedication, detail that people put into creating these costumes. There was one guy that crafted his own metal rings to look like the ones that the Mandarin wears on his hands. That was pretty cool. He used like Dixie cups and melted, I can't even remember what it was, molten liquid that could have burned his fingers off. He made that. The girls thought that was amazing. And people doing all this stitching and how they're trying to come up with ways to make things in their costumes really pop and look cool for the judges. One woman had this sort of card trick thing where the cards came out of a book and they watched her struggling to figure it out. And it's kind of neat to see my kids watching this because they're not looking at it from the point of view as, oh, this is a reality show and I'm getting an inside look at how these people work. What they're seeing is, wow, look at what these people are doing with their hobby. Now, like I said, some of the folks on the show are doing this with the idea that they can make some kind of full-time go out of it. And you know what? More power to them. If they can do it, good for them. It's not very many people that pull that off, but people do, and you never know when it's going to be you. But I like that the kids are seeing people doing something really, truly incredibly creative. Some of what these people do makes it look like they could have walked right off the set of a movie. That's how good it is. And sometimes what they do doesn't look that good. But the thing that they always do is once they're up there and once they're committed and once they're doing it, they pretty much persevere and get through it. Things don't go as planned, just like the real world. Costumes that worked perfectly and tricks that worked perfectly for weeks beforehand suddenly fall to bits the minute you have to walk in front of judges. Sometimes the people around you are really great and supportive, which most of the people are, and then there's people who tear you down and who aren't cool and don't support you. It really is a lot like the real world, but it's kind of neat for the kids to see it. And one of the neatest things about this whole experience is that the girls have always liked cosplay to a degree. You know, they enjoy Halloween. They've been gradually building costumes that they wear to our local Ren Fair every year. They get a new piece for that each year. But now they really want to cosplay. I'm a little worried because I'm like, you're not going to look like Yaya Han right out of the gate, so take a deep breath. But they really are kind of into it, and they're actually planning the costumes that they want to wear to Gen Con this year. I might be going to Gen Con with two little cosplayed little girls, which is really kind of neat. And they're doing it exactly the way you'd want. They're picking characters that they love and that they think would be fun and that they think they can pull off, and they have their little plan for how they want to do hats and capes and make it all look just so. So if you have a kid who likes doing the dress up thing and who likes doing cosplay, or even if you're interested in it, don't watch the show and be thinking, oh, I'm going to judge it and be all judgy. Just watch it and be amazed at how dedicated these people are, and share that with your kids, that you can take something that's a hobby, that's fun, that you enjoy, and you never know when you can turn it into something more and the places that it will take you. And you guys just may see all of us at Gen Con with my two little cosplaying daughters.
Craig, you know what that sound is?
That's a vuvuzela.
That is the vuvuzela. And you know what the vuvuzela must mean? It must mean it is World Cup season, Craig.
FIFA!
football.
Craig, which team are you rooting for? Which team are you supporting?
USA.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
by the time you hear
this,
we've probably been eliminated. But if we haven't been eliminated, that is excellent.
Right. Then if we haven't, it's all us.
That's right. But in any case, you know what? If you want to play more football, let's say you're watching the football. Now, here in America, we call it this soccer thing, but that is incorrect. The rest of the world,
that's not nearly as entertaining as football.
Any country not populated by a bunch of dirty Americans clearly loves the sport of football. And football is a great sport, and this sport is cheered by many a fan. And if you want to play the football at your kitchen table, for example, while watching
the football
strategy on telly, the thing to do here would be to get football back to Kickstarter from CQ Games.
So here we're talking about Conquistador.
We are. If there was ever a company worthy of the Vuvuzela, it is CQ Games. They have a great looking, really unique, full of innovative mechanics football board game.
That's right.
I like
it just started.
I like how they look on this, Craig. And this is sort of like, you know what this reminds me of? Some folks might say it's like Blood Bowl, but it doesn't remind me of Blood Bowl because there's no fantasy teams. This is actually based on actual football strategy, tactics, but most of all, the players. So think of this. This reminds me more of like Madden.
They're not players, Russ. They're footballers.
Footballers, right. So the game comes with a bunch of footballer cards. Each of these cards are actually put on the board in the spaces, and it shows you all the stats for that player. And they've got their chance to pass, their ball control, all their major stats to execute. And it's really, really easy to learn. So when you pass the ball, it's easy to know. The defenders have their own stats to try to block the pass. You can decide when you're going to move. Are you going to keep the ball and just try to handle it down the field? Or are you going to actually make that pass? But here's the cool thing, Craig. Each year, Conquistador is going to release new player packs, updating the stats of the players to match the actual player stats in the actual leagues.
No.
It's like Madden NFL. You get to expand it as you go, keep track of your favorite players, and you can build your own teams. So you can make basically an all-star team, make a team of your favorite players from different eras, try to rebuild that. It's just really, really cool ideas.
Wow, that sounds much cooler than Blood Bowl.
It is if you like football. And, again, if you're not American, you probably do. Football. This is the game for you. So check it out. Head on over to Kickstarter.com. The Kickstarter is just kicking off. See what I did there? Just kicking off.
Ooh, and you did that.
It works on different levels. Kicking off for Kickstarter, kicking off for the football.
Yeah. Football strategy.
When you get the game, though, don't use your hands. Got to use the feet.
That's right.
Football, check it out. Kickstarter. There's still plenty of days to go on this. Get in on the action. When you get in the Kickstarter, you get more stuff than you could possibly use, which is always fantastic. Head on over, Kickstarter.com, search for the Football, F-U-T-B-O-L.
Football strategy, F-U-T-B-O-L, strategy by Conquistador Games.
I'm Raef, Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. All right, folks, I'm Raef, Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. Beautiful fall New England evening. Summer. What am I thinking about? It's those evenings I like where the wind's blowing just a little bit, wasn't too hot. All in all, a good night. The beverage of choice tonight is water. Okay, now, without further ado, and due to the vagrancies of the warp, I'm not exactly sure how much of a time delay you get these Hollywood Minutes, but here's what's going on. I have 3 topics of conversation for you. 1 is League of Legends. 2 is the D-Day battles. 3 is Way of Kings. Let's start there. So the book by Brandon Sanderson, Way of Kings. I may be a little bit behind here, but finished the first book. Really, really, really liked the book. I had a tough time getting through it. I only wanted to hear the Kaladin storyline, and I was less interested in the Jasna storyline, and didn't understand where the Shin storyline came into play. So it was one of those books where I just wanted to speed through Jasna and the Shin stuff and get to the Kaladin storyline. But as the book got, I'd say, halfway and over, I began to appreciate all 3 storylines. And, of course, as the book progresses from there, Really looking forward. I read it on my Kindle. Really looking for on the iPad. Really looking forward to downloading the second book. I have to admit, though, boy, I know that Audible lets you listen to the book and then get it on your Kindle. I find that the Kindle works really good at night when I'm reading because I don't need a book light. But I found when I read outside to enjoy the outdoors, the iPad would just get so hot from the sun, and the glare would cause the reading ability to be lessened. So I'm like, dang it. Am I going to buy the next book in all three forms, Audible, Kindle, and freaking paperback? I just might. So instead of an Audible Kindle edition, I wish they had a paperback Kindle edition. That'd be cool. So anyway, looking forward to downloading that second book. Really enjoy it, and I don't remember who said this. Might have been Craig on the show. They really do some interesting and some different stuff with fantasy. I like about all the spren. Those are pretty cool, so I appreciate that. Now on to League of Legends. So I downloaded the game. Doc's brother Jeff, we call him Jeffo, out in Ohio, is a big LOL player, and I was out in Ohio for my Dave Ramsey speaking gig, and Jeff was regaling us some League of Legends stories where he was playing, and it sounded so fun and so intricate. The meta game, he plays this game to the level of a War Machine player. I mean, he knows what the other character can do. He knows what the other character's, item that they'll most likely get. He'll get an item that the other seed will expect him to get, so he won't get that. He'll get a different item build, and it was just fascinating. So I watched him play a game, didn't understand a freaking thing. To me, it just looks like a bunch of clicking. So I downloaded it, didn't play it. I didn't want to get into it. I'm like, I don't have time to learn this intricate rule set. I know how this goes. I'm going to like it for 10 levels, then I'm going to get into a game, and I'm just going to get spanked, and it's not going to be fun. And that's what always happens to me with Call of Duty and all of those games. It's like, oh yeah, this is awesome when I'm level 1, and then I get to be level 6, and some level 30 guy comes around and freaking snipes me from a million miles away. And it's not fun, and I get enraged. But I couldn't find anything to scratch the MMO itch. Wild Star's out, got a free code to play that, and it looks like a cool game, but man, I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. I just miss Latro, I guess. I don't know. So I play a game of LOL, League of Legends, and I flipping had a blast. I played against bots. Nobody yelled at me. I played a top lane guy called Garen, and it was so fun, and it made me want to play again. So I played again, making sure it wasn't a fluke. And I played again, and then I played again, and now I'm watching YouTube videos on how to be a better Garen player. And I have to admit, I'm a bit addicted. It's fun. I can't wait to play tonight. I played a lot of games on Saturday. My Father's Day. I should have just stayed home all day and played League of Legends. It would have been so fun. I ended up doing chores and had some other family errands to do, so I haven't played yet. But, man, I am having a blast. And what I want to do now is I want to focus on being a really good top lane player. Don't get me wrong. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what a jungler does. I don't know when to go, but I like that I play this character that I know he goes to top lane. I have no idea why he's on the top lane. And my goal now is to just try to farm a little bit and not die too much and create my own builds. So I'm having a fun time with that. I want to get you guys up to speed with that. Of course, again, by the time you guys hear this, I could be totally out of it and onto something else because it'll be a bit of a time later. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is we had our big D-Day battle. It was me, Andy, Adam showed up for a while, Matt, Alex, and Stino. And to be honest with you, I can't remember if I recorded this last Hollywood Minute or not. I don't think I did. So if it's a repeat, I apologize. We had a blast. We played the Omaha Beach scenario, and Andy and Stino were the Germans, and Matt and I just rolled right up the left side of the beach. And we made a lot of changes this time around. So we didn't use D-Day tanks. We didn't use the Donald Duck tanks. I kept the tanks inside the Shermans. That was Matt's idea. We also used naval artillery with an AOP. That was a huge bonus too. And for whatever reason, man, Matt and Stino were plotting for weeks over the fortifications they were going to use and the layout that they were going to use. But for whatever reason, the left side of the beach, they had one pillbox with I forget what kind of gun in it, some sort of long range type of gun, and Matt and I landed our guys on the assault boats. The guys that were furthest on the right of the beach, which were pioneers in another assault boat, got totally mowed down by machine guns on the wall. But the guys on the left side of the beach were able to run up to the wall pretty much unscathed. Next turn, boop, over the wall. In that turn, we took away the barbed wire that was in front of the pillbox. Boom, ran up, assaulted the pillbox. Boom, destroyed it. And that draw was completely open because there was no covering machine gun fire over there. Now Andy and Stino were really mad because there were a couple buildings that were blocking their machine gun and their shots from our right side of the board. That kind of got into debate towards the end of the game, whether those buildings can be there, how do they get put there. Matt was looking at a scenario book, and they do show buildings pretty close up to the seawall, which is critical. All those other games that I played, man, it was just a freaking open meadow from the seawall back to the Germans, so that could be a big difference there. But I definitely noticed the lack of machine gun fire and arcing fire covering the other pillbox. Lots of fortifications, but it didn't matter at that point in time. We didn't even need the Shermans. Just guys just totally hopping over that seawall on the left draw. And it kind of just reminded me of the books that I've read on the D-Day invasions. What it was like and how once you got sort of past those seawall fortifications, it was just up and over and then on to the next objectives. It was kind of neat how, Rommel didn't have enough fortifications and enough forces to protect the seawall. A lot of people don't pay attention to Rommel, thinking him of as the brilliant commander that he was as the Desert Fox. And sometimes I think people forget that he was a pretty large force sent by Hitler to command the seawall. But due to the politics of the German army, Rommel wasn't given the support he needed to command the forces he needed the seawall. He had to go up to, I don't know the correct ranks, but he had to go up to generals higher up than him and to Hitler himself. And it just was too slow, and he wasn't able to get anything. He knew he had a pretty good suspicion that the Allies were going to land there. He knew it wasn't protected enough. He also knew he didn't have the right reserves in place. They were being used and sent to the Russian front, and that I don't know. I felt that way as I snuck up over the wall. I was like, if Rommel was here, he would have been like, "See, I told you, not enough protection on the seawall on the left-hand side." Anytime I play these D-Day games, I always take a moment to think of the real D-Day veterans. Of course, that was all over the news with the 70th anniversary of D-Day. And, I just want to say that I always take a moment to think of the real men and women that lost their lives during World War II. So, had a great day. Ate some burgers, ate some dogs, had chocolate cake, drank some beer, hung out with good friends, played some good Flames of War, and Adam wasn't able to stay this whole game this time, but it motivated him enough that he's now going to buy his first Army scale game, and he's buying the Brits, which I think is cool. So anyway, that's the Hollywood Minute for today. Until next time. Oh, by the way, I finally fixed my D6G Hollywood email to filter out all the patron info stuff that comes in. So if you've emailed me in the past and I haven't responded, that's not on purpose. We just get such a wall of sort of info emails that I lose actual emails to me. But I finally got my filters in place, so hopefully now if a real person email comes in rather than just a notification from Patreon, then I'll be able to see you guys. It'll jump out more. So you can email me. I am Hollywood@the D6generation.com, or you can find me on Twitter, pushing towards 1,000 followers. I'm getting close. I have some really good D-Day pictures on Twitter, too. I don't think you can go backwards in Twitter, though. I'm not sure if, you become a follower now, if you can go back and see them. I don't know how that works. But anyway, my Twitter feed is D6G Hollywood on Twitter. All right, till next time.
Hey, welcome back, and now it's time to talk about our friends at Game Salute.
Salute the games!
That's right, at Gamesalute.com. Our friends over there, as we've mentioned many a time in the past, are the guys that help the little independent studio, small designer, got a great idea, want to get it out there, want to not get into trouble, and, they help you get your game to the peoples through Kickstarter and other methodologies. And these are the guys that have brought you, helped to get great games out there like Alien Frontiers and now, Craig. Now there is a new Alien Frontiers expansion that you can pre-order today. Yes. Have you seen this? It's called the Outer Belt.
Alien Frontiers Outer Belt?
Indeed. It's got the now Outer Belt sideboard, a whole new place to do actions on the side of your Alien Frontiers board. Adds asteroid cards, all kinds of cool new mechanics, and my personal favorite, the Asteroid D6.
Oh, well, of course.
A gray die featuring asteroids on some of the sides. Awesome new different technology cards, great agenda cards now, as well as dock cover chits, whether you want to use the famous rocket dice from the expansion or the regular dice for the older school folks. Just great stuff. You are a fan of Alien Frontiers and want to keep up on all the hotness. You definitely want to go over to Gamesalute.com and check out the Alien Frontiers Outer Belt pre-orders. And don't forget, Craig, what if someone wants to buy something through the Game Salute store? What should they do to make sure they get cool bonuses and discounts?
Well, they should include the code for the D6 generation, which, of course, for this particular episode would be D6G148, and there's special deals for every code. So, of course, the code keys into the episode, and the deal keys into the code.
That's right, at Gamesalute.com.
This is the Dice Tower Network at Dicetowernetwork.com.
Hey, welcome back. Now it's time to talk about the hotness that Craig and I have not been able to put down.
No, that is true.
Since Adepticon, we have
Russ
been
just tried to say.
Yes, non-stop addicted to Deadzone, to the point where people are actually asking us in the store, geez, I think I've seen you guys play this game 3 times in a row. It must be good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all comes back
folks.
to me to that moment in the hotel room in Chicago at Adepticon where I looked at this enormous pile of crap that Russ had collected.
Yes.
That there was no way he was going to be able to bring home in his suitcase, which, of course, then resulted in the ginormous battle foam bag purchase.
Right.
And I thought, but I mean, could it really be that good? And oh my God, it is.
There's only one way to find out. We need to dive in with the patent pending, full detailed D6G review.
Full treatment
of Deadzone, the game. So let's get our overview out of the way here.
Let's do that.
Published now, the people will tell you it was published in 2013, and the Kickstarter did indeed take place in 2013, but it really didn't start hitting store shelves until...
Yeah, it wasn't accessible to the rest of us.
Yeah, not really until early 2014. And this, of course, is Deadzone, the miniature game from Mantic Games. The folks have been making miniatures now for quite some time that you can use as stand-in models for Games Workshop games, but also they've been publishing their own games
for quite a while.
And this is their most recent venture, Deadzone, which uses a lot of the same models from Warpath, their sci-fi game.
Not the same models, but the same,
factions and fluff. It fits in the same universe as Warpath and Deadball. Dreadball. Yeah, the other one. I get them backwards all the time.
Yeah. Yes,
sports games. They got them all in the same universe.
Yeah, there you go.
It is a miniature skirmish game, right?
It is indeed.
Low model count.
Very low model count.
Now, everything in the starter box is all you need to play. You get 2 really full-size factions. We'll get the details in a minute. Plus all this cool terrain.
Yeah. Think of it as the Necromunda box from way back when. And you got that box, you had everything you needed to play right out of the box.
And Raef asked us earlier this episode, and I think it's worth taking a moment here. You're thinking to us, D6G again with a miniature game. Why should we care about this one? I'm just going to give you some really quick highlights at what sucked Craig and I in before we even really got deep into the rules. Right. First of all, when you see this set up on the table, it's got very vertical terrain. Okay, it's
very cool looking,
very high level,
seriously
terrain,
high stuff.
Different peaks and valleys, not just one tower in the middle of the board. The entire table is all different, multi level,
with bridges and all kinds of cool stuff.
The entire system is cube based movement. That's right, cube, not square. Cube based movement and a cube based range system, which we'll describe in a little bit.
Yep.
Very dynamic mission system. Really, really full featured campaign system. Loads of factions. And as Craig's pointed out before, really, really nice innovative suppression mechanics, which allow
Really
you to
cool stuff.
really good. So there's a lot going on in this game that's like, you know what, this is worth looking at. And I think you guys will like it. Plus the models I think look really good. So some of those games that looks great.
Yeah, they're getting better.
Okay. We will talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about the models.
So Craig, what does it sound like when you open up a Deadzone starter box?
Oh, when you open the Deadzone starter box, it's actually quite an ordeal. It goes.
Cows? What? Pretty sure I heard a
Should
cow.
have paid attention to that.
I think there was a cow in there.
There may have been a cow.
Right.
Well, it's dead now.
It's a dead cow in the dead zone. So in the box, it is packed full of stuff. A very large box full of all kinds of goodness. First, you got your full-colored, glossy, full of interesting artwork and pictures of miniatures rule book.
And some fluff. I mean, this is really like it's 80 pages, and it would do it is a full-fledged miniatures game. That's what right out of the box we have to tell you. This is not a board game. This is as much a miniatures game as Necromunda or Mordheim or any of those other small board, small numbers skirmish games ever were.
Exactly right. And there's as Craig said, 80 pages. It is full color. Looks great. There is no index, sadly, but there is a pretty robust table of contents.
It is a very meaty table of contents.
And fortunately, the rules are not super duper detailed. It's more along the lines of lots of special rule, keyword based mechanics as well as moves. There is a little fluff section for each faction, each of the major 4 factions, but there are 6 coming soon. But not details about each faction. For that, you need to go to the cards, which seems to be more and more common nowadays. But it's got enough in there. It's very referenceable. It's easy to find stuff. Craig, what did you think of the rule book itself?
I liked it. I thought it was well laid out. Although there are some ways where I'm like, I wish all of the actions are in one spot. Instead, they're sort of like scattered around in the play sequence where they would fall. So when you're learning, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But as a reference, it's a little difficult.
I do wish there was an action summary in the back of the book. Fortunately, there are third-party ones, including our friends at Headless Hollow. The guys
Fred over at Headless Hollow did a great job.
Headless Hollow does a great job on normally board game rules references. But they've already got them out for Deadzone over there too. A fantastic hook reference guide for that.
It really makes the game go 1,000 times quicker.
Now the box comes with everything you need to play. In addition to the rule book, you get 6 8-sided dice. Yes, it is it's a D8 game.
Yeah, everybody's breaking away from the D6, so we may need to change our name.
No, it's classic, Craig. You don't have to mess with the classic.
A goldie but a goodie. I gotcha.
Plenty of counters, lots of 138 cardboard counters for a lot of different things.
Counters, but you know what? Cool plastic counters really make the game.
Now, each of the factions is unique in their stats, but also they have 54 card decks, and these decks include battle cards. Cards that tell you the stats of your models,
stat cards, and mission cards,
as well as mission cards.
So it's
and more about
3
those.
different decks in each faction deck.
And you will need to play. So
if you will.
when getting into this game, you're either going to need to get the starter set, the starter box, or the faction starters in order to get these decks of cards. There's no other way to get them, and they are essential to play.
Yeah, you can't play. Literally can't. It's not like, oh, they're so cool, you can't play without them. It's actually cannot play the game without them.
Okay. Now, also comes with a really nice. This is becoming a little more common, but this is really nice. It comes with not so much a gaming board or gaming, I don't mean a paper mat, an actual gaming mat that's thick foam rubber, looks exactly like the same material you get in a mouse pad, but it's...
Yeah. I mean, I know you keep saying that things are moving towards that, but in my experience, everything moving towards that is like Kickstarter extra or $30 extra. This is in the starter box, is a 2-foot by 2-foot mouse pad.
Yeah.
That doesn't wrinkle, it rolls nicely or folds nicely, or you just throw it in the box and it takes whatever shape you need it, and then it goes flat the minute you're using it.
The art looks great on it. It's got a grid on it, but the grid doesn't look like a bold grid. It looks like a sort of a concrete jungle flooring.
It's a very cool, very well done. The graphic design of the mat is perfect with the placement of the grid so that it's built into this cool urban flat landscape as opposed to a cool design, and then on top of that is a grid. The grid is built into the design, which makes it really
exactly
cool.
Right. Now, also comes with what they call plenty of bits for 28 modular plastic scenes, essentially cubes you can build out of, and these are like plastic walls And we say it's like Necromunda. Remember, Necromunda had plastic in it for those old school gamers and cardboard to make the buildings.
Right.
This makes buildings completely out of plastic.
Yeah.
Looks great. Now, in the set, there's enough to get a sparse but good coverage on the baseboard.
I think you need to stick with sparse.
But
I mean, it's cool, and for the money that you're paying, which is what, $100 retail.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, you can't ask for more. You're literally getting a lot more than if you broke out most of this stuff, and most of the stuff is available individually. Mm-hmm. You're talking maybe upwards of $100 worth of stuff.
Yeah, easy.
But yeah, you're going to need more terrain.
You're really going to want at least
where
two.
You want it.
Yeah,
to be.
at least 2 sets, probably 3. So if you and a friend get the starter box, you'll have enough terrain to have a good time. If you get a third set, and you can buy the sets individually, also the terrain packs. It's just great. And each of us now has about 2 packs each. When we merge them together with 4 packs at the table, it's just wonderful. You get lots of stuff on them.
Yep.
You get accessory sprues, which comes with all kinds of crazy stuff, street lights and little bits and
barrels
and
stuff like that,
all kinds of cool terrain, scatter terrain. A 48-piece connector sprue, which is kind of an innovative way you can snap the terrain together. You can get the terrain to stick together with just clipping it out and snapping it. You probably will end up wanting to glue some pieces because they'll kind of fall apart if you don't, unless you never transport it. If you just play in your own house and can leave it set up, it probably won't be a problem. But if you're like me and Craig, where you throw it into a plastic tub and take it to your local gaming store, you might want to glue a few pieces together in order to keep it just
a little
sturdy. Then you get, of course, 2 factions worth of guys. Now you get 12 plastic resin enforcers. These are sort of like the powered armored. I'm not going to use the word good guys. Human elite troops. You also get a peacekeeper captain.
You don't also.
No,
you
get the 12.
You get 12 enforcers, including
the peacekeeper captain, 4 troopers, 2
super heavy
enforcers.
weapon. He's the super heavy armor guy.
Oh, he's awesome. He's got a huge,
guys.
There's like energy sword in one wrist, and then a nice awesome gun in the other wrist.
To me, this is very cool because this is breaking out of to be unnamed game companies that kind of get locked into something over decades. These are more like Starship Troopers kind of near future sort of hard sci-fi power armor where everybody has a jump pack, whether, no matter what their role is on the battlefield, because it would be cool if you had a jump pack.
Right.
So, I mean, it's all kinds of really cool stuff like that.
Yeah, these aren't your grim, dark sci-fi Space Marines. These are your hardcore,
like Halo.
Yeah, more like Halo elite troopers. But then you also have got 11 plague models, and these are so these are the guys that are your space zombies, if you will. They've been infected, but they're mutating, and so they were humans and other races once, but now they're all mutated into crazy things.
Again, more of a hard sci-fi element where you're being mutated by this semi-intelligent thing that's like goop. And it's you got the stage 1 that turned the first person to be infected turns into this monstrous towering 12-foot tall gargantuan thing, and then everybody that he infects becomes these stage 2s that are like mindless giant warrior things, and then everybody that they infect becomes a stage 3, which has most of their intelligence still, but is now driven by the imperative of the plague, so they can still use weapons and stuff, although most of them are not very good at shooting.
Right. So lots and lots of plastic in the box. You get really 12 of one type, 11 of another. It is balanced because of how the points work in the game.
It's more than balanced.
Plus tons of terrain, plus the awesome mouse pad 2 foot by 2 foot, plus all the counters, plus the rulebook, plus the dice. It really is for $100. It really is a good, solid deal in terms of miniatures, especially if you're a miniature gamer at all. If you're a board gamer, I think you still get a good deal out of this, though keep in mind these are all on the sprue, unassembled. You're going to have to clip it out. You're going to have to glue it. You're going to have to paint it. We don't have to paint it, but you have to at least glue it to use it.
Yeah.
So understand, this is a hobby game in a box. It is not really a board game as most. It's not like Descent where you could paint it, but the game's playable out of the box. This is a game.
You've got to understand that you're not actually dealing with soft plastic like a board game or hard plastic like most war games. You're dealing with that stuff they call restic, which is resin plastic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of soft in the mold, so the details can be a little soft. It's got a lot of flashing that you have to take away, and it doesn't deal. Flashing with hard plastic is awesome. You just scrape it with a knife and it's gone.
Right.
It's sort of like the worst of both worlds with the soft plastic and the hard plastic when you're talking about resin plastic.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of work to prepare these models, to the point where I actually went on eBay and I bought an auction. The primary driving force was they'd already been put together.
So keep in mind though, they look better than your squishy board game plastic.
Yeah, they absolutely
They
do.
look
Once you're
really good,
once
but
you
they're a
put
lot
them
of work.
together, they paint real up. Although I'm also going to say that they don't paint up intuitively, like a quick dry brush doesn't do it really. There's a lot of details you have to go back in and paint, and I think there's a lot there to reward a careful painter, but there's a lot there that might frustrate a new painter.
Yeah, it's not really a newbie modeling system.
No.
You could do that if you're new to modeling, but it's got a little bit more.
could, and I mean, and a dry brush is going to be fine. It's going to look cooler than a board game piece.
Now, what does go together really, really well and fast is the terrain itself, though. I think the terrain is the hard plastic. It snaps right apart, and it snaps right together, no problem, and it dry brushes up. I've painted now, I think I've talked on the show before, 2 full sets of the terrain, and both times I primed it right on the sprue, one with a blue spray paint I got at the hardware store, and one with a P3 primer. Primed them, dry brushed them with a lighter shade, assembled them afterwards, and they look fine on the table, and it was very little work.
Yep.
So the terrain is fantastic, usable for any other game. And this terrain, which also is available separately, I want to say like $45 for a box. $40 for a box.
Depending where you buy it.
It's a steal, though.
It's supposed to be 40.
It's a steal at that price. And it's great for any game. So the terrain alone, if you're a miniature gamer at all, you need to check out this terrain.
Now, the key, though, Russ says it's fast. It's only fast if you're disciplined, because there's so many different options that as you're putting it together, like me, it took me forever because I could do this. I could do this. I could build this. I could do this. And then it becomes a much slower process. But
now,
the options are all there.
Well, one thing, I didn't glue all of mine completely. So I glued mine in sections. So then I have a section that could be a solid 4-walled bunker, or you can split it in the middle and spread it out into 2 half bunkers on the edges of the table, or you can make it one long eye, or you can move. So you can make it sort of pretty flexible, even if you do glue some parts of it, which I really like a lot. So your boards can be very varied. And very stackable, and you get a lot of height on these things, 4, 5, 6, 7 cubes high. Yeah. And these cubes are like 4x4, right? So they're pretty tall.
Yeah, there's a frustrating element to getting into a game at this stage. I think it's unique to the post Kickstarter era, because you're getting into a game where, like, if you think back, Necromunda went through a few revisions after it came out. Warhammer 40,000 went through a bunch of revisions. Oh my God, they're almost on 7. Nobody looks back at Rogue Trader and goes, "Oh man, I can't believe they didn't come out with this, that, and the other thing. I can't believe that." I mean, we look back on that stage with nostalgia and like, "Oh, I can't believe they did that, but that was awesome." And instead, here you're looking at going, "Oh, I can't believe we've only got 4 factions because there's 2 more coming in just 2 months."
Right.
The key here for me though is in the terrain. Because the terrain that's available right now in most stores is what they call the urban terrain pack. There's also the fortified terrain pack, which is a totally different set that looks more like a bunkers and things like that. There's also the landing pad terrain pack that's available only through Mantic right now, which makes a big giant landing pad. And then there's, coming around the bend, there's the ruins that aren't ready yet, that are hopefully going to be shipping later in June, still only available from Mantic. So the key is they were able to do all this cool stuff with a really successful Kickstarter. And you can see, like, my problem is, and it's a problem that if you go on the internet, it'll take you like 5 minutes to find people who have a similar problem. They call it the paintball field problem with Deadzone, which is the terrain that we have right now, because it's all blocky, and there's cool fluff justifications why it's all blocky and everything. But most Deadzone boards look like they're built to be Deadzone boards. They don't look to be like a cool city or what I usually try to build, which is why my Deadzone stuff is not modular. It's built to be a specific thing. And the problem is with just the urban box, there's very little you can do beyond the paintball field look that some people don't like.
I know some people don't like that, and that's fine. Most gamers, though, unless you're a really good terraformer, have worse terrain than this. So,
well, that's true. But this terrain really does look like a paintball field.
Well, I don't know. I think it looks. See, I play a lot of video games too, so I'm used to like if you've ever played. I know, Craig, you have not, but if you ever played Mass Effect multiplayer, where you got all these sci-fi containers, that have landed as pods and you're fighting in them. That the idea behind this is that these pod containers, which everybody uses to get their stuff out to these colonies or whatever, are now being used as buildings and stuff. And actually, Mass Effect did a similar thing in a video game where they didn't have to. They just did it because that was sort of a sci-fi theory, and it works really well. Now here you can tell they've kind of leveraged it because Craig's right. It is obviously designed to be that way. But I come from an era playing in Necromunda, and nostalgically, people may remember the Necromunda terrain looked beautiful, but this blows it away. It's not even close. It
you can do with this blows it away.
It's just awesome. So I would say that what's exciting about it is now there's already great looking tables, and tomorrow, meaning in
the near future,
there's going to be even more amazing things, as you point out, Craig, where they're going to add fortifications and damage pieces and all kinds of other craziness. But even today, you've got a great thing, and you're just going to be able to add to that tomorrow. So I think it's really a great path, and I think Mantic's in a position now to achieve something that other gaming companies have tried with Terra clips and other companies with cardboard and clips, which have kind of been cool. And I like them, but they don't. There's something still a little too not so right about it. This is going to look fantastic when it all comes together, and still be at prices that rival the Terra Clip price points, which blows me away. Really, right?
I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just
I know what you're saying.
For me, I get wrapped up in like everybody knows I want it all,
right?
And now, unfortunately, wanting it all means ordering a crap ton of stuff overseas that doesn't exist. Yes. And in my head, I want. Because you want to have access inside all these buildings. You need to have access because if you think of it, a 2 cube by 3 cube building, if you can't get into it, has now blocked off,
right?
6 cubes of your board, so you can't really do that. The ruins would make that awesome. You'd have it blown out. Otherwise, you're just leaving sections open so that you can get in and out.
Right. And that's where the paintball field comes from, but it also is a practical thing because you get your fingers in there.
And that's why it's a practical thing. You need it to be there. If you had the ruin sprues, you could easily make all these ruins that would make it accessible, but also make it like a cool street scene, which is. I love it the way it is, but I'm going to super love it. I'm loving it in anticipation of this next phase.
There's definitely more coming, and that's what's exciting to see from these guys. So at this point in a miniature game review, we would now dive into the fluff and explain all the factions and how they work. But quite frankly, we don't have time for that tonight. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do a fluff lost chapter on this. And if you want to hear more about the background, the different factions, and our thoughts on the fluff in the game, we will do that another time. So that's what we call a teaser.
That's right.
A teaser. Instead, we're going to get into the game itself. So you can make a decision on whether or not you think the gameplay sounds fun. And you can worry about the fluff involving giant teleporting space turtles and orcs spelled with an X in the future.
Or get angry at us if you're like a fanboy.
Right.
We get stuff wrong. We do that all the time.
Right. We'll make some mistakes in the rules here too, so write in about that all you want.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
We're trying to get it on audience participation.
Right, exactly. So let's get into the pregame setup. Now, since this is a miniature game, part of the pregame is picking your faction and building your list.
Yes.
Now, if you really have two choices going into a game, you can be playing just a one-off game, or you can be playing a campaign game. For now, for the purpose of this review, we're going to talk about a one-off game, but we will highlight a little bit some of the awesome campaign elements of the system too, because one of the parts of this game that makes it really, really cool and compelling, in addition to all the terrain and everything else we talked about, is the campaign system. But
built right into the basic rules.
Yes, but for now, let's just talk about the basics. So here, you're going to pick your faction. Now, the game is designed to be played at 70 points. That's sort of the standard game size. You can, of course, play with less, and they have a nice intro scenario you can download online for less than that. But the normal game is 70 points. That's going to give you 5 to 10 models if you take a smattering of everything. A couple big dudes that are pricey, maybe a pricey leader, a few little guys. You can, of course, go a little higher than that. You can probably get to 10 to 15
depending
models,
on your faction.
Depending on your faction, but you're probably going to be somewhere between the 5 to 15 model range, depending on your faction. A faction like Enforcers will very rarely have more than 7 models because they're so expensive.
It actually can't have more than 7 models.
Right.
That would be all grunts with no leaders or specialists.
Right. Now,
and they're still pretty powerful.
They are very powerful. So now, after you pick your faction and your points, you're going to start making your list. You're going to pick your models out with their cards. Their cards are going to have their stats.
Yep.
You're going to have a deck of mission cards, which are faction-specific, and you're going to shuffle those up and deal yourself 20 and make a little deck of those. So 20 of the cards...
Those are the battle cards, not the mission cards.
I'm sorry, you're right, battle cards. The battle cards, so 20 of them be shuffled up, put aside for your deck. The other 20 will not be in the game. So you actually have more cards than you're ever going to use in a game, and that'll keep a little bit of variety and replayability. You don't really know if you're going to have access to all your skills. And then as Craig said, you also have the deck of mission cards, which is a smaller deck, but what's neat about this game is the missions are faction-specific. So all three of these deck cards, the stats deck, the missions deck, and the battle deck, are all faction specific, meaning that orcs have very different kinds of missions. The marauders, the space orcs, have a different kinds of missions than, for example, the enforcers, the powered armored humans, than the plague does. So you actually start, there's a play style involved not only with the model types in the game, but also the missions they actually try to play through.
Yeah, and the way I like to look at this is, again, going back to 40K, where the Space Marine army that only has 20 guys in it is going up against the Imperial Guard army that's got 60 guys in it, and they're both trying to take 3 objectives on the battlefield. Yeah. So it's very difficult to do with a small number of guys. These missions are actually designed with what kind of forces are going to be trying to achieve them in mind.
Exactly right. So you won't always, it's very asymmetrical in terms of mission objectives, which is neat.
Yep.
Next thing you do is set up the terrain. There are some general guidelines, but you can have a lot of fun here and just get your whole collection there on the board. Remember, what's interesting about this is when you set this up and you flow out that mouse mat, you lay it flat on the table, it's only 2 feet by 2 feet, which initially is going to look very small to us miniature war gamers who are used to 4 by 4
or 3 by 3 or 4 by 4 or 4 by 6.
4 by 6. 2 by 2 is one of the smallest miniature games you're going to play, but keep in mind it's designed to have a lot of vertical height. And when I first started playing it, I felt like it was small and I was going to want 2 mats. Now I don't anymore. I just wanted to go up.
Yeah,
so you don't
going up is cool.
You don't miss the size much, and the movement system really works well at this size point.
Yeah.
Next thing you're going to do is you're going to flip your mission cards, and so your mission cards have multiple little zones in the card, and one of the little icons in the corner is just used to show the kind of deployment you're going to have. So first thing you're going to do, though, is you're going to flip your mission cards to determine what mission you have. And each person secretly looks at their top mission card, and that's going to be their mission. But they could choose if they don't like this particular mission for whatever reason, because maybe the faction they're going against doesn't look very good, or the list they chose doesn't look perfect for this mission they got, or maybe the way the table's set up, they're a little nervous about this mission. You can discard the mission you drew and draw a second mission, but you must keep the second mission.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of flexibility in choosing your mission. After you've got, and your mission is secret. You don't reveal it to your opponent this time. Put it face down in front of you. You've locked in your mission. Now you're going to one of you is going to flip another mission card to shows the deployment zones. And every mission card's got some icons in the corner. They're going to tell you, is it diagonal deployment? Is it long table deployment? How are you going to set up for the mission? That then is going to dictate where the objectives go on the table. So each different deployment type is going to dictate a certain no man's land in the middle of the board. And this no man's land, there's little pictures in the book that tell you where. And remember, because the board is a grid, it's exactly 8 squares wide by 8 squares deep. You can then know that always, if you do diagonal deployment, there'll always be this special zone in the middle, and they've got little X's on it telling you where the objectives go. Yeah. So what are objectives? Objectives are 3 tokens that come in the box, cardboard tokens. You can, of course, replace them with cooler tokens, like Craig has done. Mm-hmm. And at the bottom of each of these tokens is an X, Y, or Z. You shuffle them up so you don't know which one's which, and you put them face down in 3 different locations in the no man's land, as described in the rulebook, depending on the deployment zone card you flipped. The next thing you're going to do is put out the items cubes.
So these are cool.
This is kind of like a video game. So when we're playing a video game, there's all these crates lying around.
Loot drop.
And you get loot drops, exactly right. So this is that part of the game.
See, I know stuff.
Yeah, you did very well. So what's going to happen now is there are all these tokens that come in the game that are double-sided. On the top, they look like a crate, and on the bottom, there are different icons representing the kind of loot that are in the crate. But better than that, there is a blister that you must rush out and buy.
You must get now.
That has cool 3D resin crates with lids that remove, and each lid on the inside shows the icon in 3 dimensions of the items inside. You shuffle up the lids, put them on without looking onto the crates, and then you're going to put the crates on the table to indicate where the loot drops are going to be, which is just awesome looking. So definitely do that.
It's the same ratio as the tokens that come in the game. So you're not changing the game at all, other than adding these cool 3-dimensional resin tokens.
You're blinging out
resin
your game.
Crates.
Right.
You're super blinging it out.
So what's cool about this now is, first of all, each player is going to get to place 2 of these crates without looking at what's inside of them anywhere in the no man's land zone. So Craig will put one down and I'll put one down. And then Craig will put another one down and then I'll put another one down. And now we're done with the no man's zone crates. But wait, there's more.
Now there's some luck.
There's still 4 more crates to put down. So what we do now is one player rolls a D8, and that's going to determine the horizontal count across the board. So Craig will count on the x-axis. Let's say he rolls a 5 across. And then I'll roll a D8, and we're going to count up from his side of the board. Let's say I roll a 3. So we're going across 5 and up 3, and that's a place on the grid, on the board, where another crate goes down.
Loot drop.
So what's neat about this is this makes the crates totally random and do things that you would never do in a balanced game. They might be right in your deployment zone. They might be right in the middle. There might be 2 crates in the same spot. And the rule is when you're dropping them, they always go on the highest point of the terrain. So they can show up like at the top of a tower, car or wherever they end up, which is
or
really
on a
cool.
bridge.
Or on a bridge.
We had a dead body objective on a bridge the other time.
And what's neat about this is these crates then, a couple things. First of all, they're full of items that some of these items are like frag grenades, which are a 3-point item in the game, which is huge.
Yep.
So you can find frag grenades, you can find smoke grenades, you can find extra ammo, you can find armor-piercing ammo, you can find intel, which gives you a victory point in the middle of the game. All kinds of, there are some missions with question marks that give you mission objectives.
And remember, they don't all go out every game. Again,
No.
there's a lot of that in this built into Deadzone where there's the replayability is extended because you're not using everything every game.
Right. So
and it's random.
This adds to the game as well because now you get your the X, Y, and Z things on the table. You got your mission, which is, we'll get to those in a second. And then you've got secondary objectives as well that are on your mission card also. Now what you're going to do is the player who's player 1 is going to choose his side and deploy first, and then player 2 is going to deploy second, but player 1 is going to get to move first. So player 2 is going to get to see what the whole deployment for player 1 is, and then they're going to go second though.
Yep.
So you choose your side, you deploy your guys, your opponent deploys his guys, and then you get the first turn. Now one more thing before you start. The last thing you got to do is get your command points. So based on some keywords on your guys, number one, are they leaders? Are they tacticians? Are they strategists? You're going to get some number of command tokens that you're going to get. And these command tokens are one use per game things, kind of like soul tokens in Malifaux. But basically think of them as once per use tokens in the game that's going to let your commanders do some really cool stuff. So hang on to those.
Or try to,
right. Nothing's automatic in this game. And then we're pretty much ready to go. We're all deployed. We're ready to rock. Sound right, Craig?
Yep, sounds good.
So what I like at this point is your missions are secret. You don't know. So one of the things about your missions could be, because before we start playing here, the first point is, as I like to say all games, how do I win this thing? The way you win this is the first player to 10 victory points is the winner, period. Yep. Or when one player runs completely out of cards, no cards in his deck, no cards in his hand, the game immediately ends, and whoever's got the most victory points wins.
Yep.
So each player's got a mission card, right? And these missions can be different things. Some of them will say, find the Z objective and control it. Some of them say capture the Y objective. Some of them say capture Y, capture X, control Z.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of them have nothing to do with X, Y, or
But then
Z.
a lot of them have nothing. So the X, Y, Z objectives being on the board, both players could have nothing to do with those, but they're always there because you never know what your opponent's doing.
Yeah.
Some of them are kill the enemy, and you get different points depending on the point value of the enemy.
Sometimes and sometimes not.
Some of them are steal items out of the crates and get them off your side of the table.
Yep.
Some of them are infiltrate, which
so
is,
you have to escape off the other guy's
part of the table.
deployment zone.
And some of them are combinations. And the thing is, when
usually there's
you keep
combo,
your card face down, and as you do anything that might imply you get a victory point, you put it next to your mission card. So if I kill one of Craig's guys, I might pick him up and put him next to my mission card and say, aha, Craig, I've got one of your guys dead. Even though it may not give me any victory points, I put him there to make him think I might. And I might have a guy standing on the Z objective. I might need the Z objective. I might not need the G objective, but just be guarding it so Craig doesn't get it. Or maybe I'm trying to bluff and make him think I'm going there when I'm really doing something else. So you don't really know what the guy's up to. You kind of know the myriad choices of objectives, but you don't really know. And there's one other really cool one too, which is survive, which is every round of the game that you have more than half of your forces left, you get a victory point as well. Yep. So there's all kinds of cool things that you're kind of trying to build towards. And as soon as you think you have 10 victory points, you reveal your mission and say, Craig, I've got you. And we both pause and we look at it. If I've got 10 victory points and I declare my mission first, I win. Even if Craig turns his over and realizes he also has 10 victory points, he loses because I revealed my card first. Yep. So you got to keep your eye on that. Now, if I've revealed my card and I do not have 10 victory points, I don't lose, but my card is now exposed and Craig knows what I'm going for now and he can actively work to stop me.
Yep.
So you want to call that out just at the right moment when you think you have your opponent.
Right. And now to talk just a couple seconds about what we mean when we say that the missions are tailored to the forces. I am holding in my hands here the Rebs mission deck. The Rebels are relatively low armored. There's going to be a lot of guys. They're not great at shooting. They're basically like a rebel militia. And their missions usually are things like a lot of scour. Scour is you open the crates, take what's in them and get it off the board. It's very difficult because almost everyone in the game can only carry one thing. Mm-hmm. And once you leave, you can't come back. So but they also have access to guys who are scavengers who can carry 3 things. But that's a very weak model otherwise. So there's all kinds of cool balance issues there. A lot of scour, lots of kill, and a lot of survive for the Rebs. So they're trying to sort of hunker down and keep everybody at bay while they do these other missions. And so they're very seldom as a rebel are you getting points for killing people.
usually you're getting points for infiltrating or getting stuff off or getting information and stuff like that. So it's very cool, tailored towards the force you've got.
Guess what the orcs like to do, Craig?
They like to kill things.
They like to kill things. Wog. Yes, they do, baby.
Yes, they do.
So the orcs like to kill stuff, although they also like to capture objectives and kill stuff. That's also a thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how to play this thing. So we know what we're trying to do. Here's what's interesting about this game. And this game is pretty chock full of the innovative mechanics, Craig. The first one is this game has integrated turns, which we talked about before. Integrated turns means that I'm not going to move my whole force and do my whole turn with all my guys, and Craig does all his. I'm going to move some number of my models. Then Craig's going to move some of his. Then I'm going to move some more of mine. Craig's going to do more of his. And then once we're all done, we're done. Now, there's a lot of games that use this. Spartan games use this. Other games use this too. It's becoming more and more common. And Craig and I, over the years, have developed a few sort of subtle tricks about this with integrated turns. One of which is Craig and I both like to use this trick, which is save your good models to move last and try to. So I've got to move something first, let's say. So I'll move something really crappy. I don't really care about some little dude and try to stall to see where Craig's main guys are going to go so I can counter his main moves. Craig also will do this. So generally the guy with the most models is able to kind of watch what happens in the battlefield and only act with his most powerful guys when he needs them most.
Yep.
What's interesting about this game, a couple things. So when you activate models, you can activate more than one in your turn. In fact, you can activate as many models as your total combined command stat on your commander. So all the models have like a little command stat, and it's a hyphenated number, like 2-1 or 1-1 or 2-2 or 3-3 or whatever. For the purpose of this part, those numbers mean different things, but for now, you add them together, that's how many models you can activate in your turn. I don't have to activate that many, though. So if I got a 2-1, it means I can activate 3 guys if I want to. So why would I want not to? I might want to activate them all if I've got a really good moment and Craig's got an important guy exposed and I can get all 3 guys to fire at him or do something to him before Craig gets a chance to counteract. Or if I want to stall for time, I might activate only one guy. But here's the catches in this game, which are sort of neat. First of all, one of the deals is that if my opponent has more guys left to activate than I do, I can always pass. Which means that if Craig outnumbers me with a lot of weedy get models, I can still stall and wait to see what he's going to do before I do it if I've got a very few models in my warband left. If I've either got a lot of guys through death or just have a lot of expensive guys. So you can't play that game of a bunch of weedy models to distract from the main movement of the troops trick in this game so easily. But you might not want to do that because the second part of this is the guy who gets done activating all his models first automatically gets initiative in the next turn to move his first models first. So now there's an incentive to get done first. So I've got a tough choice to make. Because if I want to get done first, I get that first action next turn because things are coming to a head and we're really kind of facing each other down in the middle of the table. I want to get done sooner. So it's not as easy a decision in this game as I've found in other of these types of games of whether or not I want to stall and be activating last or do I want to activate first. Craig, did you find that to be the case too?
I find myself rushing to try to activate all my guys so that I'm first next turn.
Yeah. Right, I know.
And I think that I think tactically, once we get a few more games under our belts, we'll be finding a happy medium and not having a knee-jerk reaction, or me anyway. But right now I have a massive knee-jerk reaction where I want to get everything done so that I can automatically know that I'm going to get initiative next turn.
Yeah, I found that what's starting to help me avoid doing that is I found that I forget this game has Overwatch.
Well, the Overwatch is key, and I haven't used
now that I start to use Overwatch more, because if you get lucky, Overwatch can happen more than once. Your guy doesn't always lose it, which all of a sudden means he can be pretty nasty in the right situation.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm starting to use that more, and I'm finding that is a handy little treat. Even if you go last, let's say, and you know you're not going to get turn 1 next turn, just go on Overwatch because you're ready for him when he goes next turn. So it's a interesting thing. But yes, there's a lot of tactical options in this game, very, very many, and it takes a while to get used to them all, for sure. But not very complicated, as we'll see in a second. So basically, I'm going to start activating some guys, then Craig's going to activate some guys. We're going to go back and forth to all of our guys have activated. Okay? Yeah. And activation is fully using the model. So that means moving them, attacking them, pick something up, whatever you're going to do. It's all your actions of that guy. So let's talk about how the actions work. All right? So what's going to happen is each model gets essentially 2 actions. You can take 2 short actions, or you can take 1 long action. Now, here's the trick in this game, though. Some games we have multiple actions. You can take the same action twice. Not in this game. So in this game, you cannot take the same action with the same name more than once in a turn. Okay? Unless it's a free action, which is a little more complicated than that. But basic action is that way. So, for example, there's a basic action called move, which lets your model move 1 cube. Now, one thing to remember about this game is diagonals are totally legal, and it's cube, not square. So if I want to move up and diagonally up, like 1 if I want to move straight ahead and up to the next level, I can do that as long as there's something that looks like I can climb between here and there, right? So I can, or I can just move straight on the ground. I can move straight up in the air if there's a hole to climb through or a ladder to climb up, or I can move back and up, diagonally up, basically any adjacent cube that I could somehow climb up something to get there. Or if I have a jetpack with the force, just go up there, I can get up to the next level. So move is basically one cube in any direction. And when you move a guy, you place him anywhere inside the new cube you want to. And we'll get more about the details of where in the cube you want to put your guy when we get to shooting.
Right.
Okay, so there's actions like move. That's it. But I can't do a move. I can't move twice because it's the action with the same name. But what I could do, I could choose to do a long action like sprint. So what sprint lets me do is it's a long action, it's both actions, but it lets me move 2 cubes, but here's the rub. They have to be at the same level. I can't climb up or down.
Right.
So if I sprint for 2 cubes, I can do that, but I can't go head one and then up one. It has to be 2 horizontally, right?
Yeah.
There's another long action, for example, climb, which doesn't let me move horizontally, but lets me move vertically twice. So if I'm trying to get up a really tall tower and there's ladders or stairs I can climb, I can go straight up to. So I can basically move 2 cubes in one turn if I'm moving in either vertically or horizontally. If I want to do both, I generally got to do a basic move action.
Yeah.
That makes sense? And movement's pretty straightforward. You just move from one cube to the other, and you just pick your guy where he's going to go. So there's no pesky, break up the tape measure, find exactly how far you can go. Did you move an extra half inch? I think I saw you move an extra half inch.
I don't think we have to denigrate tape measure use in order to sell the game.
Just saying, none of that's in this game, which I like.
All of a sudden, he's this
some board gamers
opponent of
I'm
tape
just
measure.
pointing out some of the things that the cube helps with, because there is some downsides to cubes. You got cubes in the board. Now, so that's basic movement, right? So let's get to shooting, because that'll help us with the whole movement thing.
Right.
So, we should say one more thing before we get into this. So while you activate a model, you can also play one card on that model. So there are 2 kinds of battle cards in the game. There are battle cards of the start. Well, let me back up.
And these are the cards that you're going to have 20.
Right. At the start of your game, you get 20 of these, and you draw 4.
20 random.
And you draw 4 into a hand. We forgot to mention that, too. So at the start of the game, you draw 4. So you got 4 of these cards in your hand.
Yeah.
Each of these cards is split into 2 different options. So there's a top option on the card and a bottom option on the card. And at any time, you can choose which one you want to use when you're going to play the card. Each action has either a star or a skull, or sometimes both. A star means you can use it during your turn on your model. A skull means that you can use it as a reaction in your opponent's turn. Okay?
Yep.
The one rule to remember is you can only ever play one card per model activation. You're basically playing it on the model who is activating. So and usually you play at the start of his activation. So you can say, okay, I'm going to activate this guy. I'm going to play this star card. It's called move. It gives me a free move as an action. So basically I can move one guy a free cube and not use one of his short actions to do it, which is very handy if you want to then sprint, or if you want to then shoot twice or something, or shoot.
Yeah. And now this is another way where the decks are really cool, and they bring in even more differentiation by force, because the decks are specific to each force, and so some forces are going to have more moves, some forces are going to have more close combat, some forces are going to have more distract, which is a really cool one.
Exactly right. So these cards are really
they're another really cool element to this game.
So that's your move. So you play your card, and you're going to do one of your actions. So you got your 2 shorts. So let's go into some other short actions. So obviously the second common action you're going to be doing is shooting. What's not so obvious about this game is there are 2 different ways you can shoot. There's an action called shoot, and the fluff behind this action is you're aiming your gun very carefully, and you're going to try to blow someone away. Okay,
shoot one particular person.
So basically think about it as a single shot. So let's say I've got a semi-automatic weapon, like an M16 type sci-fi version. I've got it on a single shot. I'm going to shoot you and try to kill you.
Yep.
Or the second type of shoot action is called blaze away, which is basically flipping the gun to full auto, and I'm going to yell, "Banzai!" and try to suppress you. I think you have to
now, keep in mind, they both have different names, so you can do them both in one activation.
Exactly. I could shoot and blaze away. I can't shoot, and I can't blaze away, but I can shoot and blaze away. Yep. Now, I'm more likely there's another action called aim. So aiming gives my shoot, not blaze away, by shoot stat a better chance to hit. So I am pretty likely, if I really want to make sure I get this guy when I'm trying to kill him, I might aim then shoot. That's the combo to use if I didn't have to move, for example.
Right.
And that just gives me bonuses on the shoot action. So let's talk about the shoot action. So shoot action requires classic line of sight. What do I mean by that? You got to get down to model's eye view.
Model's eye view, baby.
In this game, I really like it. It's a 2-foot table, so you can sit really low. It's not very big. You get right behind your guy, and you're seeing what the model sees. And the rules are very clear on this. If I can see any part of your model, even just his little antenna sticking up or his earlobe sticking up behind, any part of him means basically the guy's speaking out around the corner, and I can shoot him. Okay?
Yep.
But here's the thing. If I can see his entire model, meaning every single bit of his base, every single bit of him, including his antenna, no part is even the slightest bit obscured, I get a huge bonus to hit him. So here's the deal. When you're placing your model in your cube, there's a couple things to remember. If you can keep him completely on a line of sight of your opponent, then they can't ever do a shoot action against you. If you got him partly out of line of sight of your opponent, then he can't get the bonus dice to hit you.
Yeah,
in
which
the
is
open.
huge.
If you're in a cube, though, with any kind of cover, you get better defense dice because it basically means your guy's diving for cover using the cover's advantage. Even if the model's not actively behind, as long as he's in a cube with some crates in it or something, he can use.
Now, have we said yet how you actually hit?
Good question, Craig. Let's get into that now.
Let's do that.
Let's talk about the basic mechanics. So this is a D8 success-based dice system. So what's going to happen is, if for most tests, you start with 3 dice. So I say, Craig, I'm going to shoot your little rebel dude there with his rifle. I'm going to shoot him with one of my orc commandos.
Not my Z scavenger.
Exactly. Your Z scavenger. I can see him. He's partially obscured by that lamppost.
But he's tiny.
Right. So here's what I do. I get 3 D8s. And I look at my model's shoot stats. So on my cards, there's little icons. There's one icon with 3 bullets. That's my shooting stat. There's an icon with a fist. That's my hand-to-hand combat stat. There's an icon with a health symbol. That's my survive stat. What I'm looking for right here is my shoot stat, the 3 bullets. And that's going to tell me the success number I need on each of my D8s to get a success. So it happens to be when orcs shoot, they need a 5 or better on a D8 to get a success. So I'm going to pick up my 3 dice. Now, if Craig's guy is in the wide open, so there's this little table you look at for each action. For example, there's modifiers. So if Craig's guy is in the wide open, I get plus 2 dice to my pool. Oof. So I've gone from 3 dice to 5 dice. And if I've done an aim action first, I get another die to that pool. So now I'm at 6 dice. So if he's in the open and I aimed, I'm throwing 6 dice. I've just doubled my normal dice pool.
Ouch.
Okay?
God forbid you get a +1 shoot card to use.
Right. And if I happen to play a shoot card, just +1, like I might say headshot, +1 shooting die. And don't forget, in this game, almost all modifiers don't affect the numbers you need to succeed. They affect the number of dice in your pool. Okay. Right. So it might say +1 to shoot, so I get another die in there, and then it might also say -1 AP, which means that I get armor piercing because I'm aiming for the head. So there's cool cards like that. Yeah. So, but let's say for a minute I just got 4 dice because I've aimed and I rolled my 3 dice, and that's all I've got because Craig's partially obscured. Yeah. Now Craig's going to get a pool of his defense dice. Yeah. So Craig's going to get 3 dice to start, and let's say he's in a cube with cover, he get +1 dice. So even if he's not directly behind the cover, but there's cover anywhere in that cube, he gets +1 die, which adds some interesting things, because if his model's completely wide open, I get the +2 dice for me to hit him, but if there's any cover in the cube at all, his guy could be like dynamically diving for, Craig gets +1 on the defense dice. It's kind of neat.
So the cover is actually dealt with in this game in both directions, right, which is very confusing the first time you try to play. And when I've taught it with people, they get, I don't get how come I'm not getting those 2 dice, or I don't get how you're in a cube, but like I can see you. And well, the key is, even though you can see most of me, you can't see all of me, but and then there's negatives in the other direction. It's really, really cool, and it all works.
It works, and actually after a few times, you'll be like, this is really slick how this works, because you find yourself being scared pantless on a bridge with no cover. Right. You're like, the apps, because there's so much stuff in this table, there's so much terrain, it's very rare to get that wide open, I can see your entire model. So that bonus 2 dice is huge.
5 dice is a lot of dice.
So always err. You should always be erring on the side of, if any part of that model is obscured, you don't get the bonus dice. It really needs to be that the guy's just wide smoking open, which doesn't happen often, but it does, you can just tell, which is great.
And it's very clear in the book, and one of the many cool things that's very clear in the book is if you're shooting at somebody who's above you, you can never get those 2 bonus dice, because you're never going to be able to see all of them because they're on a platform above you. Right. So even given that angle, at the very least, you're not going to see their angles.
So here's what's going to happen. So I've got my 4 dice. Craig's got his 4 dice on defense. I'm going to roll my dice looking for my shooting statistics. So mine's 5+. So I'm going to roll my 4 dice. Let's say I get 3 5s. I had a good roll. Okay.
Ouch.
Craig's got to roll a survive stat now. And his survive stat's going to be, he's looking at the number.
It's bad.
What's your survive stat on your guy, Craig?
The Z scavenger's survive stat is a 6.
Okay. So Craig's going to roll his 4 dice because he's got 3 dice base +1 for being in a cube with cover. Ooh. And he's hoping to get some 6s. How many did you get, Craig?
I got 2.
Okay. So I got 3 successes. Craig got 2. Look at the difference now. So the difference in the successes means that I beat him by 1. So I'm going to do 1 damage point to him. However, now we go to Craig's armor. So if Craig's got armor, he will reduce the amount of damage by 1 per point of armor. So would you have any armor, Craig?
The rebels armor up their Z scavengers. I have 1 armor.
Ping, so it bounced off. He took no damage.
Yep.
Now, a couple things to look at here. If I had, the interesting thing about this game is there are no wound stats in this game. Okay. Yep. All models, no matter how big or scary, have 2 states, wounded and dead. So if I had done, let's say I had gotten 2 more successes than Craig had got on defense. So let's say I had rolled 4 successes and Craig rolled 2. I'd have gotten 2 successes on him. So I've got 2 chances to wound him. He's got his armor blocks 1, but 1 gets through, so he goes to the wounded state, and we would wound him. Now, another thing about this scenario, I just described that I had gotten 4 successes and Craig had gotten 2.
Yeah.
I have doubled Craig's successes.
Ouch.
So you look at the ability you're doing, because there's things called doubling and tripling in this game. If I double your successes, special sort of like critical hit type things kick in. And if I triple your successes, other things may kick in depending on the maneuver I'm doing. On a shoot action, if I double you, the target also gets -1 to his aggression stat. He's pinned. So Craig now has to knock his model down. He's now pinned. Pinned is going to require Craig next turn to spend an action, one of his short actions, just to get unpinned. Now, what's neat about this game, though, is there's a core rule that says whenever a model must be moved, like put on its side, the owning player can put him anywhere in his cube. So when you get pinned, you can actually move your model somewhere else in the cube, so it's harder for people to see him. It's kind of cool.
Dive for cover.
Dive for cover, which is just a fun little fluffy thing to do. So that's a cool stat, too. The doubling and tripling is really slick, because some of them do things like if you double or triple a save in hand-to-hand combat, you get extra attacks and extra moves, or you can get out of the way. If you double or triple a grenade save, you don't get pinned, things like that. There's all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. We should take a moment to also talk about the aggression levels in this game. So in this game, there are 4 different sort of readiness states, right? Out of the box, your guys start out at what's called ready. They're normal.
Yeah.
Their first...
what is it?
I think it's alert. I think it's what's
alert.
called.
It's alert.
So they're alert. They're ready to go. That's normal. Okay. If they get a -1 to their aggression, then they go to pin. So you just knock the model on its side. That means he's pinned. If he gets -1 aggression again, he then goes to suppress, which you put a marker next to him. And now it takes an entire long action basically to unsuppress yourself, to unpin. So you're basically going to lose a whole turn with that guy. Yeah. If, though, you're already alert and you go up an aggression level, so you get mad, because there's actually a core short action called get mean. Yeah. And getting mean is how you go up on aggression level. So if I'm pinned and I want to get up, I'm like, I'm going to get mean, and you stand right up, right? If you are already alert and you do a get mean, you go to aggressive. Is it called aggressive? I think so. Enraged. Enraged, which puts a little red token on your guy. Now, Enraged gives you bonuses in hand-to-hand combat, but it makes you not as good at shooting. Basically, a guy's all amped up on adrenaline, he's having trouble aiming carefully, but in hand-to-hand combat, he just does that much better.
I don't think it makes it good for you to dodge incoming fire either.
Maybe not.
I think that's another negative.
So think of it as like the Olympic biathlon in Winter Olympics. When you get all amped up, it's hard to aim carefully. So that's a really cool mechanic, because basically what ends up happening is when you're going to charge in hand-to-hand combat, you want to sort of get mean and get all aggressive, but then after you started fighting hand-to-hand combat, it's hard to calm yourself down and be able to shoot effectively directly again.
Yeah.
But the Enforcer faction has a really cool core rule for most of the guys, which means they can get mean in reverse and kind of calm themselves down with battle discipline. So that's really a cool fluffy thing where they have more control of their bodies. So they're better in hand-to-hand combat and better in shooting at all times than like other factions once they get. And there's also a rule that says once you injure somebody in hand-to-hand combat, you automatically get angry. It's just like you get amped up on adrenaline. You can't calm yourself down, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the only people who can do that are the Enforcers.
Yeah. So that is shooting, and that's the core mechanics of all things in this game. So, for example, there's another shooting action called Blaze Away. Now, this is a very different kind of action. This is where the cube system really comes in its own. I can pick a cube anywhere I can see any part of the cube. So I haven't seen any models in it. I can see parts of the cube.
Remember, that's 3 inches straight up.
Yeah, so I can see the cube. Let's say there's a window. Now, let's say Craig's got a guy in this 3rd-story window, and he's got him positioned so I can't see the model at all, but I know he's in there. And so I can shoot, and I can see the window. So I can shoot and blaze away at the window. Now, the fluff here is Craig's guys occasionally...
He can't shoot at the window. He can blaze away at the window. I can
blaze away at the window, right. Sorry, good point. Yeah, so I'm blazing away at the window. I'm trying to suppress the guys in that window. I'm trying to say, stay down, don't get up, you're not going to be able to shoot me next turn. And the fluff here is, even though I can't see him, Craig's guys are probably occasionally peeking out the window. If I'm spraying that window, it's causing trouble. Yeah. So blaze away, you attack a cube, not a model. Now, what's cool about this is it gives you an area effect attack against the enemy. So if your opponent has bunched a bunch of guys in a cube, you can blaze away at the entire cube and suppress an entire cube of guys, which is fantastic. Yeah.
So first time that happens is generally the last.
So you definitely, even when the enemy doesn't have like big grenades or big explosions, you don't want to put your guys in the same cube.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you do is when you're going to do a blaze away, it's the same sort of thing. You get 3 dice base, but then you get bonuses, again, based on any special rules in your model or any card you might play, or based on what you're doing. Now what's neat about Blaze Away is you can have other models join in on the Blaze Away action. You can actually have other models activate, And when they do, they add +1 to the blaze away. So you can have like a whole team of guys going back, and just blowing away the cube.
They're basically spending their entire activation, though,
supporting
just adding
one
that
die.
single die.
Right.
So and this is key also because unlike shooting, there's no aim to add a die. The only way to add a die is with the weapon type that you're using, which is also on your card.
Yep.
Or a battle card, or these guys supporting you. So it's hard to get your blaze away dice up there unless you're using a weapon designed specifically for that, or you're backing it up with a bunch of cards.
Right. So when you do blaze away, though, you're really trying to suppress. You're not shooting to wound here. So what's interesting about this is, so I'm going to get my success dice pool, and it's going to be based on, there's no wide open bonuses for blaze away, anything like that. You're just trying to shoot the cube. So I'm going to roll 3 dice plus any bonuses for each additional guy helping, or maybe I've got a weapon with a special rule, with weight of fire, for example, which could throw some extra dice in there, things like that.
Weight of fire adds 1, and Firestorm adds 2 dice.
Right. So I'm going to throw let's say 4 dice. Craig's going to again make a survive check, but now he's going to do it with every single model in the cube. Now here's what's interesting. In Blaze Away, it's all about whether I single, double, or triple you. It's not about how much I beat you by. So if Craig rolls 3 successes and I roll 4 successes, I beat him by 1, so it's still only a single. If that happens, he goes down 1 aggression level. So if his guy was angry, he now becomes alert. If he was alert, he gets pinned. If he was pinned, he gets suppressed, right?
Yep.
If, however, I double him, so let's say he rolls 2 successes, but I roll 4 successes, now he's got to go down 2 alertness levels. So he goes from, so if he was already alert, now he goes to pinned, and then he goes to suppressed. If I triple him, he goes down 3 alertness levels. Now here's the rub. If you go down more alertness levels than you can, so let's say the guy starts already pinned, and I double him, so he goes from pinned to suppressed, and I got an extra one to go down, but he doesn't have any more room to go down. Then for every one he can't go down, he takes a wound. Yeah. Which your armor can still save you on, which is good, but he takes a wound.
It's hard to kill somebody with suppressive fire, with blazing away, but you can do it.
You can do it. And what I found a way to do this is to have multiple models blaze away. So the first guy blazes away, tries to get the guy fully suppressed. The rest of the guys start blazing away in there, and if they can do well against the guy, they will eventually do some damage to him. Now, one thing to remember, what's interesting about this, and very counterintuitive until you think about it, if you are in cover and someone blazes away at you, you actually lose a defense die.
Yeah.
Which you're like, why would I lose defense dice in cover? Because if you're being shot at to suppress and you're in the open, you are less likely to stop running because you're like, oh God, I'm in the wide open. I got to get to run. The guy's shooting at me. If, however, you are in cover, you are more likely to duck down and be suppressed if someone's blazing away at you. So it's kind of interesting. Right. And it works really well. And it does become very, very hard to wound with suppression because it's not, you don't get a wound per difference in your success rolls. You get a wound, you get the number of suppressions down for single, double, or tripling. So it's really, really hard. The other thing that makes suppression hard to wound with is there's a card called Steadfast, which is a reaction card that most decks seem to have. And Steadfast lets you ignore all alertness reductions from one attack.
It's a brutal card.
So if I'm like, woohoo, I just tripled you, Craig, eat that, dog. He's like, yeah, whatever, I got an alertness, he'll do nothing to me. It's like, And so some of the factions in particular, like the Orcs and the Plague, who are really like, just so aggressive they're not mentally prepared to be suppressed, you have a lot of those cards and it becomes very difficult to suppress them.
Yeah.
So it's not a tactic you can count on, but what you can do, and what's interesting, is if you have a lot of suppression dudes, you can fire them early and try to draw those cards out, and then try to get the big hits later and suppress the heck out of somebody. So it's an interesting mechanic, and it is very powerful when people group up as well.
Yeah,
Don't
and the
forget
key
Blaze
is
Away.
that most standard weapons can do both.
Right.
So, like, there are like a chain gun can only blaze away, and a sniper rifle can only do a shoot. But most regular combat rifles can do either.
Right. And so that's pretty much the core mechanics, of the game and how it works in the big ones. The other one we should talk about is how hand-to-hand combat works. But what I like about this game is
same rules.
Same rules as everything else. The thing to remember is when you move into a cube with an enemy unit, you get a free fight action, which is basically a hand-to-hand combat attack. And that works the same as we just talked about with shooting, except that for the attack roll, you're going to look at the guy's fight stat, the little fist, and on defense, you can choose either your survive stat or your fist stat, whichever's better for you, right? Yeah. And you're going to roll the same thing. The difference does damage, except you're going to look for doubling and tripling because those things will cause you to be able to get some cool free stuff. If you triple on survive, you'll be able to run away or get a free strike. If you triple on attack, you'll be able to like do what the old school 40K was like a sweeping advance. You can actually swing again, or if you killed the guy in your cube, you can move into the next cube and get another free attack. So you can kind of chain it along there pretty good if you get really, really good in hand-to-hand combat. One also thing to remember about fighting is there's all kinds of bonuses. Each maneuver's got all its little bonuses in the book. There's bonus for having friendlies in the cube. You can do cool things like suppress a cube with fight going on in there, and then have your guy get up and run the hell out before the other guy gets up. All kinds of neat stuff you can try to pull off. One other move we should talk about though before we move on, because there's lots of different moves in the game, is the command long action. Right, Craig?
Oh yeah.
So the command long action is one of the moves your commander can do. It's the long action is going to be his entire turn. And when he does this, he's going to roll a number of dice equal to his combined command stat, which is, again, those two numbers added together. And you're looking for sixes here. It doesn't matter what your skill is. You're always looking for sixes. And depending on how many of these get, your commander's going to be able to do something pretty cool. If he gets minimal success, if he gets one, he can basically have one of his own guys who haven't acted yet take a free short action.
Yep.
So maybe you got a dude that's got a good gun. You really want him to shoot an extra shot this turn. You sacrifice your commander's turn to get that free shot. Or you need him to move an extra turn to get closer to the enemy or whatever. There's also, though, and as you do more of these successes, there's cooler things you can do. And it also increases the range on the board from like a couple squares away.
Mostly increases the range.
Anywhere on the board. There's also a distract thing where your leader basically gets on the thing and roars or whatever he does fluff-wise. And you can pick an enemy model and he counts as activated for the turn. So you can basically make an enemy miss a turn. All kinds of cool stuff. So the command action, check those out very carefully. But when you make this roll, if you fail your command roll, nothing happens and you still sacrifice that model's turn and you spend one of your command points, and they are very valuable. Having 2, 3, or 4 of these is a lot for the entire game. So as you spend them, they're gone for good. So you got to be careful about the command action.
But it's cool because what you're rolling and you're looking for sixes, right? Mm-hmm. And you're rolling the number of dice of your combined command score. So some of these high level commanders are going to end up with 5 or 6 dice.
Right.
And all you need is 1 success to get something off and 3 successes to make the most grand gesture you can. So these high-level commanders can really leverage their command, whereas the lower-level commanders will find it much more difficult, and it'll be a much harder choice to take that chance.
And what's neat about it is I like the game balance here because A, it's not automatic, and B, you have these guys and it's like, aha, I just distracted your 18-point heavy las cannon dude with my leader. You can't activate that turn. Take that. And I look back and go, yes, and you just had a 22-point model do nothing to do that.
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of balancing it out. So it's cool, but it can be, depending on the tactical situation, it can be a huge game changer, and it really feels fluffy. It feels commandy, like your commander's distracting the enemy or getting your guys to do most out of your squad or whatever it is he's doing. It's really, really cool.
It's very elegant. I mean, it does a lot of cool things on the board without adding pages and pages and pages of rules.
Yeah. So that's the core mechanics of the game. You play through with those success system, moving your models around, trying to find the best spot, hunting in the crates, trying to get the objectives until one of you finds the 10 points. And it's just very cinematic the way the grenades work. They'll blow your model to another square. There's falling damage rules, and the guy plummets 3 or 4 stories down
and
to his
weapons
doom.
that'll knock them down.
There's weapons that'll bash you off the top of a building. There's all kinds of great mechanics around just making it all work, all using that very simple success system. And the only part that's a little bit fiddly is you got to go look up each of these different rules to look at the modifiers, because the modifiers for each individual action are all different every time. But you'll learn them pretty quickly.
The reference sheet is key.
Yes, and after 2 or 3 games, you'll have it down. Most of the common actions like blaze away and shoot, you'll have figured out. That's the core stuff. Basically, high-level stuff real quick. We should talk a little bit about list building. It's very straightforward. It's 70 points for your list, as we mentioned. You can have as many leader types and troop types as you want. The rest of them, though, you can't have more of anything else than you have troopers. So if you have 4 troopers, you can have some combination of specialists and rares and uniques, but that combination can't exceed the total number of troopers you have.
Right. And the rares, specialists, and uniques are no different in list building than any of the other ones that are not troopers or leaders, but they come in with all the missions because quite often a mission will have you specifically targeting the other guy's specialists.
Right.
Or the other guy's rares or whatever.
Now, also what's cool is what I like about this game, too, is there's several different items you can buy. Remember those crates full of items you can find? Well, you can also buy some of those items before the game starts. And it's a great way to fill up your list points when you don't quite have enough to make it exactly to 70. So you come in with all of a sudden you've got 68 points and you got 2 points to spare. There's all kinds of generic equipment you can buy and assign to a model. For example, I can buy, it's kind of like War Gear in 40K, but it's just you buy them for that battle. So like I can buy some extra ammo, which means like when I blaze away, I can spend the extra ammo and throw 2 extra dice on my blaze away attack. Or I can find armor piercing ammo, which gives my AP1, which means I can ignore that point of armor on Craig's guy when I shot him and beat him by 1. Now I do a wound. But I got to spend the ammo before I do it. So I got this 1 extra special armor-piercing bullet I'm carrying around, for example.
Frag grenades.
Frag grenades, which frag grenades are awesome in this game. There are 3 points to buy, so you can buy them before the game starts. But you find them, it's like you get that little exhilaration. Woohoo, I've got a frag grenade. There's even personal defense shields. There's all kinds of crazy cool stuff. Cloaking devices, you name it, it's in there someplace. Which is just awesome. So there's all kinds of good stuff there.
Glue grenade, one of my personal
the glue
favorites.
grenades in there. We're going to do fluff later on the factions, but there are a lot of great faction differences and so much room to make the factions feel very unique. First of all, those stats we talked about, the survive stat, the orcs have a 4+ survive stat.
That's brutal.
You feel that. The orcs just don't take wounds easy. They don't, and because of survive stats against suppression and against shooting, they're hard to suppress, they're hard to wound, they're orky tough, which is as it should be.
And this is, I think, one of the easiest cheap shots this game can suffer from gaming hipsters, if you will, is the fact that there aren't multiple wounds. Everybody's got 2 wounds, and that's it. Or, some people only have 1 if they're vulnerable.
Right.
And the key, though, is between their survive stat and their armor stat and an ability called tough or really tough, which ignores wounds also. It's so hard to get that wound on some of these models that it feels that big giant armored turtle is a lot more difficult to get 2 wounds on than my little Z scavenger. And it really feels, it streamlines it. It's much easier. There's not a lot of tracking. It's just, is he healthy, wounded, or dead?
Right.
But at the same time, because of the stacking of these abilities and the armor and things like that, it is much more difficult to get them to the point where you're taking a wound. So you still feel like the big giant orcs are much harder to take down than the tiny little weedy guys, even though everybody notionally has 2 wounds.
Yeah, it does work. And I was worried about the 2 in the beginning, but I've lost that worry together. The tough guys do feel tough. And you look at them like, I can't stop that thing as you pour ammo after ammo round after ammo round. And you do get lucky shots sometimes. Sometimes you get lucky and, I get a shoot, I'm aiming, I did a headshot, I roll 5 dice. Oh, we forgot to mention too, 8s explode.
Yes.
So
they don't count as doubles, but you get to reroll
right.
another
So if
die.
I roll 5 dice and I roll, 4 successes and 2 of those are 8s, I get to roll 2 more dice into the pool and add what they get. If they get 8s, I roll 2 more dice. So there are times when you fire at that big turtle and you get 7 successes and he rolls 1 success and he dies. It happens, but it doesn't happen.
Full disclosure, Russ is really good at that.
But it doesn't happen very often. And it normally what ends up happening is you fire and fire and fire and that freaking turtle just won't die, which is right because he's a freaking turtle.
Big giant armored
So
turtle.
you do find the
Teleporting
tough guys are
armored
tough.
turtle.
Craig had one of those too. He shot my leader turn 1 and just aced him.
I did.
But again, other models can pick up the slack, and I came back and pulled that game out because there's
Yes,
enough
he
other
did.
things you can do strategically because of the tactics of the mission. Don't give up just because one of your main models die. You don't need them to win.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. What I like about this game a lot is there's all kinds of cool tactical things you can do to save the day.
And there's all kinds of cool stuff we can't even cover. There's all kinds of the nooks and crannies are all full in this game. There's one thing, if you all of a sudden mathematically can't achieve your mission, then there's a rule where you can reveal your card, prove that you can't mathematically complete the mission, and then your mission becomes kill the other guy.
Right.
And it's sort of like a hold action. You're killing the other guy, hoping the game ends before he can get to 10 victory points. So that's one example of many of the cool layers that's settled into this game.
And what's also cool, I love the campaign system, which we don't have time to get in details on. Maybe we'll do this in a future episode or talk about it again. But the campaign system is so sweet. So how it works is normally your list is 70 points, but for the campaign you build a 140-point list. You don't have to own all the models for this 140 points. This is sort of like the guys back at your home base, right?
Yeah.
And the thing though is you have these unlocks. What do they call the unlocks, Craig? What's the official term?
They call them clearances.
Clearances, thank you. So you only get 3 clearances to start. What does that mean? When you buy your initial list, all you can buy are core troopers, right? But you can pick 3 unlocks.
And ammo.
You can pick 3 unlocks. An unlock is anything else. So if you want that guy with a flamethrower, he's an unlock. If you want your leader, a certain leader type, he's an unlock. If you want any
turtle.
Other,
the turtle is a clearance.
He's an unlock. So that's 3. So you can have 3 different types of models beyond the troopers, and that's all you can unlock. And then you've got to actually spend the points to have them in your reserves. And then as you level up throughout the campaign, you can spend your reputation, which is basically a point system, to then unlock more cool guys. What's also cool, though, is in addition to buying your army and your home base, you also buy your starting equipment. So maybe you got a few regular ammos. Maybe you use the clearance instead of unlocking another model to unlock frag grenade items. So now you can have frag grenades in your home base. What's really cool is as you scavenge on the board and find things in crates, whatever you don't use and get off the table with goes back into your supply back at home. Whatever you do use comes out of your supply. So now you're double incented to try to survive because unlike fighting to the man in a non-campaign game, you're like, well, my guys are starting to do well. I'm doing okay. I've got a lot of experience. You get experience for each guy you kill. Maybe I don't care about getting this mission objective anymore. I've just got some really guys have learned the good stuff. I've got some good stuff out of crates. I'm going to leave now and let Craig get this win because tactically I'm in a bad spot. I'll come back some other day and have a better situation. So you think more like it's a little more realistic thinking than just I'll just throw my models away and die and see what happens this game, Right. So it's really cool. And there's a whole leveling system where you guys can learn new skills, learn abilities. But what's also great about it is as you do that, there's a built-in system to increase the point value of that model.
Right.
So if I've got, like I was playing Tim, he had a stage 2 guy that was just awesome, and he named him Steve. So as Steve leveled up, first of all, no matter how many victory points or experience points Steve got, after each battle, you can only level up once. So he couldn't erase ahead 5 levels and become super powerful. Second of all, as Steve leveled up, he became more points. So in our next 70-point game, if he took Steve was really cool, but he was also worth more points, so he would have less other models in his list.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that problem where
you're just going to take the same list all the time.
You take the same list all the time. It doesn't change, and yet you guys become overpowerful. And if I'm just starting the campaign, or if I've had a rough campaign, I'm outforced. I'll just outmodel you now. You may take all these elite veterans, but you're going to have a smaller list than I have, and eventually I'm going to start killing some of those veterans. You're going to lose some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really cool campaign system. I really like it. It seems to be pretty balanced and avoid some of the problems we've seen in game systems like Mordheim and Necromunda, where things just get out of whack pretty quickly.
Right. My favorite part of the campaign system, which is actually something you can incorporate right into your one-off games, is instead of having 2 mission cards and you choose one, with the campaign you have to do the mission, but you build your force after you choose your mission card.
Yeah, I like
which
that.
is very, very, very Malifaux.
Right. Yep.
And it actually explains it in the rule book that this is the way we would like you to play, but we don't feel like war gamers are ready for that. So instead, we feel everybody comes to game night with their forces already set up, which is too bad that they're not more conversant with weird miniatures, because they probably would have bitten the bullet and jumped into the deep end on that one. Because I really like the idea of you get your mission first and then you choose your models, because you are far more likely to field a more varied force every time you play, as opposed to having that go-to build that you just use every time.
Well, it's awesome in the campaign because now you've got that one guy who's maybe picked up the scavenge ability to pick up 3 things until you get a mission that's scavenge. You're like, well, I'm definitely bringing Frank.
Exactly.
Even though Frank might die. But if you got a mission with no scavenge, you're going to leave Frank at home so he stays safe.
You're going to name them all, too.
You got to name them all. You got to. So yeah, and the campaign's got a little bit of that. You're going to track every single model's kills because each gets 1 XP per kill. But it's fun because you're tracking all that stuff, and it makes it a little mini RPG, which adds a lot more depth to it. So if you like that sort of stuff, this game's got that. You don't need to play the campaign mode. You can just play the one-off games, but it just adds so much more depth here. So this is really a wonderful game. We got to get to our final thoughts now because I know we're going long, Craig. So before we get to our final thoughts, though, Craig.
Yes.
Craig, in the style of an enforcer commander announcing that your planet has been locked down and declared a dead zone.
Okay.
Please describe the patent-pending D6G rating system.
Okay.
Citizens, please note that the nav beacon to your planet has been shut off. All access to the datanet has been shut off. Yes, in fact, we have declared your planet a dead zone. Please do not be alarmed. All of your access to emergency services has been shut down. All of your information has been shut down. However, the best military forces the corporation and the Council of Seven have at their disposal are on their way. Not to help you, but to remove the damage so that we can continue making money for the corporation. Each one of these infestations has been graded based on a scientific principle come up at corporate HQ. We will rate the infestation on a number system based 2 through 6. And we're going to basically make it just to make it confusing to you, because having these ravenous mutant demon creatures chewing on your ankle is not already confusing enough. We are going to make it so that the lower the number, the more severe or the more intense the infestation. So if the infestation is really, really bad or really, really engaging, it's going to be like a 2. Whereas if it's not so bad, if you give it a take it, maybe it'll be a 6. To make it even more interesting, citizens, we are going to add a halfway point system, which we will then call a reroll. And those of you who are in the accounting divisions, please do not contact us for the mathematical improbability of said mechanism. Thank you.
All right, Greg. Well done, Greg. I will let you recover. I'll do my my final thoughts
do
first.
it first.
That was a great summary of the D6G patent pending rating system.
Yes. So basically, the lower the number, the better we think the game is.
Right.
The more likely your average gamer will be to like it.
Right. So my thoughts. First of all, I love the table. I love those looks on the table. I initially thought it was a little small, and so when I was at Adepticon, I bought 2 mats. I don't regret it because I can have a second mat now. We can have tournament night and stuff, but I don't anticipate needing the second mat for a long time to come. Also, I love how elegant everything just works on one mat. The fact that, the 2 D8 rolls can give you a coordinate anywhere on the map for placing things. It just is really, really clean. I love the movement system. I love how easily it handles vertical. I thought the true line of sight was going to be fiddly, but because the rules are pretty much, if you can see everything, rule X applies, and if you can see any part of it, rule Y applies. It makes it very simple. You end up not having to look too closely most of the time, because most of the time you can sort of tell that model is completely exposed or not at all. I love Blaze Away. I love the Blaze Away rule. I think the cubes give you that nice suppression thing that so many other games try to incorporate somehow, but don't generally do it well. It really gives you that feeling of just blazing away at a square and using your guns. The game can get a little fiddly. We didn't talk about this, but like when you throw a frag grenade, it actually ends up being several rolls. So you roll to hit, and then after you hit, you roll for the effects of the frag, and after the effects of the frag, you roll to where to scatter each model, and then you roll for the damage in each adjacent cube. And there's a lot of guys there. It could be several rolls back to back trying to figure out where everything ends up. So you do get that sort of old school gamery multiple roll system in some cases, but it also leads to really cinematic moments as you watch the guy fly off the edge of the building, fall 3 stories, bounce off half of a thing, land in the story below, and as he falls by, he's able to pick up an ammo item as he falls, like Captain America grabbed a thing when he almost slid off the top of the hover jet. So it's really cool. Just very cinematic. There's rules for falling. There's rules for if you get slammed into a wall. There's all the rules you'd expect are there. I also love the faction specifics. I love that there's orcs. I'm an orc fanboy from way back, so having these space orcs back is awesome. And it's got the wackiness in the orcs, but it's also got the very seriousness of the enforcers and the seriousness of some of the other factions. It's got a little bit of that 40K love with that little those wacky factions there, but in a rule mechanics I really like. It is the game that I wish Necromunda was, but it's okay. So 20 years later, we're able to get a game that really does have the heart and soul of that game, but brought into the modern age with better production values, better terrain, and a better rule set, and a campaign system that you can get behind, get into, and not worry about getting really out of whack. Now, we haven't played enough to know it may get really out of whack, but so far what I've seen, there's enough to keep it close to make it fun if you're playing it casually. So yeah, I this is really a great skirmish game. The only dings against it, I would say, is some of the rules can get a little fiddly. There's some rule debates in the middle there, here and there, around certain interactions with certain weapons and stuff. But they're pretty good in the FAQ so far on that. Most of that's been answered. The other thing about it is the models, as Craig mentioned, some of them, the mold lines are a little rough. Assembly's not as easy as I would like. Some of the joint locations, you could tell they tried to make them so they fit together perfectly, but they don't quite, not all the time. It's not going to come out of the mold quite right. So there's a few of those. So assembling my guys took me a little longer than I would like. But that said, I'm really happy with how they look. I like them on the table. Very happy to paint them up. And this is a great miniature game. I don't think it may not be a beginner's miniature game, although I'm sure beginners get into it, but it is a fantastic miniature game. And I'm going to say this is a 3+ with a reroll. for any miniature gamer out there. I think any miniature gamer really like this. And for a board gamer who's looking at getting into miniature games, even with the steep cost of model building, I'm going to say this is a 4+. I think if a board gamer has any interest in miniature war games, this, even though I just said it's a hard one to start assembly on, I think the enforcers aren't too bad. I think this could maybe not. I think this could be a good starter set. Where our local friend just tried this out, and he was able to get his stuff assembled pretty quickly. So I think this could be okay. I'm going to give it a 4+ to board gamers, but I'm going to give it a 3+ with a reroll to miniature gamers. If you are a miniature war gamer, you need to check out Deadzone. It is a fantastic game. That's my thoughts.
Well, there are a lot of good points there, Russ. I agree with most of them. I love Blaze Away. I love that suppression is not some incidental thing that we've tried to nod to, but it's actually a viable tactic that many infantry specialists will tell you in real life is really what firefights are quite often all about. And it's built into this game where there's this acknowledgement that is a viable tactic to use, is to just blaze away and try to keep their heads down while you go about your mission. I really enjoy the board, and I didn't think that kept the grid system kept me out of this game throughout the Kickstarter, which I never went in on, but I was on the page every couple days watching it as it went up and up and up, and oh my god, the terrain looks cool, blah 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 blah. But the grid, I don't like grids, and the grid system kept me out of it right up until Russ got all his stuff at Adepticon and made me do the demo, and then we started playing here, and the grid really does disappear because it's a cube system, not a grid system, which is it's a fine distinction. It's a bit parsing, but it really makes all the difference. It's not an abstraction where all of my guys are in this cube, therefore they are in this cube. Where you are in that cube really matters, and it's not a question of, okay, so this turn I have a move or fire weapon, so I'm gonna move a little bit because I'm staying in the same cube. No, if you move that model at all, that model is moved. It had to take a move action, even if it stayed in the same cube, because where you are really, really matters. It matters because of cover. It matters because of line of fire. It matters for all kinds of cool line of sight and getting shot with a grenade and all kinds of cool stuff. So I really, the grid disappeared for me and became a cool mechanism by which all these other cool things, whether it's suppression or frag missiles or frag grenades, all these other cool things are now taken care of without templates and all this other stuff that might lend itself to an argument. In this game, it's like very clear, okay, that cube's affected, this is what's going to happen. It does get a little fiddly, like Russ said. Using a flame weapon is extremely fiddly, I think.
I love it though.
It's neat, but it's okay. First I'm going to try to hit. Okay, now I hit. Now I'm going to set you on fire. Okay, now I'm going to set you on fire. What happens when you're on fire? You can get down to 3 or 4 rolls, I think, somewhere along the line with fire. And a lot of like the frag grenades and things like that are similar. But I really, really like it. I do think that it can be very frustrating at times if you get the wrong cards in your hand, or if you don't have the card you need. There is an element of frustration that's sort of not built into the game, but it's there for sure. If you have like I love those moments in a game where you've got that Hail Mary shot and it's do or die and you've got it and boom, okay, you got it. It's very frustrating when the guy can just throw down a card and go, oh, by the way, I have this card, so that whole shot didn't matter at all. That's a very rare instance, but it has happened several times.
Well, and we didn't mention this either, which we should have, which is that at the end of the turn, after both players have activated all their models, you then draw more cards into your hand, and this is where that hyphenated command value comes in. So if it's 2-1, for example, you get to draw 2 cards and keep 1, and the one you don't keep goes to the bottom of your deck. But so really powerful commanders like the 3-3s draw 3 and keep 3, and because you can play a card in pretty much every one of your models per turn, you can burn through your cards really quickly and actually control game length. Because remember, if you run out of cards, the game ends if you have a higher value commander. Yeah. So the cards really control the game as well as have those little moments. And you're right, Craig. The Blaze Away is not reliable because of cards. So it could be a reliable way to kill guys because once you suppress them fully, you blaze away again, triple them. They take 3 wounds, and nobody can survive 3 wounds in this game. So you got to wound them.
Well, they could actually survive 3 wounds if they had really tough and 1 armor. There's all kinds of combos where 3 wounds isn't.
But it's really rare. It's really rare to be able to absorb 3. I guess you could do it.
And in any run of the mill enforcer has armor 2. So
that's true. But they're not normally tough. So you could get 3 is usually what you need to make sure you're going to wound a guy, except for the really high end guys. Yeah. So and remember 2 wounds kill. So if I blaze away on you with 1 guy, then blaze away with you another guy, and you've already been fully suppressed, there's decent odds if you don't roll well that I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
So steadfast lets you get by that, but it does make you. But Craig's right. You will get frustrated until you start to know what your opponent's deck has in it, what to expect. You just got to expect that. Oh, there's an even money that he's going to have steadfast, or there's an even money he's going to distract you.
But with that said, the frustration is still going to be there no matter how well you know the other guy's deck because
it's true.
He's got 20 cards out of 40 that he's playing with. Neither of you know what's in there.
It's kind of like
he could have all or none. Yeah. And there are certain forces, for instance, the Rebs, which I chose off the bat. Their weapons are biased towards blazing away.
Right.
A lot of their models only have it's called a rapid fire weapon, which means all you can do is blaze away. And a lot of my guys have rapid fire weapons, which is limiting when there's a card out there that's like, oh, I ignore your, Well, I have a guy who's awesome. He throws 5 dice stand and still doing nothing special, and then you add all kinds of stuff to it. Flip a card and you're like, oh, but that ignores everything that guy just did.
This is what Tim did to me, right? So he blazed away at me. He stripped my hand.
Yeah.
And as soon as you see your opponent has no cards, you know you have him. So it's like moments. It's kind of like Malifaux, where the guy's could be sitting on a red Joker or whatever, so you know you can't get him. But once you strip his hand, he's screwed. So there's there's a metagame.
Right. There's depth.
Going on.
There's depth there for sure. So I would say we've done some reviews or talked to some designers, Mac Martin, for instance, who is key on saying that I want to remove all of the frustration away from the game, which of course you never can do because there's always going to be frustration or what do you like playing unicorns and roses. But there have been moments where I've been like, oh, I put up this perfect, and then it just doesn't matter. They're not common, like I said, and they don't ruin my game. But there have been those moments are in there. I like I said, I love the game's look not for what it is, but for what it will be a couple months down the road, which is a sad position for me to be in, but ideal for anybody who's probably listening to this podcast in a couple months. I'm really looking forward to where it's going. They're these awesome dreadnought looking guys, they're called Striders, and all factions have these big giant walker models that are coming out. There's mono bikes that are coming. There's all kinds of cool stuff. I don't know how they're going to work on a 2 foot by 2 foot board, but you got to have some faith because so far they've been able to pull everything off. So I'm enjoying this game immensely. I'm all in. I'm now painting 2 more factions so that I will have 3 full factions, trying to decide if I need to decide between the next 2 or if I should just get them both.
Just get all of them.
I'm probably the only one that I don't really feel the draw towards is orcs, which is odd because I have done orcs.
That's okay. I got enough orcs for both of us.
Yeah, you've got enough orcs for everybody.
Welcome.
And by WOG, you mean WARG.
Yes.
Which is not copyrighted. Yeah.
Right.
I'm having a blast. My reservations completely melted away. And I think this is everything Russ said. This is a great skirmish game. It's really solid. I do think it's a great entry point. Those enforcers are not easy to put together. They're a billion little pieces and they're true scale. So they're not like big chunky space marines or whatever. They're like, tiny little heads that are separate from their tiny little torsos, which are separate from their tiny little arms. And you're really kind of just like guessing as you put them together. There's no labeling. There's no how-to online, so it's really kind of hard. And I'm not convinced at all to this day. I've been doing this for over 25 years, and I had the box beside me as I was trying to put them together, trying to guess like which arms went with which. I think if you don't do that, you're probably better off because all the arms probably work with all the guys, and so you probably get a more varied and less stressful experience by just finding left and right, boom, left and right, boom, left and right, boom.
Right.
They are restic or whatever. You can't use plastic glue is the key.
Right.
You have to use super glue.
And I recommend super glue gel because it'll stay where you put it long enough for you to get stuff in. But it looks cool. It's an interesting world. It's an interesting concept. And I'm gonna go party line with Russ. I'm gonna go 3+ with a reroll for any miniatures gamers out there. And I'm going to go 4+ for board gamers who are looking maybe to get into miniatures.
Nice. Well, there you have it.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game.
Deadzone. Rush out and get yourself a copy. Should be in stores everywhere.
That's Deadzone, citizen.
This, did you ever notice, is brought to you by all of the fine patrons over at Patreon. Thank you guys for all your support, and in particular this time I'd like to thank Benjamin, Bob King, Richard Hudson, John Mitchell, and Jason Wagoner. Thank you guys for jumping on our tiny little bandwagon. And if you're not a patron yet, why don't you go head over and check out patreon.com and search for the D6 Generation, or go to the D6generation.com and click on the Patreon button and just check it out. Check out the video. You can laugh at us if you want, and you can, let's give a little tip for each episode and help us make it even cooler and better and go to cooler places. And it's really fun, and it lets you be part of the show. We've got a forum over there where we chat. We've got all kinds of other stuff, which of course we talk about at the beginning of every show. So thank you guys for supporting the show, and everybody else, just go ahead and give it a try. Would really appreciate it. Did you ever notice how the weatherman seems to be connected to the Chamber of Commerce? At least that's what my dad used to always say, and I always thought that was pretty paranoid. But as I get older, I start to notice things, and over the course of my life, I've noticed. I've lived in Florida. I've lived right on the beach in North Carolina. I've lived right on the ski mountains of Vermont, and I've noticed that, you know what? My dad was not entirely wrong, because these weathermen and ladies, they are very cagey with their weather reports, and they very seldom will give you a definitive report on inclement weather in any kind of a scheduling situation that will let you do alternative plans. It's not going to hurt the local business, in other words. So they're not going to say, "Yep, it's going to rain." I mean, they do, of course. It's hyperbole. Just roll with it. Anyway, so it did bother me when I was living on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and they would do that. And I always thought it was really kind of crappy for a business who had information not to give you the information you need because it would hurt their business or somebody else's business. And of course, in gaming, the great perpetrator of this is Games Workshop, who still holds things really tight to the chest, but used to hold things really tight to the chest, to the point where, you wouldn't know what was coming out from one week to the next. And still, some websites and stores don't know. I don't know who they do or do not talk to, but it's kind of crazy. And so it really bothered me. Even back when I was a big Games Workshop fan, and even when I worked for the company, it would bother me that we would know that there's another edition coming out, but we weren't allowed to talk about it. They wanted us to sell as many as we could before the new one came out. So, you're buying this edition this week, and we're not supposed to tell you there's a new one coming out next week. Of course, some of us did, but, whatever. And so it would always really bother me. And that kind of comes up today. Because today is a sad day for me on a couple different levels. It's the day of the first time I've ever pulled out of a Kickstarter. And it's particularly troublesome to me because it was a Kickstarter I was super excited about. And of course, you guys know by now, longtime listeners know what an addictive personality I have. And so I jump into these things and I go in whole hog. And that's exactly where I was. I was in whole hog. And the Dust Babylon Kickstarter. So of course we're talking about Dust, the war game, and what comes after Dust is the point of my story. So there's this huge mystery, right, about what is going on with Dust Warfare. And it really hasn't seen any growth. There haven't been any books since last year when Fantasy Flight gave up the license or transferred it or whatever happened to back to Dust Studios and, of course, Battlefront, the makers of the fine World War II game Flames of War. So we're talking big players all around, right? But nobody seems to know exactly what's going on with Dust Warfare. There's all kinds of speculation, and of course we're gamers, so half the people who are speculating are convinced that they're telling the truth and they know, they know the gospel. A few people have dug a little bit deeper. Alex over at Unit Forward in unitforward.com. He actually went and he got an email and he did a little email interview of John Grams, the Senior VP of Business Development at Fantasy Flight. Got some information from him, which seems to corroborate information that people have been getting from Battlefront. Unfortunately, none of that information really talks about the future of Dust Warfare. All it says is that Dust Warfare cannot be touched while Fantasy Flight still has product on hand. So they've got left are books. They don't have any models, but they've got they've got the rule books and all the books. And until those are gone, apparently, or some undisclosed time period passes, Battlefront and Dust Studios can't do anything with Dust Warfare. And this came out over the course of the Kickstarter, but it didn't come out in a way like, nope, we can't do anything, but we're going to as soon as we want. We're gonna do our best. Dust Warfare is gonna be right there with us as Dust Tactics and Dust Warfare side by side. Blah 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 blah. It's clear to me anyway, and this is opinion. This is not fact. It was clear to me on the comments section of the Kickstarter that there was no commitment to Dust Warfare. All of the comments that we got from the Dust Studios creator account were things like, well, we can't do anything because Fantasy Flight Games still has the rights and they have the rights and we're not allowed to do anything. There was not once in the entire comment section, and today I went through the whole thing to make sure before I pulled my pledge out. Not once did they say, but we're going to be running as soon as we hit the pavement. That was a metaphor that fell apart completely. But you get the point. There's just been no energetic support. Not only is there no energetic support, but they're really pushing this thing called Dust Battlefield, which is like Dust Tactics, but you get to play it on a real miniatures game board. So instead of being the really rigid, abstract board game, which Dust Tactics is, as much as some folks don't want to admit it, it's not. The placement of the models, other than what square they're in, matters not at all, as far as I've been able to tell. Like line of sight is from. I mean, it might give you some cover. I'm not sure, but I've just never enjoyed the game Dust Tactics. I've tried. We got that awesome. I don't remember your name, and I'm going to kick myself because I could have researched it ahead of time. But you know who you are. You gave us an awesome demo at Adepticon with awesome models on an awesome board, and it still just wasn't my game. Whereas Dust Warfare is a game that could easily rival Warhammer 40,000 if it really got out there and somebody was promoting it. And sadly, that's not the case. And so today, after numerous attempts of all the Dust Warfare guys, like, could you give us something? Where's it going? They're like, well, we made the cards and we put cards in the models and that's all we can do until blah, 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 Fantasy Fight, blah, 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 some undisclosed future time. And it's not enough. And they were really, it was like pulling teeth getting that much information. And so I had to pull out, which broke my heart because I love, like I said, I love Dust Warfare. I think it's a great game, but it's simply between the fact that it just hasn't seen any action locally in so long. And now the fact that I really, really doubt that it's going to be getting any love from Battlefront or Dust Studios. I didn't even get the impression that they liked it. There wasn't there all when I did a find search of the entire comment section today for Warfare, 99% of it was how Warfare players could trade out their tactics stuff, which is great. I mean, and they're like I said, they were bending over backwards on that Kickstarter to try and make it good for everybody. So please don't think this is like an indictment of them for their Kickstarter. This is just, I wish somebody would tell me this game I love is going to be supported in the future. And the fact that that wasn't stated was just it. You know, I couldn't put that much money in. I had $300 riding on that Kickstarter, and I just couldn't do it. So I pulled it out, and it hurt. It really hurt. It physically hurt. I think I broke something in my chest. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. You got the information. Give it to the people and let them decide. And if you made a you made a mistake with your product in a warfare warehouse or whatever, you know, you're gonna have to suck it up. Be smarter. And let the people decide. That's all I'm saying. That's all I've got to say about that. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I got 4 more days before school's out. Thanks for listening, and good night.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
All right, level check. Check one. Sibilance. All right. I think we're good.
Up, down, up, down. Up, down,
What the?
down, up, down, down.
What are you, a cheat code?
Down,
What is
up,
that?
down. I don't know.
What that is. All right.